Lariette Blanche has made a terrible mistake. She believed she was going to die of an illness in 3 months, so she made sure she did everything she wanted to during the time she had left. But now, sitting in her doctor's office and hearing him tell her she isn't terminally ill, Lariette is not happy. In fact, our female lead is panicking. Why? Because, like I said, she has done a lot of things during this period, including seducing the most powerful knight and warlord into confessing his deep love for her. This is why she isn't relieved to find out she is healthy. At this moment, she wishes she could just die. The doctor has no idea of the mental crisis she is undergoing and is happy to see her pulling her hair in what he thinks is happiness. Lariette angrily asks him if she looks happy to him. Flashback to 3 months ago. On a random morning, Lariette feels a bit sick and decides to visit the doctor in secret. She tells him her symptoms. She can't sleep at night, her stomach feels bloated after eating something spicy, and her heart feels like it is beating too fast. Dr. Zakoskov doesn't do any more checks after hearing this. He looks sad as he immediately tells her to keep calm. He breaks the news that our female lead is suffering from a terminal illness called Rockadura disease. People with this condition are born with an excessive amount of mana. He tells her the disease is incurable and only occurs in a small fraction of the population. He has even worse news for Lariette, as he says she has a 98% chance of dying from this disease. In other words, our protagonist has only 3 months to live. Lariette is so shocked she can't even walk or think straight. She doesn't know how she got home. When she does, she dramatically falls on the ground, leaving her maid to drag her across the carpet like a lifeless doll. However, this can't stop our girl. She is determined to leave a mark on this world before she dies. And so she comes up with a plan to make a list of all the things she wants to do before she dies. Lariette is in her room with her maid. She is still thinking about her bucket list and has decided to do it. Using her mirror as a microphone, she asks her awestruck maid what she would do if she is about to die. Anna doesn't want to die because who will take care of her mistress if she does? Lariette is feeling touched, but Anne bursts her bubbles. She says Lariette can't even comb her own hair properly, making Anne too worried to die. Our female lead isn't happy to hear that and starts sulking. Back to the topic. Anna's dream is to taste all the different types of cakes before she dies. Lariette feels this dream is too wasteful, but Anne says she was just joking. She is done with dressing up her mistress and pushes her out for dinner. Even though she doesn't want to go, Lariette is still pushed out by her maid. It turns out our female lead doesn't have a good relationship with her family. Her father, Duke Blanche V, is one of the founding contributors of the nation, but his business has crumbled since. Because of that, he plans to sell off his daughter to an old but rich marquess. Her mother, Duchess Blanche, is no better. She married the Duke for money and therefore shares his opinion in selling her daughter off. And then there is Lariette. The three are having dinner when the last member of the family comes in, Ryan Blanche. He is our female lead's elder brother, whom their parents adore. From a young age, Ryan has been receiving different types of lessons as the heir. Lariette, however, never got the chance to have any education or support. All she was taught and learned to do was paperwork, so she could assist Ryan. Back at the dinner, Ryan is not acting like an elder brother who is pleased to see his sister. He asks her what she is doing there with a frown. Lariette says she is part of the family and is therefore allowed to be there. She also reminds Ryan to pay more attention during his successor lessons as his teacher, Sir Joel, has been having a hard time. In her mind, our girl thinks she would have done a better job than her untalented brother. To our shock, someone turns a glass of wine over her head. It is Ryan, and he says she has ruined his appetite. He demands for her to leave or he won't eat. Their biased parents immediately start blaming Lariette. Her mother even tells her to go back to her room and clean herself up. Our female lead stands to leave. She looks back at the happy family, wondering if they would even care if they knew she was going to die in 3 months. This incident just makes Lariette more determined not to keep living like this. She has to do everything she's ever wanted during the time she is left. After all, what is there to be afraid of since she is going to die? And so our jolly female lead goes off to write her bucket list. Her list is simple. 1. Give cake to Anne. 2. Save money and gain independence. 3. Break off her engagement with the Marquis Segreve in a polite manner. 4. Date a handsome man for only 3 months. And 5. Travel to the West, which her brother has been bragging about. Lariette doesn't want to have any regrets in life. All she has ever done is be used by her family, and so this time around, she wants to experience living for herself before she dies. She needs to do it. It's a brand new day, and our female lead has started out on her list. She is sitting with her maid Anne, who looks completely satisfied and is glowing. It turns out Lariette has managed to complete the first goal on her list, which is to give Anne cake. She is happy as they return back home in their carriage until something unexpected happens. Their carriage gets stuck in a hole. The coachman apologizes and tries to check on it. The girls are curious to see what is going on and stick their heads outside. While Anne notices another carriage is coming, Lariette is thinking of how to use her magic. However, her maid seems frightened as she stops her. She tells her to wait, making our girl a bit scared too. She doesn't know what is going on. Anne informs her the approaching carriage belongs to Duke Candle, so she needs to stay inside. It seems Duke Candle is considered a fearful existence in the kingdom. He belongs to the strongest family in the empire, but is also known as a monster. Right at that moment, their carriage begins to shake. Lariette is startled and looks outside, only to see the sexiest pair of eyes staring back at her. The man has a mask on his face as he stares back at her. Meanwhile, our girl is in awe of his beautiful, majestic appearance. No, sorry. That's me. She is surprised because he managed to lift the entire carriage with his bare hands. She assumes he is the coachman, and can't help but give him a thumbs up and a bright smile as he leaves. Back at home, our heroine's day has just gotten worse. Why? Because an annoying individual has shown up. She thought she could go home and rest, but now her supposed fiancé, Marquis de Greff, is here. He grabs her hands and begins to kiss it repeatedly. It seems this isn't enough for him, so he tries to grab her and forcefully kiss her. Our girl is becoming mad, as she had no idea he would visit her at home. She remembers the third point on her bucket list, which is to break off her engagement with this annoying old man in a polite manner. She has a good feeling thinking she can also complete this today. It is then she realizes what the old man is saying to her. He keeps talking dirty about how he would never let her out of the bed if he marries her. He says he loves her pretty face and loves the way she pushes him away. It just makes him want her the most. He calls our girl a good return on investment. And it was at that moment Lariette knew she would be completing her third bucket list point. However, there will be a slight difference. You remember the point said to break off the engagement in a polite manner? Well, scratch that polite bit out because our heroine activates her magic and is about to destroy that annoying and disgusting old man. Go, girl! We are given a bit of a background on Lariette. The Blanche family always gave birth to talented witches, but the one who would have had the most impact on the century was our female lead, Lariette Blanche. She was born with exceptional magical talent, which never got to be trained because she never received the education she needed. Not a smart move by her parents. This was all because her older brother and the heir, Ryan, was jealous of her magical talent. Back to the scene. Even though Lariette has never received an education, she self-taught herself and also had occasional lessons from her teacher who took pity on her. And now she has turned those efforts on Duke Sigrev. The old man looks frightened, but there is nothing he can do. He is wrapped up by tree branches and is left hanging upside down in the air with a red face. Lariette doesn't care if he is mad and warns him. She is only going to say this once. She has no intentions of marrying him and wants to break off the engagement. She calls him a vermin that treats others like money. At that moment, Laurie's uncaring parents arrive. They rush to rescue the Marquis, but the old man still ends up falling on his butt. The Marquis is so humiliated, he vows never to forget this. He doesn't pay attention to Duke Blanche, who tries to convince him to forgive Lariette. Instead, he calls off the marriage deal and leaves angrily. Yay. Lariette isn't paying attention to the farce happening in front of her. Whether it is the parents who are trying to sell her off, or the Marquis who is willing to buy her, they all disgust her and make her sick. Her mother starts yelling at her for ruining things. Lariette says she only feels sorry she broke it off so late. If she had known, she would have done it sooner. No sooner has she finished speaking than someone slaps her across the face. The Duke is angry and says they are going bankrupt, blaming everything on her. Lariette reminds him he was the one who put their family in this situation in the first place, so why should she have to pay for his mistakes? None of them cared about her or loved her, yet she sold herself so they could live a wealthy life. And what did she get in return? A slap to the face. Her mother unwisely tells Lariette that the clothes on her back, the food she eats, and the bed she sleeps in were given to her because she is their daughter. It comes with a price. Lariette reminds her mother of everything she has done. She managed the financial books and other related matters on her mother's behalf. She visited the manor on Ryan's behalf. She even went as far as agreeing to get married to pay off her father's debt. Her father asks why she decided to ruin everything now by not going along with the plan. He says she must have forgotten her place and therefore decides to disown her. He wants to remove her from their family registration. Her mother doesn't agree, but Lariette is satisfied with this. She tells them it was just a piece of paper and it isn't important. What she was most afraid of was being removed from their hearts. But it seems she never had a place in it before. She gives them a bow. Her father is still shouting at her not to take anything as she leaves. She is about to head in when an annoying person comes by. It is Ryan seeking to make his presence known, even though Lariette doesn't want to have anything to do with him. It seems he has come to take revenge for her humiliating him at dinner, boy who poured wine on her, and ruining the peace of the family. Poor Ryan. He believes his sister cannot use any form of magic and is prepared to use magic to humiliate her. He sends huge balls of fire at her. Lariette isn't moved because all it takes is a simple spell for her to undo his magic. Unfortunately for him, even the little she knows is still enough to make her stronger than him. She leaves him buried in the earth with only his head poking out. You go, girl! Enough of the sad part because our protagonist has begun her journey to independence. Thankfully, she managed to convince Anne not to leave with her since she is going to die soon. She has managed to complete 3 points in a day and has just 2 points left now. Date a handsome man and travel to the west. Of course, our girl has an image of the man she plans to date in mind. He should be hot, with 6 packs, seductive, charming, the kind of man only found in books, sadly. Just thinking of those men makes Lariat and Yude smile. She hopes to date someone with lots of dating experience so it doesn't get too serious. But she can't fulfill her dream of raising a pet boyfriend and living a wasteful life if she doesn't have money. She only has little cash on her and must now find a good job. For that, she will do what she does best. And so she boldly enters into a shop, expecting a warm welcome because the Purification Witch is here. Purification magic is unpopular because it takes up too much mana and is not as efficient as healing magic. Purification and healing magic cannot be used on someone with a higher level or on oneself, just like divine power. However, this is not a problem for our almighty heroine because all she has is mana. Unfortunately for our poor baby, she is rejected. It turns out there are millions of healing witches out there, so no one looks for purification witches. Our dear Lariat is so shocked. All color leaves her. She is called a nuisance and is kicked out like a round ball. It is at this point Lariat has finally realized she is in trouble. She decides to visit another mercenary recruitment office. Because she is not concentrating, her bag is suddenly snatched away by two men. She panics because that is all the money she has. Although she tells them to stop, they refuse and mock her because they aren't afraid of purification witches. That is, until she sends fire attacks on them. Although they are scared, they don't stop, and our girl cannot chase them any longer. She starts calling for help. Up ahead, a man in a suit is taking a stroll. He turns around when he hears her voice to reveal an extremely handsome male. Up in the skies, a god is looking at the perfect specimen of human he just made. It is so perfect, even the god blushes a little just looking at him. He thinks it is a pity to give such perfection to we lowly humans. Please, we beg you, bring him. But decides to anyway. And so, we have our piece of artwork made by God, our extremely handsome and noble male lead whom God never planned on sending down. Thank you, Abba. The two thieves are shocked when the man turns around. Not because he is handsome though, but he smells like decayed flesh. The dark aura he gives is enough for them to know who they are dealing with. It is Duke Candle the monster. The Duke doesn't waste time in stabbing the two men, and grabs Lariat's bag for her. Looking at him, she recalls seeing him before. It was the Duke who lifted up their carriage, and not a coachman. Azrahan Kandel is the Duke with the highest status in the Harutian Empire. He is also the greatest general, and always comes back victorious, even at wars they are about to lose. Because of this, he is called the Empire's sharpest blade. However, people only know him as a warlord that loves violence. Everyone except our female lead, that is. Lariat is excited by how gorgeous he looks. He smells a little intense, but it's okay because he is handsome enough. She is even trembling with joy because she believes she has found her perfect match. With his face, he must have dated a million times before. Also, because he is a cold man, he surely won't hesitate to let her go. Duke Candel has no idea he just became someone's prey. He examines Lariat and thinks she might be a noble. He notices she has no guards around. He finds it a waste of time still staying here because he didn't find what he was looking for. He mistakes Lariat's trembling for fear and assumes she is scared of him. He knows that for as long as he is cursed, only fear will remain in people's heart when they look at him no matter how much he helped her. He feels a bit desolate as he wonders how long he will have to keep living like this. Suddenly, someone grabs him from behind. Lariat has a proposal for him. Since he is a good-looking man, how about he dates her for 3 months? She has chosen him as the man to complete her 4th point. And so she starts her attack on him. She introduces herself as just Lariat and wants the Duke to introduce himself too. She keeps chattering and moving closer to him, causing the poor man to stagger. He even stammers when introducing himself. Lariat blushes when she hears his voice because she just loves how it sounds. This must be the Duke's greatest battle because he can't understand if she is making fun of him. He keeps sweating. He becomes even more flustered when Lariat calls his name. It has been over 20 years since someone called his name. Lariat asks him to date her, but for only 3 months. The Duke nervously asks her if she isn't afraid of him, especially since she just saw him kill 2 men. He thinks she is playing around and walks away from her. He is expecting her to call him back, but when he looks back, he sees she is just standing there. Azrahan feels bad. Just as he expected, she was just joking with him. The woman he thinks is joking is busy, murmuring about how hot, sexy, charismatic, and perfect her new man is. She says there is only one thing he doesn't have, and that is her. And so, with fire in her eyes, she is determined to make him have everything. Well, which is her? Our female lead is in a pub busy mourning over losing her newfound interest when she hears some people mention the Duke's name. She sneaks over to their side just to hear some delightful news. The Duke is looking for a purification witch! Larit immediately sits with the men and asks them to tell her about the rumors. The man is startled, but still tells her the story of the Duke's curse, which makes him smell like dead bodies. Lariat is a bit surprised because when they met he didn't smell that bad to her. According to rumors, Duke Candel has been trying to hire purification witches, but none of them want to take the case because the situation is too severe. Plus, there aren't many purification witches in the Empire. This is good news for our heroine, and she joins the men for dinner as she remembers another fact. The purification magic she uses requires more mana than healing magic because it can be used to lift curses. However, more people die from physical injuries than curses, and that is why purification magic is unpopular. It is the reason why Azrahan could not find a purification witch. While our heroine is lost in thoughts, the men are wondering who the hell is this strange girl who is busy eating their food. Lariat doesn't pay them any attention, as she is still thinking about how to catch her little tiger, Azrahan. She decides the only way is to enter his den. Lariat is very determined because 1 week later, she is at the Information Guild where Duke Candel is. She smirks when she sees him. "I have found you," she says. She apologizes for asking him to date her without even getting to know him first. Now, she has changed plans. They can just start over as employee and employer and get to know each other. The Duke is surprised to see her again, even though he tried to scare her away the last time. She gives him a bow and reintroduces herself as Lariat Blanche, the most skilled purification witch in the Empire. Duke Candel is shocked. She offers to purify his curse for him, but in return, he has to feed her and house her. She has even prepared a contract for him to sign. Sigh, it seems the Duke cannot escape his fate of being eaten by our female lead. She has long since threatened the Information Guild to work for her. They give her a sign when the Duke is around, and that is why she could make it in time to see him. Lariat can't help but admit that the Duke does indeed have an overwhelming aura. Candel wants to be sure she can keep her promise because if she doesn't, and it is all a joke, she won't live to see another day. Oh, what a threat. Now, Lariat is feeling a bit nervous because she never got to learn how to use magic properly. However, she is confident in her use of purification magic. Besides, she is already dying anyway, so why should she be afraid? To be sure, she decides to do a little experiment. She grabs Candel's hand and tries to purify him. She is surprised because the curse is too powerful and it is taking up more mana than she expected. It is even harder because she has no idea how Azrahan's curse works, and so she ends up using all her mana and strength. Now, it is time for our male lead to check. The Duke is a bit hesitant. It turns out he doesn't want to get his hopes up because he's been through this since he was young. Nothing has changed or ever worked. He takes off his gloves and we see his body is covered in bandages. Apparently, he was cursed when younger that his body would keep rotting and give off the stench of decaying flesh. It has been this way for years, so Candel doesn't want to get too hopeful. Clean. When he takes off his bandages, his hands are clean and sparkling. He feels it is a miracle. He looks at the beautiful miracle Lariat in front of him, asking him to sign the contract. Before he can, she falls over because she has exhausted her strength. He catches her and holds her. To him, she is now the only miracle that can lift his curse. He doesn't and can't lose her. Until his curse is completely lifted, he will never let her go. He hugs her tightly and proceeds to sign the contract. The next time our heroine wakes up, she is on a huge bed. She is confused about where she is until she sees the Duke sitting by her bed. He answers her questions and tells her she is now in his manor. He brought her here to fulfill the terms of their agreement. He wants to know if it is inadequate, which Larry assures him it isn't. Candel offers her a copy of the contract to hold on to, but our girl's mind is on another thing. She just can't get over how handsome he is. She is surprised he signed it, and he tells her it is because she is the first to purify the curse. Lariat is so happy. She has to take advantage of him. She decides to hold his hand since she can't hug him. She thanks him and promises to be good to him. Duke Candel is flustered and reminds her they have a strict employer and employee relationship. He is confused because he can't understand why she isn't avoiding him. Lariat tells him to start calling her by her nickname, Ree, and wants to call him by his name too. The innocent Duke can't handle this level of flirting, and he stands up. He says he only came to check on her because she fainted. He also brought her things, but since she seems to be fine, he will leave. Our female lead can't understand why such a man who looks like he has a lot of dating experience is being so cold to her. She assumes she is not his type, but is determined to change that too. And so, she smiles creepily at the Duke. The poor man is frightened. He reminds her not to move around because they have no idea if she has fully healed. His concern makes Lariat smile even more creepily because he is so sweet. Azrahan can't bear it any longer and rushes to escape, promising to see her tomorrow. As soon as he leaves, our female lead starts squealing and praising him. She is so happy to have seen his handsome face and wants that face to be passed on to his next generation. She has no idea the man she is praising is still standing outside her door, listening to everything she is saying. Candel blushes so much, he starts crying. He can't believe someone can feel this way about him and assume something is wrong with her. That evening, he is busy in his office when his face starts to burn. Why? Because Lariat is staring so much at him. He drops his documents and asks her if she has anything to say. She says she was just waiting to be noticed by him. She wants to know why he won't eat with her. Her question startled him a bit. She tells him she was waiting for him so they could have breakfast together. He mocks himself, telling her she must have a strong stomach to want to eat breakfast with him. Lariat is not happy to hear him talk about himself like that. He asks her just how much she knows about his curse. Prepared to hear his story, she drags a chair over and tells him she knows nothing. Just as she expects, he starts explaining. Azrahan's curse is the curse of the dead, meaning the curser placed a curse on him right before she died. And that is why the curse is so powerful and he can never get rid of it. When Lariat asks when he was cursed, he tells her it was when he was 7 years old. The bandages he wears are magically enhanced to block the smell, so he pulls them off to show her. Every day, the skin of his body breaks and rots because of the curse. The purification mages he met could only slow down the process, but none of them could ever lift the curse. Our female lead is a bit sad and calls his name. Azrahan doesn't know what she wants to say, but even if she finds him disgusting and wants to escape, he will just chase after her and lock her up. He will do anything to lift this curse. But what he didn't expect was for her to hold his rotting hand as she promises to lift the curse for him. At that moment, our Duke's heart starts beating a bit faster for her. Still at the scene, Azrahan doesn't understand why his little employee isn't afraid of him. Why isn't she like everyone else, scared and disgusted by his rotting flesh? The smell of death around him should gag her, but why is she different? He sees how she treats him like a person, and even looks at him with so much love in her eyes. She is making him feel less guilty about wanting to keep her here. Looking at her trembling figure trying to cure him, he has to stop her. She doesn't listen, so he grabs her hand. He notices how thin her wrist is and gets lost staring at it until she coughs. A bit embarrassed, he tells her not to stress herself too hard. She tells she was just having a look as she doesn't even have enough mana right now. She explains that his left hand looks healed, but there is still purification magic left in it. It is still purifying his body even as they speak. What that means is that there is a limit to how much purifying magic can stay in his body at a certain time, so other parts of his body cannot be purified until his hand is totally healed. She expects the Duke to be hurried, but the man is busy rejoicing because this is already good enough. She promises to cure him completely before she dies, startling him. He doesn't understand what she means. She lies and says it means as soon as possible. She assures him everything is going to be fine and he should not worry. The Duke nervously asks the question he has always wanted to know. Why isn't she afraid of him? In his mind, he wants to know if she doesn't find him disgusting. She laughs as she says there is no reason to be afraid. According to the rumors, he even brought victory during an impossible war. Yet instead of people praising him as a national hero, they gave him such a stupid nickname. Our heroine is angry. She assumes the rumors must be the work of the royal family because they are afraid he would gain too much power. She tells him the only title that fits him is the Empire's sharpest blade, because it complements just how amazing he is. She explains that the one people should be afraid of is the person who cursed him and not Azrahan who was cursed. It makes no sense for people to be afraid of the victim. Instead, they should think about how to punish the offender. Lariat leans over and holds the Duke's face. She tells him she isn't afraid of him. The only thing she is afraid of is him refusing to date her. Wow! It seems our girl has brought out her flirting skills. She makes Azrahan so shy, even his ears turn red. He tells her to let go, and she does. Lariat is not any better, as she is blushing too. Why? Because his cheeks are super soft. With his cute red ears, Azrahan promises to see her at dinner. She smiles so brightly his heart can't take it, and he immediately runs away. She shouts after him, promising to see him at night. Our heroine seems to have come to an absolutely wrong and totally incorrect conclusion. Azrahan's weakness must be physical intimacy. Not true. With just a little touch, he agreed to have dinner with her. Her hands start twitching as she remembers how soft his face was. Someone calls her name and she turns around. It is Hallstein, the long-term butler at the House of Candle. He asks her if she was able to see the Duke, and she says yes. She thanks him for showing her the way, otherwise she would have gotten lost. He assures her it is fine. She happily shares her good news with the butler. She will be having dinner with the Duke. The butler is surprised and asks again. It has been too long since the Duke shared a dinner table with somebody else. Indeed, since he was young, this should be the first time since the late Duchess passed away. Looking at Lariat the Blessing, he is pleased, and asks her to give the Duke a good time. She says it is just dinner, but she will try her best. The butler is sure she would, as he already has a plan in mind. The two scheming ones laugh happily. Poor Duke. Hallstein is prepared to tackle the world's biggest problems. The first one he must solve before evening is teaching the Duke what a perfect date is. He even brings along a huge book, a guide to a perfect date. Just how long have you had that, Hallstein? Azrahan is a bit nervous looking at that huge book. The last time he learnt table manners was when he was a child. But surely, even though there might be new rules, it shouldn't be this exaggerated, right? But he is indeed worried his little mage would laugh at his crudeness. Especially since she is 5 years younger. He imagines the scene and is terrified. Azrahan is also confused. The butler is holding up the book while smiling like a weird old grandpa. It says date, so it shouldn't be for him, right? He refuses to read it and calls it a useless recommendation, but Hallstein wouldn't give up. The two begin a battle. Hallstein keeps trying to shove the book at him, but Azrahan keeps blocking. The old man tells him this might be the most useful thing he has given him in his 27 years of service. Azrahan is soon tired and can't block anymore. The butler uses this chance to start reading the rules for him, but he says he can't hear him. Seeing him leaving and putting on his coat, Hallstein reminds him they are dining inside. The The Duke, however, is thinking of how to hide his smell. He doesn't want to stink because of the curse. The time we are waiting for has arrived. Our main couple's dinner. Astrahan is surprised to see Lariet's happy face. He wonders why she is so happy to see him when it is just a meal. He sits down opposite her. He doesn't notice a certain person tiptoeing around until she sits beside him with a huge satisfied smile. He immediately becomes nervous. The shameless Lariet tells him she has some changes she wants to make to the contract. He tells her nervously to bring it. She explains the payment for her services is a bit small. The Duke isn't completely listening because he is panicking. Why is she leaning so close to him? He shifts away while thinking about how bold young people these days are. It seems our male lead thinks he is the same age as old Hallstein, haha. He wonders if it is money Lariet needs and is ready to pay her enough to buy a small country. However, that is not the change our girl has made. Instead, she adds 3 new rules. 1. The 2 of them must dine together once a day. 2. The 2 of them must leave the house together once a week. 3. He must pay for their trip outside, but can set a limit to how much they spend. The Duke is a bit confused by the new rule that says they have to go outside and asks her what it means. Our girl frankly, boldly, and shamelessly admits it is a date. The Duke is surprised by how simple her condition is. He is still afraid she might run away in future if she isn't satisfied with the payment though. And so, he decides to add his own terms to the contract. The employee cannot leave until the employer's curse is purified. If she does, she will have to accept any punishment he wants to give her. He hands it over to Lariet, who feels the term looks scary on paper. That doesn't stop her, and the 2 go ahead to sign the contract. Our girl is already thinking about their first date and wants them to have a picnic in the garden the next day. Astrahan refuses because he has to be in the palace, so she offers for them to go the day after that. He wonders why it has to be so fast, and she explains she is on a time limit. He is confused by her statement, and she says she is in a rush to win his love. He wisely ignores her comment and tells her to eat. It is a few days later, and dear Lariet wakes up in a happy mood. She is happy because how did she go from being almost homeless to living in a mansion like this? She has recovered her mana and goes off to purify Astrahan before they leave for their date. She opens the door to his office, and suddenly she meets a tragedy. Her eyes are burnt and blinded by another ray of sun that appears there. The sun, of course, is our male lead who has dressed up nicely today. She staggers to his side and compliments Sun Astrahan, who never sets. His face just glows every day. The Duke can't understand a word of what she is saying. He changes the topic to their picnic and wants to leave in the afternoon since it is still cold outside. He tells her to leave so he can focus on his work, but will she? Of course not. She just sits on his desk close to him. She announces it is time to get purified. Astrahan is surprised at how quickly she recovered her mana. She removes the bandages and holds him directly so the purification can work better. She gets to work and immediately his hand is purified. She tells him the curse on his hand isn't strong, so just once is enough. Over the next few days, the magic will stay in his hand and purify it. Astrahan is amazed by how easily she manages to purify his curse. He has been searching for over 10 years, and no mage has managed to do this. He is concerned about her, and she assures him she is okay. She has figured out how to do it more efficiently, so she won't waste too much mana like the last time. She leans into the Duke and says they can go for their picnic now that they are done with the purification. Astrahan is looking at the turtle beside him. It is our female lead shivering from the cold. He reminds her he warned her earlier. She cuddles him and tells him it is worth it because she is with him. The Duke is so frightened he shifts away. She stares at him cutely and tells him she would feel better if he lends her his jacket. He doesn't want to and refuses. In truth, he just doesn't want her to smell the curse. Lariet tells him it is okay as she doesn't want him to catch a cold. Girl, are you sure you haven't dated before? She leaves the stunned Duke behind and runs to the blanket. She invites him to join her in the warm spot. He tells her she is chippier than the sun, and she replies that it is only when she is with him. She isn't satisfied and wants him to sit closer, but he escapes her evil clutches. Lariet is not happy with the distance between them. She wonders if he was heartbroken during his past relationship, or could it be that he just doesn't like her? She has no dating experience, but knows that it is best to express your feelings. And it just happens that she is good at that. Astrahan is also thinking about his date. He never thought he would be sitting in a flower garden one day and feel so out of place. Lariet opens the box and is happy to see all the delicious food. Meanwhile, all Astrahan can imagine is his butler wishing him luck. He immediately chases the old man out of his thoughts. The two start talking about their favorite food. While he doesn't have any, she tells him her favorite is salmon sandwiches. She can eat cucumbers but doesn't like them. The Duke is surprised, not because of her taste, but because there is a fresh smell. It seems she is purifying the air around her because she is a purification mage. Even the smell of his curse is gone. He wants to ask her if she can smell the curse, but is afraid to. Because what if she is just pretending not to smell it? While he is busy thinking and eating, someone is busy staring at his face. Lariet is once again in awe of Astrahan so much that she claps. How can a man look so handsome even while eating? The Duke is confused when she leaves his side, but she tells him to wait. Soon, she drops a garland on him. She freezes in shock over how handsome he is. Azrahan, however, isn't pleased and tries to shove off the garland. She tries to save it from him, but isn't quick enough. He throws it away. She goes after it so suddenly that she doesn't notice there is a fountain. Azrahan tries to stop her, but he is too late, and they both fall into the water. Looking at his employee, he tells her it is time she stops shocking him so much. Lariette is having the time of her life. She is finally in the arms of the handsome man. He even brushes her hair so she won't catch a cold. She is so nervous she talks rubbish about being super strong, confusing the Duke. He doesn't mind her though, and carries her in his arms, making Lariette blush. He is going back to the mansion. She protests because the date was too short, and insists it doesn't count. Sadly, our heroine is not as strong as she thinks because she falls sick right after. She is still her usual bubbly self as she congratulates the men for witnessing her first sickness. Azrahan isn't happy with her behavior, so she apologizes. He tells her the priest will visit since he has to go to the palace today. Lariette is fine with it, but Azrahan is a bit disappointed. He thought she would throw a tantrum and demand for him to stay, but it seems she's more mature than he thinks. Lariette is just grateful he is taking care of her. The two men leave, but Azrahan isn't happy with her reaction. It seems different from usual. He is still thinking of his little employee on his way out of the mansion. He wonders what she told her father for him to willingly let her leave and go stay in another duke's mansion so easily. He never had a chance to think about it because little puppy Lariette was always distracting him. But now he can finally look into it. A white carriage passes his, and he catches a glimpse of long white hair. He thinks it is a female priest and is so happy he smiles. He, however, covers his mouth so nobody can see it and wonders why on earth he would smile. Lariette has once again met her nemesis, the face of a handsome man. She stares at the handsome priest with long white hair and golden eyes, and her heart starts beating faster. The man introduces himself as Doha, the servant of Alteon. Lariette also tells him her name. The man leans over her to heal her, making Lariette blush. He is so gentle. He asks her what she is doing in a place like this. She is displeased and tells him there is nothing wrong with Azrahan's house. He apologizes for offending her. He seems sad as he says he is suffering a hard time in the temple as well because of his personality. The temple is hierarchical, and so a low-ranked priest like himself is treated poorly. Lariette feels a bit sorry for him because she has heard that only low-ranking usually come for these healing jobs. She wonders why his superiors never healed the scar on his face though. He is done healing her, and our heroine feels as good as new. She wants to express her gratitude to the priest, and so decides to purify his scar for him. It takes up more mana than she expected, but soon she is done. The priest is amazed and asks if she is a healer mage. Lariette replies that it is something like that. The priest decides to steal her away to work as his healer, and even promises to pay her. Lariette is confused because low-ranked mages are supposed to be poor. She doesn't think too much about it and refuses his request. She doesn't want to upset her cute Azrahan and needs to focus on purifying him first. He doesn't relent and asks if she can help him anytime she is free in the future. Lariette agrees to that. To repay her, the priest promises to heal her for free, but will pay her if she ever heals him. He smiles at her. Lariette can't handle it anymore. It seems there is one more sun that has appeared to ruin her eyes with his handsome face. The quick to decide, Lariette immediately accepts the deal because it is too good. The priest moves closer to her and says he wants to be friends. She is surprised, but he says he wants to get to know her better. Lariette, who has never had friends before, is moved by the look on his face. She also wants to experience friendship before she dies. Thus, the two of them reintroduce themselves again. They will now call themselves by their nicknames. The priest returns to his temple where we discover a shocking secret. He is not a lowly ranked priest like he told Lariette. He is the high priest of the Temple of Alteon, Reverend Mikhail Dohavarian. At the temple, Mikhail's servant follows after him. He nags the high priest to remember his position as it isn't nice for him to leave the temple so frequently, especially for someone who is to become a pope. He is shocked to see the scar on the priest's head has disappeared. Mikhail tells him a healer mage he met healed it for him. This shocks the servant, and he wonders how a common healer mage can heal the priest. Only someone who is on the same level of mana as the priest can heal his scar. The priest smiles deviously as he says it is something he needs to look into. It seems our innocent rabbit Lariette is about to have two powerful men fighting over her. Inside his carriage, the Duke is playing a game of should I or should I not. He is struggling on if he should go or not and decides not to go. Up front, the coachman who heard him is shivering, wondering if the Duke is about to go kill someone. The reason for Azrahan's debate is his employee. Azrahan knows he has no reason to go and see her, and yet he just feels like he should. It seems the Duke has started to notice that he cares too much about her. Just as he nears the door, it is pulled open, and our heroine is ready to welcome him back home. He is so touched because this is the first time someone is greeting him by the door. Of course, ignore poor Butler Hallstein who greets you every day. He is concerned about her, and she assures him she is all better since the priest was so good. She holds his hand as she continues to talk, saying she would be completely fine when the priest heals her again in 2 days. She places his hand on her forehead so he can feel her temperature. Azrahan quickly removes his hand and agrees with her. Once again, he marvels at how bold she is. He tells her she doesn't have to greet him by the door whenever he arrives, as it isn't part of the contract. She tells him it is because she missed him and wants to know if he thought about her at all today. Smooth girl. Of course he denies it, but his red cheeks and nervous face betray him. Lariette is happy he thought about her, but he doesn't want to admit, so they keep arguing. She complains to herself about how fast he is walking. She wants to know if he is busy tomorrow, and he asks if she wants to purify him. She tells him they can do that later, but the reason is so they can go on another date. She has gotten them tickets to go see a show. Azrahan is confused and calls the paper a piece of scrap, making her furious. Apparently, it took her a lot to get these. He wants to know what they are for. She explains that they are tickets to a famous show, and she even managed to get them premium seats. Tomorrow is also the last day of the show. Her hopes are crushed, however, because the Duke refuses. Her eyes become teary as she asks why not. The Duke thinks to himself that he cannot attend such places with his cursed body. People will just avoid him the moment he arrives and stare at him with disgust. He knows Lariette is taking his curse lightly, but it is time to show her the reality. Pride is not enough reason for him to not talk about it. He asks her if she is not afraid of him, and reminds her he was given the nickname of Warlord for a reason. Hundreds of people have died at his hands, so it is only normal for people to be afraid of him. Lariette is feeling chilly from the way he describes it, but it is not scary enough for her to run away. And so, like a normal human, she decides to slap his chest. Unfortunately, it is her hand that hurts and turns red. He doesn't understand what she is doing, and she tells him she just attacked him. What is he going to do about it? She even grabbed his hands and his face whenever she wanted to and called him by his first name, so is he going to kill her now? She grabs his shirt and tells him to stop hiding himself from others. She wants to know if he did anything wrong for him to hide. All she wants to know is if he wants to see the show or not. He doesn't need to worry about what people might think, but about what he wants. She tells him she expects his answer by tomorrow morning, otherwise she will go and watch the show with another man. She isn't as bold as she seems as she runs away while freaking out, leaving the Duke with his red ears behind. Just as we expected, the Duke accepts. Lariette desires to be held in the handsome man's arms. She fakes a stumble as she's about to step down from the carriage. Azrahan quickly catches her, but before she can rejoice, he warns her not to use this as an excuse to hold his hands. The shameless Lariette tells him he should have just gone along with it. Our proper Virgin Duke refuses to do something so shameless. The two stand in front of the building without moving. Lariette notices Azrahan is anxious and grabs his hands. She tells him all they need is to go in. Their seats are even private. She assures him not to worry. The play is finally over, and our heroine can't stop talking about it, especially about how handsome the main character was. Azrahan is feeling a bit jealous and asks if she likes men who look like princes. She says she only likes handsome men. She wants to use the ladies' bathroom and asks him to wait for a while. Lariette is done and steps outside when she sees someone she really doesn't want to see again. It is her former fiancé, Marquess Segrev, and he has gotten a new lady. He tells her he is so happy to see her again. Lariette isn't pleased to see him and tells him so. She reminds him of her promise to beat him up if she ever sees him again. She doesn't like repeating herself. The Marquess is not afraid and reminds her she has lost her place now and isn't worth anything anymore. Before she can attack him, he snaps his fingers and Lariette is grabbed by several men. It turns out the Marquess never forgot what she did to him and has been waiting for a chance to revenge. Now that he has gotten his opportunity and she is now nothing but a commoner, he wonders if he should take her as his mistress. He tells her he is going easy on her because of her pretty face. The Marquess' happiness is short-lived because the hand he is using to touch Lariette's face is suddenly cut off. Her knight is here. It is Azrahan, and he explains he came to look for her since she wants coming. He asks for her permission to deal with those men making. His actions just make our heroine fall more deeply for him. It seems the Marquess doesn't know what trouble he is in, and he is still making a lot of noise. Azrahan glares at him and asks if he is speaking to him. Segrev is so terrified, he shuts up. Lariette stops him because she doesn't want things to get messy if he attacks the Marquess. He reminds her he is a candle, but she is still worried. He wonders if he should tell her the Emperor has given him the permission to kill any individual he wants. Our female lead's best choice is to run away, and she does so, pulling Azrahan along. Back in the carriage, the Duke is still thinking about how to avenge his little employee. The lady in concern can barely breathe because she ran too fast. Azrahan is nervous and is sure she is about to end their arrangement. She must be disturbed by his violence. But it doesn't matter since she is bound by the contract. To his shock, however, she praises him for being amazing. Even more than the main character of the show. Although she is not a fan of violence, she is happy because he was trying to defend her. The next day, the priest is back again because a certain someone pushed herself too hard thinking she was fully healed. Mikhail warns her to be more careful because she has gotten worse since their last session. Our girl can only laugh guiltily. She never knew the cold would come back because of what happened to her yesterday. She decides to ask the priest if it is impossible to heal a terminal disease with divine power. He tells her a terminal disease cannot be healed by magic or divine power. If there is a slight chance of it being healed, then it is called an incurable disease. Lariette is disappointed and wonders if she really has to die. Mikhail, the Pope-to-be, tells her maybe someone like the Pope with enough divine power could help her. Lariette is in tears because there is no way she can get in touch with the Pope. Mikhail knows the cause of her illness, an overflow of mana. It is a rare condition that can lead to death if left untreated. It is not a terminal disease for her, but a chronic one. It is not easy to heal, but it won't take long to heal either. He decides to do her a favor since she is a skilled mage. He asks her if she would like him to make frequent visits so he can heal her. She is pleased to hear this and thanks him happily. He smiles and tells her not to be startled. He suddenly grabs and hugs her. Of course our girl is shocked and her face turns red. He taps his forehead against hers and starts healing her. When he is done, he tells her they have to do it a few more times. He gently combs her hair for her. Lariette is confused but still thanks him. He tells her to show her gratitude by doing something in return for him. Lariette quickly agrees to help him. He pulls back his sleeve and shows her a huge injury on his arm. She is startled and wonders how he managed to hurt himself so badly. She doesn't hesitate and heals him quickly. Unknown to her, the priest purposely injured himself just so he can watch her healing process directly. Lariette complains about how much mana it takes just to heal him. Obviously, it is because Mikhail is the Pope-to-be. He thanks her and offers her a payment for her services. The casual reward he throws out almost gives Lariette a stroke because why is he giving her a gem? He lies and says his family discovered a mine. The greedy for money, Lariette is happy to get a gem just for healing the priest once. Motivated by money, she bows her head to him and promises to serve him like a customer even until death. She even forces him to promise not to find anyone else if he needs to be healed, and he giggles, vowing to do as she says. In his mind, she is the one who must never run away. The next day, Lariette is ready to see her man. She goes to look for him but is told he is still asleep. Apparently, he got home late last night. She is a bit disappointed and starts sulking. The butler pities her and asks if she would like to wake him up herself. Lariette is a bit surprised and wonders if she can do that. The butler, who has an ulterior motive, desperately needs the two to get married and give birth, assures her she can. He even points out the room door and hurries her to open it up. Lariette has never been inside the Duke's room before. When she enters, she marvels at how nice and big it is. She steps up to the bed and wakes up the sleeping Duke. He is still half asleep when he sits up. He looks cutely confused and wonders what she is doing in his room. She tells him she is here to continue the purification and it would be better to do it in his room. He still doesn't understand, and so she explains she wants to work on his upper body today. Unfortunately for him, and fortunately for Lariette and us, the process works better if she touches his skin directly. The Duke is still dazed when she asks him to take off his shirt and even offers to help him. He protests and says he can do it on his own. While one person finds it embarrassing, the other is just happy and satisfied to see and perv on his body. I know we can guess who that is. Astrahan asks if he should remove his bandages as well, and she reminds him she needs to touch his skin. The both of them blush at her words. He takes off the bandage to reveal his rotting skin. She is a bit nervous as she never expected the curse to be this bad. She soon starts her purification. She tells him it might not be finished in one go because the curse is concentrated on this area. She vows to try her best. The Duke is busy thinking about how close she is when she suddenly falls on his chest. It turns out she used up too much mana. She explains that she doesn't have much mana left because she used a lot to heal the priest yesterday. She remembers now and tells the Duke about the priest being her friend. She wants to know if she can also heal the priest once in a while. She promises him it won't get in the way of his healing. Our jealous Duke is thinking about an entirely different matter and asks if she behaves like this with the priest as well. He suddenly remembers the priest is a woman and relaxes because he thinks he has nothing to worry about. He tells Lariette to do as she wishes. Oh, how wrong you are, Astrahan. You're going to regret this. Trust our girl to use every opportunity to flirt. Just before she faints, she doesn't forget to ask the Duke to go on a date with her. The Duke is left alone with a sleeping Lariette lying on his body. Ever since that day, the Duke has disappeared from the mansion. No matter how she runs around every day, searching from room to room, Lariette can never find him. Disappointed, she complains about him to Mikhail. She tells him the Duke is avoiding her and wonders if she was too aggressive. During the time Astrahan was gone, she became closer to Mikhail and told him everything except the curse part. She never expected Mikhail to be a hidden relationship expert and counselor. She is sure he has dated a lot of girls. Mikhail tells her the Duke doesn't know what he is missing out on and says she should try making him jealous. Stroking her hair, he explains that every man gets stirred up if he sees his woman with another man. Lariette is in a dilemma because she doesn't know any man she can make him jealous with. She has no boyfriends and no male friends because she was engaged. Suddenly, the priest grabs her head and pulls her closer to him until their lips almost touch. He reminds her that he is also a man too.
I am a man too, Ree. Mikhail has Lariat pulled so close to him that their faces are touching. Just as we think he is about to do something dramatic, such as kiss her, he simply starts healing her. Lariat is feeling just as shocked as we are. She wishes he would tell her next time before he starts his healing. That really startled her. She thinks about his idea and finds it really good. Imagining Azrahan's desperate look as he begs her to never leave his side, our little rabbit smiles happily. It is indeed a very great idea. Although she thinks so, she is still feeling reluctant. She knows Azrahan wouldn't be happy if she did that. She doesn't want to do anything he wouldn't like. Therefore, she refuses to go ahead with Mikhail's suggestion. She thanks him for his idea. She will just try to win her man over by herself. With her eyes blazing in determination, she is ready to go out and get her sweet little kitten. It is a creepy, dark night. Remember our little kitten Azrahan, who has been trying to avoid his owner? Right now, he is creeping into the mansion silently like a little cat. Except his plan doesn't work. Because sitting on the stairs and waiting for him is Lariat. Azrahan almost gets the shock of his life. She has a very dark look on her face. It makes him shiver in fright. He asks why she isn't in bed yet. She tells him she had to wait up for him because he has been so hard to reach. In her head, Lariat is determined to settle this issue today. She reminds him of their contract. The employer must agree to leave the mansion with the employee twice a week. Azrahan is not even listening to her at this point. All he can think of is the weird feeling she gives him anytime he is around her. He has no idea whether it is his heart or his stomach. He just feels nauseous around her. That is why he has been avoiding her. He doesn't want to experience this strange feeling again. He asks if taking a walk in the garden tomorrow would be enough for her. At this point, our Lariat is feeling depressed. She seems to be the only one who wants their relationship to work. The pain makes her choke because she realizes all Azrahan wants from her is purification. But Lariat is not ready to give up. But even if she is the only one invested in this, she has to do it. She is about to die anyway, so nothing else matters. She tells him he seems really busy. From now on, they wouldn't need to go on dates or even eat together. She apologizes for getting in his way and disturbing him. She doesn't even call him by his name anymore, but calls him, Your Grace. Hearing her call him this makes Azrahan panic. She tells him she will be doing everything with her priest friend from now on. She will eat with him and go out with him. She wants Azrahan to focus on his work and forget about her. She won't even hold him accountable for breaching the contract. Those words make Azrahan stagger. He looks very hurt. Watching her head upstairs, he holds his chest because it seems to ache badly. Back in her room, Lariat is going through her little list. This little notebook was given to her by her father. But while she got a notebook, her brother was given a sword filled with gems. Her thoughts moved to her two unfulfilled wishes: to travel to the West and date a handsome man. She remembers Ryan bragging about his trip to the West while she has never even traveled before. She wonders if it is a bad thing for her to want to try the things she has never done before she dies. All she wants is to create some good memories for herself before she dies. That is why she wants to date someone so they can do it together. Now, however, our girl is wondering if it is too much for Azrahan, but she never noticed him looking unhappy when they were together. In fact, he was always looking at her in a special way, especially when they were on their movie date. Our heroine makes up her mind not to give up. She will keep trying even harder, but it is honestly so lonely. It is morning in the priest's temple. Mikhail's assistant notices he has been asking for the deacon's uniform quite frequently. He doesn't understand why his reverend would want it, though. He has already moved past that rank because of his exceptional divine power. Mikhail makes up a ridiculous excuse that even his own assistant doesn't believe. He says they all used to wear this. Joshua wants to know if he is going to visit that healing mage again, and he says yes. This makes Joshua freak out. The mage is living in Duke Candle's mansion. It is going to be a huge embarrassment when they find out who Mikhail really is. Mikhail isn't worried at all. He will just have to be careful then so he doesn't get caught. His assistant isn't convinced and suggests the priest bring this mage to the Altion temple. He believes she will accept the position if she knows she will be working for the Pope-to-be. Mikhail isn't sure about this, however. After all, Lariat is not the typical kind of girl. Joshua agrees because the girl the priest fancies must be one of a kind, for the priest to find her interesting. After all, the priest is cold, dropping someone once he loses interest. Mikhail is still thinking about Lariat even on the way to her mansion. He had already conducted his own research on her. She is the firstborn of the Blanche family. She is also Segrev's fiancée, who hasn't been seen in public lately. She has good healing skills and has an enormous amount of mana. And seeing that she is staying with Duke Candel, who is desperate to heal his curse, she must be a purification mage. Mikhail thinks Azrahan must be spending a huge amount of money on Lariat. The girl, on the other hand, has feelings for him. But our priest isn't bothered, though. Although it is going to be tough to make her his personal healer mage, he is determined to try. He just needs to seduce her now and make her his before she completely falls for Azrahan. He realizes she is growing on him. He really has to find a way to make her his. As soon as he arrives at Candel's mansion, Lariat rushes into his carriage. She wants to know if he is free today. He says he is, and she suggests they go grab some food or go shopping. Today they are going to launch that jealousy plan. Hearing this makes Azrahan very pleased. He is going to use this outing as an excuse to go on a date with Lariat and seduce her. But hold up a second. How did they end up here? How did that priest's uniform catch fire? And why did their perfect date turn into a scene of him being dragged around by Lariat and running away like a criminal? They have definitely gotten themselves in trouble. Right now, our little priest is doubting his life. How did they go from a simple date to becoming wanted criminals? Well, to get to that part, we will have to go back 10 minutes ago. Mikhail and Lariat have just finished their lunch date. He still can't believe that someone as small as Lariat could finish the whole dessert. She boldly claims her stomach was made just for it. She was actually surprised by how much he ate, though. He tells her he loves eating sweet things. Tired of talking about desserts, our innocent Lariat, who really believes Mikhail's family has a mine, wonders why he is working such remote jobs. After all, his family is rich. This is the perfect time for Mikhail to show his seducing skills. He instantly comes off as pitiful, saying he doesn't usually do this kind of work but was forced to do so this time. He complains that most higher priests usually force the lower priests to perform remote healing. As expected, our girl becomes emotional after hearing this and feels bad for Mikhail. She promises to help him out if something like this happens again. Her words just make Mikhail more interested in her. No one can compare to his divine talent, and yet here is our female lead. Not only does she have the same level of mana as him, but she also doesn't even know how talented she is. He just doesn't know how long his interest in her will last. While he is thinking, Lariat is busy promising to burn off the clothes of the people bullying him. Or even better, hang them on a tree. All Mikhail has to do is just tell her. He laughs and thanks her for her support, but in his mind, he doesn't believe her words. He knows nobody would be so foolish as to make an enemy of the temple. Well, meet Lariat then. The two are taking a walk when Larit notices something that makes her pause. It is a brooch, and she suddenly imagines how beautiful it will look on Azrahan. Mikhail notices she isn't moving and wants to see what she's looking at. She points out the brooch to him and tells her first lie. She says she thought it would look really good on him. Mikhail might have caught on to her lie because he doesn't even need a brooch. Before he can say anything, she runs off to ask for a price, leaving him alone to wait. And it is at that point that everything starts to go wrong. While Mikhail is waiting patiently, someone comes up from behind and slaps his back. It is a fellow priest from the temple. Because of his deacon's uniform, the boy thinks Mikhail is low-ranked and demands that he show him some respect. He even boasts about how talented he is. In front of the youngest high priest? What a joke. Mikhail is not bothered by the boy's rambling and even advises him to leave before he regrets it. Of course, the arrogant priest thinks he is disrespecting him and is ready to teach Mikhail some manners. He even grabs Mikhail by his clothes and begins to shake him. Although Mikhail looks calm, in his mind, he is already deciding whether to kill the boy or not. After all, a high priest like him can burn a person alive if he uses a large part of his divine power. But he doesn't want anyone to find out who he is, and there are already a lot of people watching. He decides to just let it go and teach the boy a lesson later. The boy, who has no idea that he was just moments away from dying, is pleased to see Mikhail bow before him. But before he can get too happy, his clothes suddenly catch fire. Well, it isn't a nice idea to bully someone, especially if you're wearing teddy bear boxers. While the crowd laughs at the poor priest, someone suddenly grabs Mikhail and runs. Who else can it be than our Lariat? She looks very proud of herself, while Mikhail just looks terrified. Really now, our high priest has really turned into a criminal. He is even hiding in an alley. He questions Lariat, and she happily admits she did it. She reminds him of her promise not to let anyone bully him. She even plans to report herself if things get too complicated and doesn't want him to worry. This is the first time Mikhail has been protected like this, and he starts laughing. Lariat notices he sounds like a villain when he laughs. Because he is. Mikhail has no idea what to do with this sweet girl. And with that, he places his head on her shoulders. Brushing her hair back, he tells her she is too much fun. And now he has realized just how much he truly wants her. While these two are having fun, someone else is on the verge of dying. Back at the Candles mansion, all Azrahan can think of are the words his butler just told him. Lariat is spending the whole day in town with her priest friend. And he has finally discovered that the priest is not a woman as he thought, but a man. He isn't the only one panicking because his butler is too. He begs his lord to put in more effort. In fact, he has to go back to having meals with Lariat. If not, Lariat's relationship with that priest might really turn into something else. Although Azrahan is visibly bothered, he remains stubborn. He doesn't think her relationship with the priest is his business. He tries to convince himself he doesn't care, and she is only a mage. Her only job is to heal him. All her talk about wanting to date him won't last. But no matter how he tries, he can't convince himself. Once again, he is getting that nauseous feeling. He knows he shouldn't expect more from her, but his feelings are getting more complicated. He doesn't believe anyone can truly love a monster like him. Maybe Lariette is just feeling bad for him. He must never let her get into his head. And even though he thinks this way, our double-faced Duke still arranges a meal for both of them. Lariette is surprised by this and asks why. He claims they haven't talked in a while. Lariette wants to know if he has finished his work. In her mind, though, a mini-her is jumping with joy. She praises Mikhail for being a really good relationship counselor. She wonders if her plan to make Azrahan jealous worked. After a long time, she can finally Look at the handsome Azrahan once again. She admires his face that can win the universe. The Duke must be feeling shy, so he tries to start a conversation. He asks how she has been, and she tells him she spent the day with her friend. She is just waiting for the jealous side of the Duke to come out. After all, she did spend the day with another man. She notices a cucumber and feels a bit disappointed. Adding to her disappointment, the man just coldly agrees. He doesn't seem jealous. Our girl doesn't give up, though, and keeps mentioning Doha. She even brings out the ultimate card. She's going to be in her room alone with him. But even though she does all this, the Duke is not bothered. Our poor puppy is feeling sad and asks if he really isn't jealous. Staring at her sad little face, the Duke can't control himself and starts blushing. While we expect a romantic scene to occur, what comes next is pure heartbreak. The Duke tells Lariette he is not jealous or bothered. He doesn't care about whatever she does, as long as it doesn't affect their healing sessions. No wonder you're still single, Azrahan. His words are so chilling that Lariette can't stand it anymore. She has lost her appetite. She drops her fork and leaves the dining table. She promises to see him during their healing sessions. The confused Duke is left sitting alone. Back in her room, Lariette is like a wilted cabbage, making Doha worry. She tells him their plan didn't work out. While she is sad, the big bad wolf Doha is happy. He knew their plan was never going to work anyway. Especially for someone as heartless as Azrahan. Doha's plan was just to make the two fight so he could come in and make Lariette his. He starts consoling the crying girl. Lariette also feels bad for him. After all, he came from somewhere so far just to see her. She can't just cry about her feelings. She notices Doha has on glasses today and tells him he looks like a librarian. He says he felt compelled to wear them, so he did. And he was right. Our priest smiles cheekily. It turns out Mikhail has the skill of prophecy. Only the most gifted of God's followers have this ability. It is a very important factor in selecting the next pope. Normally, Mikhail uses this ability only in his personal affairs. Back to the two, he wants to know if she likes it. When he smiles, Lariette can't help but feel like she is getting purified by his beauty. She admits that everything looks good on him because he is handsome. What she doesn't expect after her reply is for Doha to grab her waist. He places his head against hers and says it is time to start their healing. Healing my foot, you are just flirting. While it is all roses and rainbows on our female lead's side, it is like a funeral over at Azrahan's place. Well, mostly because Butler Hallstein is about to kill him with his gaze. Azrahan can't bear it anymore and tells the butler to mind his business. The old man isn't having any of it and scolds him. His harsh words must have surely hurt Lariette. He tells Azrahan he should never have invited her to breakfast if he was going to treat her like that. Clock him, butler. Hallstein really doesn't know what to do. The Duke even showed concern for a woman's meal for the first time. He warned the chefs not to put cucumber in the food, yet they still did. He is sure his lord is starting to have feelings for the mage, but because this is his first time, he wouldn't be able to understand those feelings, especially since he hasn't been close to anyone after he got cursed. All the butler wants is for Azrahan to be happy. He advises him to consider what he is truly feeling, but our poor Duke can't even understand that. Hallstein drops the news that the priest has arrived and advises Azrahan to go and see. He doesn't have to think about anything else. He just needs to focus on how he feels. It seems the Duke is finally starting to understand. He remembers Lariette asking if he is jealous. Once again, he denies his feelings. Only people who are in love should be jealous. And he doesn't believe he is worthy of love. He recalls the day he was cursed. Ever since that day, he has never cared for anyone else. But as they say, the body is more honest. Because somehow, Azrahan is on his way to find his little mage. But just as he passes the open door, he sees Lariette and the priest inside. And it seems like they are kissing. We don't know how, but the Duke is inside the room in a second and has pulled Lariette away from the priest. He warns the man to stay away from her. Haha, didn't you just say you don't care? But Doha is not an easy opponent either. He greets Azrahan gently. While the two men are having a showdown, our girl is in dreamland because there are two handsome men. Mikhail is thankful for his gift of prophecy. If he hadn't worn these glasses, he would have been found out. He continues smiling at Azrahan and even dares to comfort a scared Lariat in the Duke's presence. Lariat is really scared by Azrahan's behavior and explains that the priest was just healing her. Seeing the two behaving so intimately, with the priest even rubbing her head, Azrahan is about to explode. How is this just friends? He orders the priest to leave. Mikhail finds this very interesting. He thought the Duke wasn't interested in Lariat, but it doesn't seem so. However, Mikhail isn't ready to give up either. Back in the room, the two sit in silence. Lariat is still feeling anxious. She reminds Azrahan that he was the one who said he didn't feel jealous. At this moment, our Duke doesn't know what to say. He doesn't know why he acted so emotionally either. He doesn't understand if he is even jealous, but all he knows is that the thought of her showing her kindness to someone else makes him very angry. He doesn't want her to hate him. He doesn't want to hurt her, and he wants her to be with him all the time. He has been trying to bury and deny those feelings, but it isn't working. Lariat is trying to test one more time and asks if she should go drinking with Doha. But this time, the Duke's answer is different. He begs her not to go. It seems he is about to confess his feelings to her. It is a sad day for Doha shippers, but a happy day for Azrahan shippers. Because the Duke is finally confessing. He tells Lariat his heart has never beat this fast. No matter how hard he tries, he can never stop thinking about her or looking at her. And anytime he imagines her with another man, he gets so angry that he wants to cut off their hands. Our female lead doesn't know what to say. He tells her he doesn't know what jealousy is, but if this is jealousy, then yes, he is jealous. He is more jealous than she can imagine. In his heart, he thinks he is a tainted monster. Just like now, every time he tries to touch her, he is afraid and worried he might hurt her. But still, he wants to do it. He explains why it took him so long to realize his feelings, because he has never felt this way. Our Duke has only one request. He wants to know if her offer of dating is still valid. Although he doesn't tell her, he really likes her. The thing that looks brighter than Lariat's smile is the sun. Our girl is so happy. She tells him the offer is still valid, and she hugs him. She can't wait to spend more time with him. The shy Duke blushes as he agrees with her. Lariat is very happy. This is the first time she has loved someone who also loves her back. She never thought she would experience something like this. In her mind, she is just grateful to have 3 months of passion before she dies. Her thoughts are very different from our Duke's. He is already planning how to redecorate the garden since Lariat will be living here for the rest of her life. She would, except that the rest of her life is just 3 months. Our couple is together. The list-making Lariat has already made another list. But this time it is for her and Azrahan. It is a list of the things they can do together as a couple. Azrahan isn't too happy. He can't do a lot of the things on the list because of his body. As he is flipping the pages, he sees something. But before he can look at it closer, Lariat closes the book. While she looks calm on the surface, inside, she is panicking. Azrahan almost saw her bucket list. She doesn't want him to know she has a terminal illness just when they started dating. The two go back to looking at their couple list. Azrahan notices that one of them has already been completed. He remembers that she went out with Mikhail, and his jealousy resurfaces. Our girl has to quickly coax her jealous man. She explains it was just things she wanted to do in general and not with her boyfriend. Will our male lead be so easily pacified? No, he keeps sulking and says she doesn't want to do everything on the list with him. Lariat finds his current behavior funny and laughs. She moves closer and tells him he is just too cute when he is jealous. She coyly tells him she wants to do everything with her lover and asks if he feels the same. The Duke quickly says he will get Halstein to prepare their carriage. Lariat hugs him happily and calls him the best, making him blush again. Pity this man, girl. The two are out on their first official date. Of course, the jealous little Azrahan insisted they come to town. Lariat thinks he is too cute and wonders if he is her little fairy. She also finds it cute that he brought her to the finest boutique because he remembered her saying she didn't have any clothes or jewelry. But she thinks these things are too expensive for her. Azrahan is about to have a heart attack. He just saw the most beautiful angel standing before him, asking him to admire her dress. While Lariat and the saleswoman are busy wondering which one he prefers, spendthrift Azrahan declares he will buy every cloth she tries on and every piece of jewelry she looks at. At this moment, he must be the most handsome being in the saleswoman's eyes. Her eyes are even shining as she stares at him. Not everyone is happy, though. Lariat is panicking about how much he plans to spend. She didn't win in the end, and they ended up buying all the dresses. And then Lariat suddenly remembers. She points out to Azrahan that he never praised her in her dress. As she is complaining, she touches his stomach, and can't help but touch it a few more times. It is so hard. The poor Duke, harassed and still expected to offer a compliment, tells her she looks beautiful. In fact, she was so beautiful, he didn't know what to say. Lariat refuses it, saying it is too late. It is even an insult now. Next time, he has to tell her she looks beautiful on the spot. As she speaks, she touches his body a few more times. I know what you are, girl. The Duke looks like a bullied rabbit now. He grabs her hand and tells her to stop poking him. He admits she looks very beautiful. Looking at his handsome red face, Lariat tells him to prove it by kissing her. While the Duke sits stunned, Lariat takes the lead and leans in to kiss him. Just as their lips are about to touch, the coachman comes in yelling that they have arrived. Someone hang this man. Once the Duke realizes that they almost kissed, he is too shy to face her. He runs away so fast he could give Usain Bolt a run for his money. Sitting in the carriage, a confused Lariat is wondering what just happened. A few days later, at the dining hall, our scheming female lead is looking for a way to trap the Duke again. Since the day they almost kissed, their relationship hasn't progressed. Nothing seems to have changed since they started dating. Since she doesn't have much time, she can't keep waiting around like this. And so, our girl brings out another seducing trick, asking the Duke to feed her. She tells him to show her how he feels, even making kissing noises. I pity the Duke because the man is sweating so badly. He knows she can do it herself, but he just has to pamper his lady. And so he starts feeding her. Of course, our girl has to take advantage and quickly moves her chair over so she can hug him. She calls him the sweetest and the best. She makes sure to rub and squeeze him until the poor man can't take it anymore. He stands up, and with the excuse of having more work to do, he runs away. He doesn't stop when she calls his name. Both the butler and Lariat stare at his fleeing back in shock. Lariat wonders now whether Azarhan simply prefers platonic love. This man is really God-sent. She decides to test this theory later on. A few more days have passed. Lariat is here to have another healing session with Azarhan. She might be running out of time, but she has made up her mind to take things slow if Azarhan doesn't like physical touch. She can't help but complain about how much work she is putting into him when she doesn't even love him that much. She announces they will be working on his upper body, so he takes off his shirt. Our female lead has to remind herself several times. She mustn't touch him inappropriately. They begin their healing sessions. The Duke's face is already turning red from shyness when Lariat suddenly falls into his arms. He is concerned, but she says it is just the aftermath of the healing. I don't believe you. She tells him she is a bit dizzy, so he has to hold her for a while. See, I said it. She's pretending. Well, our male lead doesn't know that. He tells her the truth. He is really trying to hold himself back right now. He pushes her away because he thinks it's best she doesn't come too close. He might not be able to restrain himself anymore. Before he can push her away, Lariat grabs his arm and tells him he doesn't have to hold back. He can do whatever he wants to her. Hearing those words seems to make Azrahan's self-control snap. It seems the beast is about to come out. He pushes her down onto the couch and asks if she really means what she said. Can he really do what he wants? Now it is time for Lariat to be shy. She was only hoping for a little kiss, but why does it look like Azrahan is about to eat her up? He kisses her fingers, but before anything can go on, she apologizes. Girl, why? He stops and asks her what she wants. It seems that was too much for the innocent girl, and she promised not to jump him anymore. He warns her he will not stop if anything like that happens again. She agrees. Since she is so frightened, he apologizes and tells her to go back and rest. He thinks she will stop bothering him for now. Or so he thought. He seems not to know how stubborn Lariat is, because right now he is lying on the sofa while Lariat, all dressed in steamy red lace, is asking that they continue from where they stopped last time. Before we get to that steamy part, we will have to go back to a few days after that purification session. One morning, Lariat suddenly has it in her head that she wants to visit a bar with Azrahan. It is even on her dating list. Unfortunately, Azrahan turns her down. Going to a place like that is difficult for him. What he is really afraid of is that people will notice his curse and stare at him like a monster. He apologizes to her because he feels she has to give up too much just to be with a monster like him. But even after all this, he still can't let her go. Lariat doesn't want him to feel sad and tells him they can make things work for each other. Just like that, they come to a compromise. They will drink at home together. The location isn't important. What matters is that they are together. She quickly pushes him out the door for his meeting in the palace. They will see tonight, and he promises to come back early. Azrahan has everything planned out. Get home early from work, have dinner with his lady, and talk over a couple of drinks. He was going to ask simple things. How she spent the day without him. Whether she felt at home here. What kind of food she liked, and what drinks she took with it. That was his plan. But this stupid meeting just doesn't want to end. Azrahan isn't happy because he can't go home to see his woman. He tells them to conclude the meeting and stop arguing over trivial matters. Everyone immediately keeps silent. Well, until one man shouts at him for daring to speak like that in front of the king. He must be tired of living. It turns out to be Lariat's father, and that is Duke Blanche's saving grace. Azrahan decides to ignore him because he is Lariat's father. but his stare makes the man afraid. It seems the king is also scared of Azrahan, as he orders the meeting to end just as the Duke said. Our male lead immediately disappears like a flash. The other Dukes in the meeting are finally relieved. Now that he is gone, they can speak badly about him. Lariette's father is still running his mouth when another Duke tells him to stop. It seems Duke Blanche doesn't value his life or has forgotten how violent Duke Candel can be. He should be lucky the Duke didn't do anything to him just now. Duke Blanche is still arguing, but the man advises him to behave wisely if he still wants to hold on to his family's sinking title. A good one, unknown Duke? Duke Blanche is feeling embarrassed, especially as everyone starts laughing at him. He can't bear it anymore and rushes outside. As expected, this cowardly man blames it on our girl. Their family's finances are out of control. No one is keeping the books anymore. His dear son Ryan has just been spending money like a child, while his wife keeps blaming him for their daughters leaving. Of course, the Duke can't accept his fault and even thinks it is his wife's fault. He sent Ryan to work in the palace to earn some money. But that isn't his biggest problem. It is the fact that his own daughter dares to go against him. He believes all his problems can be solved if Lariette can come back. The man even has delusions that he will show Lariette mercy if she returns, kneels, and begs for forgiveness. He confidently wonders how she can run away from home when she has such a great father as he is. Enough of this delusional man. Over at the Candel's mansion, Lariette is upset because she can't find her man. She sees the butler, who tells her the Duke has gone to change so she won't have to wait. Our girl is happy because her image hasn't been ruined. At least he didn't see her run all the way over. Unfortunately for her, the person she wants to hide it from is right behind her and hears everything. She is shocked to see him. He gently pats her hair and tells her she didn't have to hurry over. Looking at his proud smile, she comes to the completely wrong conclusion that he must have dated at least 10 women. No, he hasn't. That man blushes every time he sees you. Anyways, back to the dinner. Lariette is still sulking over how many women he has dated. Azrahan, on the other hand, is trying to figure out what she is thinking about. Her expressions just keep changing. The two begin their dinner date. Today, bartender Hallstein is on duty. While Lariette is amazed by his mixing skills, Azrahan just wonders when the hell his butler learned to do this. The old man says it is an expected skill for a butler. After making their drinks, he wishes them good luck and sneakily runs off. Who else thinks the old man did something? Lariette asks for a toast, and Azrahan decides to forget what the old man said. Being with her is just enough. First mistake. Azrahan is totally scared as he watches Lariette down the alcohol like it is water. She doesn't want him to worry. She can handle her alcohol. She used to drink away her sorrows back at her parents' house. She begins to talk about her day and just keeps yapping. Azrahan isn't bothered and just listens to her happily. By now, the couple has finished 3 bottles of alcohol. She mentions Doha to avoid his misunderstanding. They are just friends. She tells him it was the priest who helped them to get together. She doesn't want him to stop healing her, so she asks Azrahan for permission. If their healing position bothers Azrahan, they can change it. Azrahan wonders just what she is healing. He, however, finds it hard to ask her. She tries so hard to hide it. He is worried that it is for her health, and he doesn't want her to hate him. Therefore, he agrees. She finds him the sweetest and leans against him. She suddenly feels as if everything is getting hot. She wants to pull open the front of her dress. However, no matter how hard she tries, she just can't get it unbuttoned. She even tries pulling it apart, but it doesn't work. So left with no choice, she grabs Azrahan's hands and places them on her chest. Looking up at him sweetly, she asks him to undo it for her. Duke Azrahan is feeling super shy at the moment. He pulls his hands over from Lariette's chest and scolds her for being drunk. But worse things are yet to come because she pushes him down the sofa and sits on him. She suggests they resume where they left off last time. She believes they really would do it. Right now, our Duke is undergoing the hardest challenge of his life. He tells himself to be calm because Lariette is drunk, but the girl in question is not helping matters. Instead, she keeps rubbing his body. At this point, he really can't control himself anymore. He begs her to get off him. He is really nervous right now. She smiles like a little cat and says she would only listen to him if he promises to do something for her. He wants to know what it is. He is trying not to let his mind get bad thoughts, but Lariette just makes it worse. She asks for a kiss. I'm wondering why the Duke hasn't had a heart attack. His face is very red. He has to remind himself that his lady is very drunk. All he must do is give her just one kiss. Just a kiss. Someone bring a gun. Why is he pecking her? Lariette is so stunned, even her drunk self pauses. Is he joking right now? A peck on the cheek? It is time to show the Duke what a real kiss is like, and Lariette does just that. When she is done, she proudly says that is what a kiss looks like. This is too much for Azrahan, and he switches their position. She has gone too far this time. It is his turn to show her how mighty, how dangerous, how seductive he can be. But what do you do when the person you are trying to seduce falls asleep on you? Azrahan can only sit there in defeat. Poor man. The next day, Lariat wakes up and is happy. Everywhere is bright and beautiful, but when she pushes open Azrahan's door, all she sees is a pale ghost waiting for her. It seems the man has been up all night. He is busy wondering if she remembers anything, but our girl is innocent. Or so we think. She clearly remembers but is determined to pretend. She is too embarrassed. She acts ignorant, even asking when she fell asleep. The last thing she remembers was him telling her she could continue her healing with Doha. The Duke really believes her act. She tells him she usually handles her alcohol very well, but she has a horrible hangover today. The Duke isn't listening. All he can think of is that she stole his first kiss, and yet she doesn't remember it. Well, since he is upset, he says she can't drink with anyone else from now on. Lariat doesn't understand why, because everyone says she is fun when drunk. Oh, poor Lariat. You just sealed your fate. Now the Duke is stressing about the other people who drank with her. He wonders if it is an ex-boyfriend. Lariat feels it is unfair when he must have dated a lot too. Just as the two are in a silent battle, our sweet butler happily knocks. He announces the deacon is here to see her. Lariat feels this is the worst timing ever. Azrahan tells the butler to take the priest to the living room. Lariat goes to the living room where Doha waits for her. He is still wearing his disguise, the glasses. She apologizes for him getting kicked out the last time. He doesn't want her to feel bad or sorry. He pats her head and tells her not to worry about it. He even suggests she come to visit him if she really feels bad about it. He points out that the place is getting too intense for him. How can it not? Every servant there is practically watching them. In his mind, he praises the Duke for doing this. Lariat suggests they change their healing position as well. Doha wants to know whether Azrahan asked her to do that. She denies it. Getting too close to another man when she has a boyfriend already is just wrong. And for the first time, the cold priest feels his heart hurt when he hears those words from her. He agrees with her, but warns her that the healing might not be effective. Once again, Lariat has to cover her eyes from his blinding beauty. Just borrow his glasses. Of course, the priest wouldn't stop his seducing act. He pitifully asks her not to forget their friendship. He doesn't want to lose his friend just because she has a boyfriend now. His words work for her, and she feels bad for making him upset. In return, he asks her to come to the library with him that same day. Innocent Lariat thinks it should be fine for friends to go to the library together, so she agrees to go with him. Mikhail is already feeling pleased with his plan. The servants wouldn't be able to watch them anymore once they leave the mansion. He also believes Azrahan wouldn't dare to follow a lowly deacon and his lover to the library, especially if he values his reputation. Well, you thought wrong, Mikhail, because the Duke has arrived and announces he is coming to the library with them. He glares at Mikhail and asks if there is a problem. In his mind, he feels deeply sad. Lariat just stole his first kiss, and now she wants to go on a library date with another man. The two mages stare at the Duke, who just arrived in surprise. The poor man glares at Lariat. He looks like he is about to cry. Doha greets the Duke with a bow, but he completely ignores him. All his attention is on Lariat. She thought he was supposed to be busy today. It seems our Duke is learning, and he replies that being with her matters more. Immediately, Lariat's heart starts beating faster. He asks if he can come along with them then. The two men stare each other down. Doha never thought the Duke would take things this far, but he is not someone who likes to back down. He agrees to the Duke coming along with them. Azrahan ignores him and asks Hallstein to prepare the carriage. At this moment, the butler has never been prouder of his lord. The carriage is deadly silent. Everyone seems to have their own thoughts. Lariat hopes the two men become friends so they can go on adventures together. Doha is feeling anxious. He has a feeling that he shouldn't go with them. It seems to be a prophecy. He asks if they are going to the royal library, and Azrahan says yes. Doha's fears are confirmed. He can't go to the royal library because so many people know him there. It wouldn't be good if they recognized him. And so he comes up with an excuse not to go with them. He has something he needs to deal with back at the temple. Lariat understands and says he can leave. With that, he leaves the two lovers alone. Lariat is happy to go on a library date with her man. She holds his hand tightly. Azrahan is trying to steady himself. He reminds himself that he is human, not a monster. Nothing can really go wrong with a library date, right? The two have arrived at the library. Of course, Lariat has to tell Azrahan to hold her hand more tightly. He is afraid, though, because her hand is really so soft and fragile. He is afraid he will break it. Now that they are at the library, here comes the ultimate question. What are they supposed to do? She has no idea. It was Doha's suggestion. Anyway, they just have to take a look around first. With that, Lariat runs around while her little tail, Azrahan, follows behind her. She suddenly stops and starts being dramatic while a confused Azrahan watches her. She just can't take it anymore. The way he is following her around is just too cute. She turns around and tells him he doesn't have to follow her. Giving him a hug, she tells him to look around for a book to read instead. The Duke is shy. He says she doesn't have to get so close to speak to him. She reminds him they are in a library. She pushes him away and tells him to go find a book. In her mind, she has thought of a romantic scene for their library date. While she is struggling to get a book from a high shelf, Azrahan will come around to help her. He will even grab her waist. Lariat is so excited to see it happen. She tries to grab a book, hoping Azrahan will see and come help her. And indeed, someone does. Just as Lariat's heart begins to beat fast, she turns around to find not her Azrahan, but a strange guy. He hands her the book she was trying to grab. He even traps her in his arms and tries to come closer. Lariat wonders just where this weirdo came from. She tells him to get off. It seems his pride is wounded, and he calls her ungrateful before running away. Lariat wonders when she needs his help. She is still trying to reach the book when another person shows up again. This time, however, it is indeed her Duke. She asks if he saw, and he asks what exactly. Is it how she was purposely reaching for books that were too high for her? Or how she just chased away another man? Lariat is feeling shy about having her plan exposed. He leans down to whisper into her ear how much he likes it. She has to treat all men like that. She confesses she was terrified he would run away when she realized she was pretending. He tells her that is his business to worry about. But if she ever runs away from home, he will do his best to find her. His words make her heart beat faster, and she promises not to run away from him. But that is a promise she is going to break soon. The couple seems to be having a good class after their date. They are talking about brownies and which version of them tastes better. Lariat is very happy with their date. It was a new experience, and they had so much fun. She wants them to have brownies as dessert when they get home. Azrahan knows what his girl likes and adds that they should put ice cream on top. She's totally fine with this. Just as they are about to reach the entrance, someone calls her name. She turns back only to see her brother, Ryan Blanche. He asks about her well-being and then gives his greetings to the Duke. Of course, because he is his lady's brother, Azrahan doesn't want him to be too formal. Lariat is not pleased, though, as she wonders why Ryan is here. Her mind is filled with thoughts of what he will say and how he is going to put her down this time. She is panicking as she doesn't want him to insult her in front of Azrahan. She doesn't want the Duke to know how badly her family treats her. She doesn't want his pity. And so, she sends him away. She tells him to go back home because she still wants to chat with her brother. Azrahan wants to wait for her. She doesn't agree, citing the excuse that it might take too much time. The Duke doesn't want to upset her, so he agrees and leaves. Now alone, Ryan can show his nasty character. He mocks her for hanging out with Azrahan. He calls him a monster. He asks Lariat if she has been living as his pet all this time. This makes our girl angry, and she warns him to watch what he says, otherwise she will bury him behind the place. Her brother isn't afraid and accuses her of enjoying her life after she destroyed the family. He says she has brought so much shame to their name. Lariat is surprised that their family can even get worse than it already is. Ryan says their mother is really sick because of her. He mocks her for trying to become something just because she knows a bit of magic. In fact, all she has managed to do is live off the monster Duke. He orders her to return home because there is nothing she can accomplish outside of their home. Lariat interrupts his stupid speech and tells him she doesn't care. They are no longer a family, so their business is none of her concern. Feeling embarrassed because she talked back at him, Ryan suddenly slaps Lariat on the face. The slap is so powerful, she falls to the floor. People around have already gathered to see what is happening. Our Lariat can't believe it. Ryan just hit her. It makes her feel nauseous because he doesn't even know why she ran away from home. And yet he dared to slap her. She glares at him, but he tells her to stop trying to be better than him. She is younger, so she can only remain less than him. She should stop trying to challenge him. Although she wants to, Lariat knows things will only get worse if she uses magic inside the palace. Plus, she doesn't want any more rumors to spread. If it does, Azrahan would find out. She doesn't want him to know she was hit by her family. She finds it humiliating, but that doesn't mean she's not going to do anything. She promises Ryan that she will end their family line once and for all. And with that, she kicks him in the crotch. It is such a strong kick. Ryan can even hear the sounds of eggs breaking. After getting her revenge, Lariat scolds him for being worthless while he kneels before her. It is only then that she notices the crowd. All of them are wondering if that thing really broke. Someone even said he heard a crack. Out of shame, our girl hides her face and runs away. Lariat seems to have gone to find a mage to heal her injury, although she has been waiting for over 2 hours. The mage starts the healing and says her bone was fractured. Lariat checks her face after, but it still looks puffy and swollen. The mage says that is the best she can do. If Lariat wanted to be completely healed, she should have hired an advanced healer or a priest. Lariat is surprised by how weak basic healers are. She doesn't want to go home like this because she doesn't want Azrahan to find her embarrassing. But she doesn't have any other money to hire another healer. She starts to cry on the street, remembering that she was supposed to have brownies with Azrahan. What should she do? Suddenly, someone taps her from behind. It turns out to be someone she knows, a Lady Charvet. The lady is worried about Lariette being alone at this late hour. She can't give an answer, so the lady invites her to her boutique. She even has a present prepared for her. The two women are back at the boutique. Lady Charvet is busy fixing up Lariette's hair. She has prepared one of their popular hats for Lariette and also wants to do her hair. She starts telling Lariette that she has met a lot of people since she started this business, and each and every one of them has their own story. Some would visit after a long day, while others would come after a long week. By now, she has fixed Lariette up so that her hair hides the mark on her face. Lady Charvet knows Lariette might be having a bad day, so she wants to use this to make her day end on a good note. She gives her a hug and promises that tomorrow will be better. Her words move Lariette so deeply that she begins to cry as she thanks the woman. Lariette has finally realized that the woman knew who she was when she first saw her. The lady admits she did, but she never had a chance to introduce herself properly until now. Lariette had never had the chance to get close to Lady Charvet before, because the lady is very close to the princes whom Ryan had once been engaged to. However, the princes broke off that engagement within just a few days of meeting Ryan. And well, we all know the reason why. Because Ryan has always been jealous of Lariette. She couldn't get close to the princess or Madame Charvet. But not anymore. She tells the madam she is no longer Blanche, so the woman can call her by name. This seems to please the lady more. Lariette is glad she left the Blanche house. Now she can make some new friends. Lariette has arrived at the Candel mansion, but what she meets is total chaos. Everywhere there are servants running around. The butler opens the door and is so glad to see her. It turns out they were looking for her, but now that she's back, they are very relieved. Halstein is so worried that Lariette doesn't know what to say. She didn't expect them to greet her like this. When she thinks things can't get any worse, here comes the Duke. Azrahan is very worried as he comes running down the stairs. She remembers Lady Charvette's words and doesn't want things to keep being sad, so she apologizes for coming back late. Azrahan isn't comforted and wants to know if she is hurt. She denies it. The chat with her brother just went on longer than it was supposed to, especially since she had not seen her family for a while. Then she went to the boutique to linger. She didn't realize it had gotten so late. Azrahan looks very sad as he tells her how worried he was. He soon looks happy because she's here now and they can go inside. The happy mood doesn't last, however, because he suddenly notices the wound on her face. Immediately, his face turns into a demon's, and he demands to know what happened to her. At this point, our girl knows it is over. Azrahan wants to know who did it. Who dared to lay a finger on his woman? Lariette is torn. She doesn't know whether to tell him, pretend nothing happened, or lie and say she fell. Her excuse isn't needed, because Azrahan has figured everything out. Just by looking at the wound, he can tell she was hit by a bare fist, and it happened half a day ago. He can even tell she went to a basic healer to have it healed. Lariette is in awe, wondering how he found out. Well, he has just seen plenty of injuries like this. She remembers what he did to Marcus Seagrove, however, and is afraid he will harm the person who did it to her. He tells her he won't go easy on the person if he finds them. She doesn't want him to, and says so. She promises to take care of this problem by herself. After all, she is very strong. She apologizes for making him worry. She doesn't want to waste what little time she still has with Azrahan on little things like this. Azrahan finally gives up, but he wants her to treat the wound properly. He offers to call a reverend for her. Lariette is satisfied with that. Back in his office, Azrahan is not as calm and agreeable as before. He calls Gerard, the captain of his shadow army, and orders him to find out who attacked Lariette. He wants to know who hit his woman after he left, and also, he has to find out everything going on with the Blanche family. He really hopes he is worried for nothing. Over at the Eltion Temple in the Grand Meeting Room, a serious meeting seems to be going on. It is the most important meeting of the year, where the High Priest and all the other highly ranked priests meet. And yet, at this serious meeting, all Mikhail can think of is how boring it is. Just then, the door to the room is pushed open, and his assistant, Joshua, steps in. He announces he has a message for the priest. Seeing this, the man sitting to Mikhail's left immediately yells at the poor assistant. He even seizes the moment to scold Mikhail. He tells him that even if he is a candidate for the next pope, he has to control his servants. Mikhail smirks and says he really needs to better control his people, seeing as the man can order him about. Mikhail is obviously saying he needs to be controlled. This makes the man really angry. He claims he was in the temple even before Mikhail was born. Our priest isn't concerned and asks when the temple started to care about how long you have served. He asks his assistant to come over. Joshua tells him the Duke Candel has sent a message. They need him to come because Lariette is feeling unwell. Hearing this, how can our priest stay still? Of course he has to leave the meeting. He says he has another thing to attend to and leaves the hall. He ignores the man yelling behind him. It is the same man as before, and he doesn't think Mikhail should have the right to become pope. He is too young and uncultured. He calls him a commoner, recognized only for his divine talent. Another priest agrees with him, saying that the man speaking Hivralfaro should be the priest. The need to do something about Mikhail. Mikhail has no idea his subordinates are planning against him. He has just arrived at the Duke's mansion and sees a happy Lariette sitting outside and playing. She seems really happy to see him. He smiles at her, but that smile changes when he sees the mark on her face. He demands to know who did this to her. In this moment, we are drawn into a tense scene as Doha questions Lariette, asking who hurt her and why she is like this. She quietly wonders why he is acting this way. Then Azrahan presses further, asking if it was the Duke, but she quickly denies it, saying he would never do such a thing. Doha steps in again with a cold tone, saying that if it had been him, he would not be alive for long, and then moves even closer, demanding to know the truth. She avoids his gaze and looks away. He begins to think deeply, wondering who could make her stay silent, since she is protected by the next pope and the warmonger Duke Candle. He even admits in his thoughts that the chase excites him, but once he finds out, the fun ends. He does not know when it will be his turn, since the Duke might handle it first. Then, Azrahan softens his voice, telling her not to move too much because she is still hurt. She responds by thanking Doha, which already feels strange. Honestly, this mix of concern and control is already raising red flags. Doha thinks that she is the only one who can heal him, and that they are the only ones who can heal each other. It would be hard if she keeps getting hurt. He gently asks for her wrist, places a bracelet on it, and explains it has divine magic with a small healing effect. She should always wear it. She feels it is too expensive, but he calls it a gift of friendship. She quietly thinks it is wasted on her. She thanks him and apologizes for not preparing anything. He tells her there is no need, saying spending time with her is enough. Yet in his mind, he reveals the truth. The bracelet watches her health and will call him if she is in danger. He admits he is deceiving her and should be the one apologizing. As the scene shifts, we see Azrahan alone, reading a book about relationships. He learns that going too fast can lead to boredom. This thought shocks him, and he wonders if things are already getting boring. He suddenly imagines Lariette rejecting him, calling him a monster and saying she wants to leave. This thought terrifies him so much that he swears he will never let her go, no matter what. In the next scene, Lariette is in his office, placing her hands on his chest to purify him. She thinks it was better to come here instead of his bedroom because she is not ready emotionally, while he watches and forces himself to endure. When she finishes, he asks if she is okay. She says she is just a little tired. He hides his desire, thinking he wants to touch her but cannot in this state. He fears she might get bored of him and believes this is the only way to keep her. Suddenly, she brings a book close to his face and asks if they can cook together as a couple. He pulls back, saying she is too close. This makes her ask if he dislikes it. Then she presses her lips to his hand, shocking him. He pulls away and calls her name. She calmly asks if he is ready, and he agrees. A new scene begins where a perfect kitchen is set for them, ready for a soft and close cooking time together. We see Azrahan standing there, his mind filled with voices and images. He first hears Halstein in his head, calling for marriage, then Chloe's voice, and finally Lariette speaks aloud, handing him an apron and telling him to wear it. He puts it on, noticing it does not seem to fit. She imagines him wearing it without a shirt and calls it cute, before tossing it away and suggesting they cook without it. Azrahan clenches his fist, thinking that now is the time to talk. He fears that if he waits longer, he might lose the chance to tell her to take things slow before she grows bored of him. He shyly asks Lariette if they can take it slow for a bit, turning his face away. He thinks how funny it is to say this after promising not to hold back next time. She vaguely agrees, and his eyes widen as he thanks her for understanding. Both begin thinking their own thoughts. He is speaking about slowing their physical intimacy, but she understands it as taking things slow with cooking. She reassures him again, and they finally start cooking together. Unexpected moments happen, like when she almost throws the bread away, making him laugh. They continue giggling through the kitchen until the food is ready. Then she stands in front of him, holding a fork with food, trying to feed him a strawberry, shocking him. As he opens his mouth, she quickly removes it, holding his chin to attempt a kiss, saying he has something on his lips. Isn't this romantic? At this moment, we see Lariette leaning closer, using her tongue to lick the food stain from Azrahan's face, and he does not speak. She smiles and thinks that the kiss they had after drinking wasn't enough to be their real first kiss, and she feels this is the perfect moment. She puts the strawberry in her mouth and asks him to clean her lips too. He looks at her, almost about to do it, but then stops, saying this is too much. His eyes widen as he asks if she is really okay with it, while in his mind he worries that she might get bored of him, feeling terrified and ashamed that he seems to be the only one concerned. He drops his head, calling himself pathetic. and she calls his name. He immediately stands up, uses a hanky to clean her mouth, and tells her he will leave first. She is shocked and repeats the word, wondering if he is running away again. The next morning, Lariat is seen reading a book while the maid helps her get dressed. She thinks they will have a proper conversation today and wonders why he ran away again, determined not to let him do it this time, since she is great at domesticating wild animals. She walks into his office and sees him reading a newspaper. He greets her with good morning, and she asks if she is back to being called Mage and why he uses that name again. He does not reply, and she asks if he is upset, to which he says, no. She then apologizes lightly, saying he is so cute, and he responds that there are other cute things too. He feels embarrassed for acting childish, but is relieved that she finds him cute, though he still fears she might get tired of him someday. At the same time, she thinks that he looks so cute trying to hide his blush and that he is handsome. I would have melted seeing that too. At this moment, Lariat calls out to Azrahan, and he notices her, asking why she is speaking like that. She presses him to explain why he is upset, and he hesitates, thinking that if he tells her, she might leave him. He feels pathetic for worrying so much, aware that she is kind and lovable while he considers himself a monster, and he knows he should be grateful just for her attention. Nevertheless, he decides he has no choice but to speak up. He tells her that she ignored his request, and she looks confused, asking what request. He hides behind the newspaper and explains that he asked her yesterday to take things slow in their relationship. She suddenly recalls the moment and realizes that she had misunderstood him, thinking he meant to go slow in the kitchen, not in their relationship. Hearing this, he hides his face even more and apologizes to her, calling himself an idiot. She playfully touches him, teasing that he was angry because she ignored his request, and reminds him of his words about there being no interruptions next time. Then she laughs, asking where the Azrahan who said that has gone. He stands up ready to walk away, but she holds his hand, questioning if he is running away again. He pleads for her to let him go, saying she is hurting him, but she teases that she doesn't want him to leave and asks where he plans to escape to. When he insists she is hurting him, she releases her grip, and he immediately runs away. Lariat thinks that now he is lying and running again. Later, we see him panting from running, reflecting that it was already embarrassing to have misunderstood her, but now it feels even more humiliating to flee like this. The next day, Lariat runs after Azrahan, teasing him about whether she should even ask to hold his hand, and warning him to tell her if he plans to run away so she can prepare her heart. She thinks it is so much fun teasing him. Then she tells him to come back safely, and he promises he will. She warns him not to run away just because he feels embarrassed while walking, and he assures her it won't happen. She waves as he enters the carriage, and it takes off. On getting to the location, one of the guards asks if he told Lady Blanche he was going to the palace, and he replies that he purposely didn't. When they enter the building, they find Lariat's brother, Noah, tied up on the floor. Azrahan loosens the cloth on his mouth, greets him, and then punches him, scolding him for daring to touch Lariat, someone precious to him, and continues beating him. Clenching his fists, he tells him he has no intention of killing him yet, explaining that he spared him only because he hasn't asked Lariat first. A few days later, Lariat is eating when she realizes that since she has been teasing him, they haven't made much progress in their relationship, and she worries about the 3-month dating contract with only 10 weeks left. She asks how slow-moving slowly really is, and he says he wants to go as slowly as possible. She wonders just how slow it can get, then suddenly breaks a plate, declaring she wants to do everything with him quickly. The maids are shocked, and the butler, Hallstein, takes them outside. Azrahan asks what she wants to do, and she says everything. Hugs, kisses, and even getting intimate. He immediately puts bread in her mouth, explaining that his body is rotting, his skin decaying, and his chest is full of scars. He fears she would run away if she saw him and confesses that this is why intimacy is hard for him. She tells him she will work harder to fix him so he can touch her without worries, comes closer, holds his hands, and asks if he is okay with it. He agrees, feeling a strange, hot feeling inside, an indescribable burst. She says hugging is okay, and suggests doing it every day, then hugs him. He wonders, is this love? In the next scene, we see our girl lying on her bed, thinking about how she needs to clarify things with Azrahan quickly. She realizes she hasn't healed his upper body yet, and knows she is the only one who can cure him. She wonders who could have put such a curse on him, and thinks it must be a wizard who hates him, imagining how hard it must have been for him even to be in a relationship with her. Then a sudden thought strikes her. She recalls how he always reacts and wonders if she is not his first love. She reminds herself that she is not looking for a serious relationship, but something casual for just 3 months, and she decides she must investigate to find out the truth. The next day, she peeps at Hallstein from behind, but he quickly notices someone is following him and turns, asking if she wants to ask something. She is surprised he knows, and he replies that these are basic virtues of a butler. She tells him it's nothing special, just about Azrahan. He brightens and asks what she wants to know, thinking it is about a happy life as a duchess. but she stops him and asks if Azarhan has ever been in a relationship before. He hesitates, knowing he must answer carefully for the sake of succession, then decides a white lie is best and says he's not sure but doesn't think so. She wonders if she asked a silly question, and he reassures her it's not, and they both bow to each other. She leaves, hopping and singing with excitement, clearly feeling a mix of relief and curiosity. While hopping, Lariat spots Azarhan and calls out to him. He runs toward her and immediately hugs her, lifting her, then puts her safely back on her feet. He warns her that running in the hallway is dangerous. She asks if he was on his way to see her, and he confirms that he was heading to her room. She smiles and asks for a hug, reminding him that he agreed to a hug a day. He hesitates, saying the hallways are crowded and open, so they should wait for another time. She pulls him away into an enclosed room and comes closer, stretching her feet slightly while hugging him, smiling. She thinks to herself that he might not know the full meaning of what he is doing, while he suddenly pulls back and asks if it is enough, making her face light up. She admits the hug was short but says she is satisfied. He begins sweating and thinks to himself that he didn't get caught. She also thinks he is a vigorous young man and feels relieved that there's no need to worry about more than the hug. Then, noticing the bracelet he has been wearing lately, she comments that it is pretty and mentions Doha gave it to her as a gift. She immediately regrets speaking without thinking. He thinks he should have removed it sooner and remembers advice from a relationship guidebook, which says that being jealous too often can tire a lover. He struggles internally, deciding he must pretend not to be jealous, and wonders if Lariat will dislike his reaction. As he stands lost in thought, she interrupts by explaining that the bracelet is a gift, enchanted with divine magic for good health. He responds that he understands. Bro is definitely jealous. The next day, we see Azarhan and Lariat together again. He tells her that giving gifts between friends is okay, and she looks at him, surprised and happy. He forces a smile and confirms it, adding that when he is busy, she can spend time with that person. She stretches out her hands to hug him again and tells him he is the best. He smiles at her. Later, he mentions that there is friction between the Karshan Empire and the neighboring kingdom of Danube, and that he must go to the palace immediately because the matter is important. She smiles and wishes him a safe trip, then notices him sweating and asks if he needs to go to the bathroom. He turns his face away, saying it's something else. Then he puts a brooch on her hair, arranging it behind her head, and says it's just a gift that looks good on her. She thanks him and thinks to herself that he is jealous of the bracelet, finding it cute. She reminds him that he should be leaving for the palace, and he stutters before agreeing. Before walking away, he turns back and hugs her, calling it the sweetest hug, leaving both of them blushing as he heads to the carriage. As he sits in the carriage and waves at her, we shift to the palace, where Doha appears in front of Lariat. He notices the new accessory in her hair and compliments it. She thanks him and asks if they should go outside. He hesitates, asking if the Duke will be okay with it, and she reassures him that it is fine because the Duke trusts her a lot. Doha wonders why he is annoyed by this. After the treatments, Lariat and Doha go downtown together. Doha teases her, asking if she is really going to pay today, and she insists since he bought last time, so it's her turn now. She says she will buy anything he wants, and he smiles, asking for the bracelet from last time. She hesitates, thinking it might be too cheap, but he reassures her that it's perfect because she picked it out for him. She ends up buying it, and when he struggles to put it on, she helps him, reminding him to ask if something is difficult. He thanks her, saying it is very pretty. Then he notices something on her hand, and she tells him it is a gift for Azarhan. He thinks about it quietly, realizing she will also give a gift to him. He speaks up, mentioning that he heard a strange rumor, and she wonders if it's about what happened with Noah. He tells her about the Duke of Kendall cutting off Viscount Seagrav's arm at the theater, implying it was because the Viscount harmed the Duke's partner. She realizes it refers to her, and worries her parents might hear and demand something, because she left them for Azarhan. Just as her thoughts spiral, Doha lifts her chin, asking if she is okay, and she reassures him that she is fine. He comforts her, holding her hands and reminding her to trust him as her exclusive priest. She teases him about being low-level, and he jokes about getting promoted while promising to always protect her. She laughs and agrees, but suddenly the building beside them begins to crumble, falling toward both of them. As the rocks are about to fall on them, Lariat realizes she only knows basic magic defense and that it's dangerous. She knows there is a chance they might die. She thinks she is going to die, but Doha won't, so she decides she can save him. Layering her magic might work, she shields him while another rock is about to fall on her. In that moment, she thinks of Azarhan's face. When the rocks finish crumbling, a crowd gathers to see what happened. Lariat opens her eyes and sees Doha holding her, both still under a magic shield, and she thinks she's not dead. Doha immediately asks if she is crazy, and she replies that he didn't get hurt. He tells her not to move, but she explains that her magic is weak, and if it breaks, they will be crushed, yet she is continuously casting the spell. Doha lifts one thumb and all the rocks are pushed away from them on the cliffs. He asks why she did such a foolish thing, and she answers that it was because they are friends. Doha thinks she is out of her mind, having risked her life to save him after meeting him only a few times. He can't understand why she would protect him if it could mean death, since he doesn't believe in self-sacrifice or goodwill. After the danger passes, Doha tells Lariat she truly did that for him, and she quickly changes the mood, saying it's a relief that they both survived and weren't hurt. She comments on how amazing it is that he can blow up new rooms, joking that soon it will become a flatland. He asks if she feels hot while helping her to stand, and she says she's alright, checking on him as well. He reassures her that he is okay since her magic was wrapped around him, though he feels frustrated because she seems fine despite her wounds. He warns her that she almost died, and she calmly responds that everyone dies anyway. He heals her injuries and she thanks him, but he insists she can't die and draws her closer, thinking that even if she is thinking of another man, she cannot die without his permission. He tells her not to get hurt recklessly, and she realizes he must have been surprised by what happened. Looking around, he notes that no building, no matter how old, should collapse so suddenly, and something is clearly wrong. Lariat notices his unusual anger and wonders if he suspects a trap, reflecting that humans naturally have a greedy nature, but she's glad he's safe. Later, back in the manor in the evening, Lariat arrives home, and Azrahan immediately asks where she has been. She runs to him, noting he's back early, and hugs him, saying this is today's hug. He smiles and asks if she didn't hug him in the morning, and she quickly lies that she doesn't know and doesn't remember, continuing the hug. Suddenly, he notices something unusual, and asks if she got into an accident, leaving the scene tense and full of curiosity. How on earth does he know that? Back in the manor, Azrahan notices something off and says he smells some debts for her, and Lariat immediately thinks to herself, "What are you? A hound?" She worries that if she tells him the truth, he won't let it go, and will worry even more than he already does. To keep him calm, she quickly explains that it isn't what he thinks, and that she fell down the streets by accident. He immediately asks if she is hurt anywhere, and she replies that she only has a few scratches, but Doha patched her up so she's completely fine. He looks around carefully, checking for injuries, and she thinks, yes, he really is nothing. Then he smiles and asks if she had fun today, and she happily says she did, hugging him tightly and adding that she likes being with him even more. He responds quietly, and she thinks to herself, heavens, just how is he so adorable? She reflects that she must purify his curse quickly because it has caused him so much suffering, and that she will do everything she can in these 3 months of their relationship to make him happy. She recalls how the near accident with the collapsing building made her realize that if she disappeared before finishing the purification, the only life he could have would be misery. Determined, she resolves that she cannot let that happen, and will break him free from the curse no matter what the cost. I have to say, the weight of responsibility she feels for him is intense and heartfelt. In the room, Lariat sits on top of Azrahan with a hand on his chest, telling him she'll start now. He asks if she's sure because she doesn't look well, but she immediately begins the purification, thinking to herself that she isn't okay at all. Her mana is drained from saving herself and Doha, yet she pushes forward, determined to purify the curse no matter what. Suddenly, he holds her as she falls onto his chest, asking if she's all right. And she says she's fine. He mutters that he should have covered her, and she quietly mutters about being in hot water. When she mentions wanting a bath, he carries her, saying he'll tell the maids to run some water. Holding his drink, she pulls her face closer and asks him to stay with her while she beats the curse, saying she just wants some company and will stay clothed. He looks at her, worried, thinking she looks so ill, and realizes she came to make him feel better even though it hurts him to see her like this. I would have thought the same if I were in his place. It's hard to watch someone you care about push themselves like that. Later, Lariat is in the bath while he faces the other direction, checking if the water temperature is enough. She says it's fine but questions if this is really necessary, and he insists it is for his sake. She holds his hand and says she is warning him it, adding that if he runs away, she'll also run. He turns around in shock, asking if she's serious, and she quickly clarifies she meant the mansion, laughing as if they are playing tag. He apologizes for misunderstanding and then imagines a scenario where he might tie her up, making her laugh and call it a joke. Finally, she asks him to help wash her body, and he is completely shocked, saying, "What? Low-key, I wish I was the one in that position." As we stay in the bath scene, Azrahan begins to sweat the moment Lariat asks for help, and his mind starts racing as he thinks about washing her. However, she quickly clears it up, saying she only meant her hair, smiling in a calm way. He feels relieved at once and agrees, even though he still feels nervous. As he washes her hair, he suddenly notices a scar on her neck and asks about it. She calmly explains that when she was young, Noah pushed her down the stairs and she rolled all the way down, yet he lied that she tried to push him first. Moreover, she shares that her parents believed him and got very angry, seeing her as someone trying to challenge him for succession. She then brushes it off, saying it is nothing much, even laughing lightly, but he thinks deeply and feels anger, realizing he should have done more to Noah. She continues, saying she was locked in a room as punishment, remembering how she stared at the closed door while crying and begging for it to be opened. Yet her mother said it was a fitting punishment to build patience, so all she could do was endure and wait. At that point, I'm honestly thinking, that is way too cruel for a child, because everything she went through feels unfair and heavy. Then, as if changing the mood, Lariat gently touches her hair and asks if he dislikes her hair color, recalling that someone once said it hurt their eyes to see her pink hair. He reacts immediately with anger, asking who dared to say such a thing and declaring that he would rip off their tongue. The moment feels intense yet protective, and we clearly see how much he cares, even if he struggles to show it softly. We remain with Lariat and Azrahan as she stops him and asks him to simply answer her question, and he says there is no way he could dislike her hair color. She smiles and asks if he truly likes it, and he confirms it again. Then she moves closer and asks if her hair is pretty, and he says yes once more. Yet she pushes further and asks if it is only her hair. At that point, he tells her that everything about her is beautiful, and she holds his hand and asks if he can kiss the places he finds beautiful. His eyes widen, yet he looks at her, leans in and kisses her hair, saying there is no place that is not lovely. He then lifts her hand and kisses it too, asking if that means he has to kiss her everywhere. She tells him to start with the place he finds most lovely, and so he pulls her closer and kisses her on the lips. She responds that he did well and says they will kiss again next time. Yep, I would have paused there too because that moment feels too soft to rush. A few days later, we are taken to the boutique where Lariat and Azrahan stand outside, and she suggests having a drink with dinner later. Yet he reminds her they only came to buy clothes. She then asks him to help her put on her clothes, but he says Madame Charbet can assist her instead. She calls him mean and hits his hand, but then quickly reacts in pain, wondering if she just punched a rock. And he calmly thanks her for the massage, saying it felt great, which is actually funny. I won't lie, that part would make me laugh too. However, the mood shifts when he notices someone in the background holding a sign asking for help, and it turns out to be Gerard. He quickly apologizes and asks her to go eat first while he handles something, then she enters the boutique barbershop alone. Inside, she sees Madame Charb speaking with another customer, and suddenly we realize it is her mother, the Duchess of Blanche, who calls out to her in surprise, recognizing her as her daughter. At this point, we stay in the boutique as Lariat faces the Duchess of Blanche and says it has been a long time. The woman rushes to hug her, asking where she has been and saying she was worried. She quickly removes her hand from her shoulder and questions that worry, pointing out that she came to the store right after being massaged with luxury nourishing oil. Moreover, when her mom tries to explain that it is because she is a duke's wife, she cuts in and says there was no missing report about her during that time. The woman turns her face and says she could not do anything by herself, yet she clenches her fist and challenges that, asking if she truly could not do anything. And when the answer is no, she tells her to stop making excuses because she chose not to act. The apology comes, but she only looks at her with a hard face and thinks she cannot take it anymore. Then suddenly turns and runs away while the Duchess calls after her again and again. Honestly, I would have walked away too because that kind of excuse is hard to accept. Then, as she rushes out of the boutique, Azrahan quickly catches her hand and calls her name, asking who made her cry while wiping her tears. Yet she smiles a little and denies it, saying she only came because she missed him so much. Even though he knows she is lying, she asks him to go home, repeating it again, and as they leave, she wonders in her mind if there is truly a place she can call home, even thinking that maybe not having much time left to live might be a good thing. A few days later, we see that something feels off as he notices she has been acting strange, and while standing at the door, he asks about today's hug. She responds casually, walks up, and hugs him without excitement, which makes him think it is not normal since he always pays attention to her. However, even with that worry, he still has to attend a meeting about the war. And as her lover, he quietly hopes she will open up and tell him what is troubling her. We are now taken to Lariat sitting quietly by the window, holding a letter sent by her mom. And as she reads it, we understand it is an apology, even though it is the first letter. The message explains there is a reason for writing and promises it will not happen again, while also saying there is regret for letting her go like that before. Moreover, it asks her to come and meet at 5 p.m. at the Almea restaurant. And after reading all this, she squeezes the letter and lowers her head, wondering why this is happening now. Then, as if time moves quickly, we arrive at the restaurant where it is already 5 o'clock, and Chloe shows up while Lariat also arrives. Her mom sees her and says she is glad she came. Then she sits down at the table as food is offered to her, being told it may be a little cold but still delicious. However, at that moment, a painful memory returns, where she was once told not to eat too much, that she would be worthless if she gained weight, and that Noah did not want to eat with her, so she should go eat in her room. She remembers all this while looking at her, and then calmly says she only came to talk. That kind of memory would make it hard for me to even sit there. Then her mom begins to apologize again, saying she made many mistakes and does not even know where to start, admitting she did not take care of her and regretting it deeply. Furthermore, she explains that it was only after she left that she realized how much she should have appreciated her, even placing a hand on her chest as she speaks. She continues, saying that after she was gone, everything changed. Her husband's drinking became worse, and she was always scolded. And only then did she understand that when she was sick, the only one who came to care for her was Lariat. At that moment, we realize she still does not know about Lariat's illness, and she also thinks the same before suddenly standing up and saying she heard the apology but will not come back. As she turns to leave, her mom lowers her head into her hands and says she truly means it, and this makes her stop and turn back in shock, asking what she just said. Just when we think the moment might calm down, suddenly a hand appears from nowhere and slaps Lariat, and she falls to the ground and loses consciousness. Right after that, the Duke of Blanche, her father, steps forward and says that apologizing is not the way to bring back a daughter who has already left. Then time passes, and she wakes up at night, only to find her hands chained. As she stays on the floor, she realizes even the handcuffs have magic, and she thinks about how they truly imprisoned their own daughter. Moreover, she reflects that she has nothing to eat and no energy, and just like before, she still cannot do anything. This is just cruel, and there is no other way to see it. Then, as she lies there, she suddenly hears a voice from behind the door calling her name, and she quickly realizes it is Anne, shouting back to her. On the other side, she responds and asks if she is okay, and says she must be hungry, yet she insists she is fine, and instead asks how she has been since that time. In response, she says she's fine but explains that Martha is very angry and will not let her go, even blocking all the ways back, and promises she will try her best to save her while crying. However, she tells her not to worry because she might get punished too, but she refuses to back down, saying she already regrets not helping before and will not regret again. She then decides to go speak to Joel and steal the key, asking her to wait and take care of herself, and as she walks away, she calls out to her in panic, banging on the door and warning her not to do it because she might get caught. But then she realizes she's already gone. I have a bad feeling about this plan already. As we continue, we see Lariat leaning on the door as the light reflects on her face, and suddenly the door opens and pushes her to the ground. Then, as she looks up, she sees the Duke of Blanche and her brother Noah standing there, and at that moment she begins to think about his face, not knowing what happened to it but strangely liking it. However, her father quickly speaks, saying he locked her up so she could think. Yet she still refuses to change her mind. In response, she stands her ground and says she did nothing wrong, even looking straight into his eyes. Consequently, he repeats her words in anger and slaps her just as she tries to defend herself. And as if that was not enough, he raises his hand again and strikes her once more, causing her to fall to the ground again. Then, as he continues, he reminds her that he spent money to raise her. Yet she dared to run away to what he calls a monster's house, accusing her of trying to make people laugh at him and blaming that same person for what happened to Noah's face. And he warns her not to think of leaving until she admits her mistake before walking away. Meanwhile, her brother stays behind, laughing at her, and then walks closer, speaking about how humiliated he felt because of her actions. After that, he grabs her by her clothes, but in a sudden reaction, she bites his hand. Nice work, Lariat. He deserves it. As we continue, we see Noah sitting on the floor, trembling and holding the place he was bitten. And as he looks at Lariat, fear takes over him, so he turns and runs away while shouting for Joel to lock the door at once. Moreover, as he runs, he keeps saying that living with that monster Duke has made her crazy, and then he questions Joel, saying their father must be right, because he already said she has gone mad like that monster. Consequently, Joel shuts the door, leaving her alone inside. After that, she lies on the floor and begins to think about Asrahan, remembering his smile and the way he hugs her. And as those thoughts fill her heart, she admits she misses him so much. Suddenly, she hears Anne's voice from outside, saying someone has come to help her. And as she looks up, the name Duke Candel is revealed. At the same time, we see Asrahan step into the house, and Duke Blanche questions why he came without notice, even calling him rude. Yet despite that, Drake, his guard, comments that the man is full of himself, and he agrees by calmly saying he came to take his lover. However, the Duke refuses to understand and accuses him of trying to take his daughter without permission, but he firmly replies that it would be better to let her go easily because he will do anything to take her back. This is the kind of entrance that gives chills. Then, in another moment, Lariat stands up in shock, wondering why he is there, and Anne explains that Joel informed him. As a result, she realizes he came because of her, and quickly pulls down the curtains, wraps them around her hands, and breaks the window before rushing to the balcony and calling out to him. Then she ties the curtain, throws it down, and jumps, using her magic to float as he runs toward her and catches her. Finally, as he holds her, his anger rises, and as he turns to face Duke Blanche, his expression changes, and he declares he will kill anyone who dares to make her suffer like this. And at that moment, I won't lie, that warning feels very real. As we continue, we see Asrahan growing even more furious, and the tension rises. Yet at that very moment, Lariat gently calls his name and calms him down, placing her head on his and saying, "It is fine. and that she wants to go home. Their home. Consequently, his eyes widen in surprise, and without hesitation, he agrees that they should return to their home. Meanwhile, Duke Blanche is left startled, and as if that was not enough, he shouts after them, asking where they are taking his daughter, yet he receives no reply as the man simply looks at him in silence. In that instant, the Duke thinks to himself that it looks like she is the one who has been hurt. So he is only realizing this now, after everything. That is just annoying. At the same time as Lariat glances behind, she notices Joel, and silently gives thanks, and then feels deep gratitude, thinking about how much he has always helped her and how she will never forget what he has done. As a result, the moment feels heavy yet calm, and without delay, Azrahan places her into the carriage and the boots follow into it as they prepare to leave. In the next scene, we see Lariat resting on the bed, and Azrahan is right beside her. He says he will call the doctor, and she thanks him. Moreover, while he holds her, she thanks him again for coming for her, and this hits him deeply. He begins to think that even though her injury is so bad, she still does not blame him. Instead, she thanks him, and as if that is not enough, he also thinks about how he wanted to destroy that family for hurting her. Then he lowers his head onto her chest and says he's sorry for coming late. She gently lifts his face and asks if she can kiss him because she really wants to. He agrees, and they kiss. Furthermore, as he touches her, she reacts, and he asks if she's hot, yet she tells him not to stop, and they continue kissing. Then she calls his name, and he looks at her and asks if she is tired, but then admits it is not enough for him and asks if he can kiss her more, saying no matter how much he kisses her, it still does not feel like enough. At this point, he thinks deeply that if he can, he wants to keep all of her to himself. Then Lariat tells Azrahan that she likes him, and at the same time, she thinks in her mind that she truly likes him. Even though she knows they may have to break up soon, and she knows how things might end, yet she still loves him deeply. He says the same back to her, and they keep kissing. In addition, he begins to think that he wants to stay with her every night, and for the first time in his life, he looks forward to the next day. He realizes every day now feels precious, and just one sentence from her can take him to heaven or hell. He also feels pain just by seeing her wounds, and he believes that no words in the world are enough to explain how he feels. Therefore, in his heart, he decides that he will love her with all his life. This kind of love is rare, and you can feel it strongly in this moment. In the room, Azrahan is on top of Lariat, and she thinks in her mind if her body is still good enough to do anything. She wonders if she can, but he quickly tells her that he is about to lose his mind, yet they have to heal her wound first. He explains that this is not the right time, and that he is trying to hold back as much as he can. At the same time, he thinks in his mind that he is afraid his body might hurt her. Lariat listens and agrees to do as he says, trusting him. He calls out her name, about to kiss her again, and just when it seems like the moment might continue, Hallstein, Azrahan's butler, steps in, calling out that someone has arrived. Both of them freeze, confused and unsure what to do next, as the interruption suddenly changes the tension in the room. In the next scene, Doha stands in front of Lariat, his anger clear as he asks who dared to hurt her. He places his hands on his waist, reminding her that he told her not to get hurt, and then suddenly realizes he gave her a note late. As he looks at her, he thinks how annoying it is that others could hold her where he cannot, especially noticing her lips. He picks her up and begins healing her with magic, asking if it could be her lover, and she quickly says no, explaining that it was because she was kidnapped. He smiles, thinking about the kidnapping and Azrahan's promise to protect her, while also considering the pathetic state of Duke Kendall. He checks her temperature and tells her to wear the wristlet for better healing, noticing the swelling on her face and telling her to stay still. Thinking that she might hate him if she saw the damage, but also not wanting to lose their connection. Chloe makes a sound showing discomfort, and he notices her injuries on the leg where glass is stuck. She insists it's dirty and thinks that she doesn't want him to see her like this, reflecting on how Doha grew up in comfort. Later that night, Azrahan enters the room asking if she is really okay, and she reassures him that the treatment worked and she can handle it. He worries about pushing her too much as he takes off his shirt, which flusters her. He then suggests they try. Showing concern, he says to her, "Then let's try it." In the next scene, Azrahan climbs onto the bed, waiting patiently for Lariat. She takes a stretch and places it on his chest, beginning the purification, and beams of light surround him. She smiles, telling him that his upper body has been purified, and he thanks her, clearly impressed. She says she will purify the whole body soon, but then turns away, thinking about how to handle the lower body, even considering telling him to take off his pants. When she faces him again, she says this part will take longer and suggests they rest first, apologizing for postponing it. He reassures her that it is normal and that he is only afraid she might misunderstand, and she tells him she will go first. Seeing her reaction, he immediately regrets something, while she thinks about the craziness of the moment. Then he suggests they have something to eat, and she agrees. As the night grows darker, we see Lariat lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling, lost in her thoughts. She reflects on everything that happened today, feeling grateful for Azrahan, who came to help her, and Doha, who healed her. She also remembers Anne and Duke Joel, who saved her, thinking about how she wished she could take them along, yet knowing she could not. She struggles with anger at the family that hurt her and wonders why she should dedicate herself to them. Happiness mixes with fear, making her feel worried and afraid of dying. She clenches her fists on the bed sheets, her heart pounding, and a sudden lightning strike scares her. In her mind, she imagines a man about to slap her, and fear takes over. She meekly stands and runs out, crying for help, knocking on the door until Azrahan comes in. Seeing him, she feels a little safer, and he gently asks her what's wrong and urges her to come inside because it's too cold. They sit on the couch and he offers tea, but she doesn't answer immediately. He asks if she's hurt anywhere, and she admits she is only afraid of the thunder, but deep down she realizes she's more afraid of being alone. Another strike of lightning makes her hug him tightly, and his eyes widen in surprise. He holds her close, keeping her safe as she leans into him. I would have hugged him the same way. It's easy to imagine thinking from her point of view, because the fear and relief mix in the moment so naturally. As the night deepens, we see Azrahan holding Lariat close, but his mind drifts back to a battle from earlier in his life. A battle that cost many of his comrades their lives. He remembers one of them begging for help, crying that they didn't want to die like that. The memory tightens his hold on her, making him cling even more. Lariat hesitates, asking if she can sleep there and if he can hold her hands. He asks if she really can't sleep alone, and she reassures him that she will be fine by herself, apologizing for asking too much. She shifts away, but another strike of thunder makes her flinch, and he pulls her back to him. She looks at him and quietly says it's fine now, thanking him for staying. Then he tells her she can sleep in his room, and she expresses her gratitude. They lie on the bed together, and she reassures him that she won't do anything, but he insists he isn't worried. She notices how obvious he is and gently teases him, which makes him plead for her to stop. Eventually, he takes her hand, turns her over, and positions himself above her, still asking her not to let him do anything. His mind races, realizing that she teased him on purpose, hiding her fear and acting strong. He wonders why every time he wants her to rely on him, she endures things on her own. He hopes that if she can give him everything, the insecurities that linger in him will finally vanish. In the next scene, we see Duke Blanche in a fury, throwing a plate to the ground and shouting at Joel, demanding to know why nobody came to help. Joel explains that they tried contacting others, but no priest could come now. The anger of Duke Blanche only grows as he realizes the lady of his family has been severely injured after Lariat's kidnapping. His mind races as he recalls events from before, thinking back to his visit to the guard Drake, who told him she hadn't been injured until yesterday. He considers the rumors about him hitting his own daughter and wonders if controlling the damage would be easier if he acted. Meanwhile, Drake thinks quietly to himself about what Duke Blanche is planning. At that moment, Noah comes from behind, recognizing Drake as Azrahan's guard, and he stumbles, falling from the staircase. Duke Blanche, thinking about his son's injured leg and the absence of Lariat to help, grows frustrated and demands a carriage, insisting he must go to the temple immediately. At the temple, he shouts for Noah to be treated, questioning why so many people cannot handle it and berating their arrogance. Suddenly, Doha appears, asking who is making a fuss, and all the priests immediately bow, calling him Bishop Mikhail. Seeing him, Duke Blanche realizes that the successor pope may be Doha. As Doha inquires about the situation, he thinks to himself that it is finally his turn. In the next scene, Duke Blanche reminds himself that he cannot act embarrassingly in front of someone who will become pope. Noah speaks from behind, questioning the management of the temple, but Duke Blanche apologizes, explaining that his son needs urgent treatment and that he came in a hurry. Noah notices father signaling him, sensing that this is not an ordinary situation. Meanwhile, Doha thinks to himself that he had told the other officials not to come, and he smiles, realizing the assistants had made mistakes. He decides to treat the young master himself. Duke Blanche is thrilled, smiling at the honor, while also thinking to himself whether his son will really be treated by that arrogant bishop and how this relationship with the successor pope might help him regain his former glory. Doha then instructs Noah to follow him, reminding him to watch his manners, and Noah responds obediently, walking behind with his crutches. Once they enter a room and the door closes, Doha asks why he got injured, and Noah explains that he tripped. Doha holds his hand, checking for another injury, and lifts it to show bite marks, thinking even Lariat's teeth marks are cute. Noah drags his hand away, and Doha apologizes, thinking he cannot believe how Lariat treats this man. He stretches his hand toward Noah's head as if to hug him. Noah remarks on Doha's lowly background and success, calling him a son of a prostitute who lived on the streets, which spreads as a rumor. Doha leans his head forward, calling him a stubborn asshole who doesn't know his place, and thinks the punishment given was too easy. He insists that his legs and arms should have been at least cut off and reflects on how clueless he is. I would have been scared too if someone talked to me like that, one might think. noticing how intense Doha's strictness is. Noah, frustrated and angry, calls Doha an asshole and tries to punch him, but he dodges easily, barely moving. Then he uses his leg to make him fall to the ground, and Noah lies there, shocked, thinking, how did he dodge that? Doha explains, thinking about his past, that he struggled to survive on the streets. And this was nothing compared to what he used to face. Noah lies dizzy on the floor, feeling weak, and Doha tells him he has adjusted his magic pulse so that he would explode in 2 months if left untreated. He asks how that feels, teasing him, and Noah shouts that he is a maniac. Doha calmly says he cannot kill him and that no one else can either, hinting that Noah should ask more carefully next time. Noah thinks to himself in panic, not wanting to die this way, and asks what he must do. Doha places a hand on his head, warning that if he dares to touch Lariat one more time, that will be the day he dies. This is definitely aura at its peak. In the next scene, Lariat lies on Azrahan's bed, drooling, and opens her eyes, relieved to see him. She notices he is watching her and thinks seeing such a handsome face so early is the best thing ever. She sits up and asks why he looks so worn out, teasing that he must not have slept well, while he replies that he didn't sleep at all. She questions if he only slept 1 or 2 hours, and he insists that wasn't the case. Lariat says she plans to call Doha first and removes the blanket, revealing a bit of her body. Azrahan immediately turns his face, blushing, and tells her to just do it. Then she shocks him by saying she will sleep with him. He reacts with complete shock, unable to believe what she just said. In the next scene, we see Azrahan completely shocked by what Lariat says, but then she quickly reveals she is only joking. She begins teasing him, moving around him and laughing, while he thinks to himself that 1 night of sleeping together is already enough, since he could not sleep at all and no longer has the confidence to endure this again. As he steps out of her room, he places his hand on his face, trying to calm himself, but suddenly he sees Halstein standing there. He asks what he is doing, and Halstein, already tearing up, says he has always believed in him and knew this day would come. He begins talking excitedly about wedding plans, asking about dates, dresses, and saying everything must match the lady's preference. He goes on about making the ceremony even grander than the royal family, even mentioning golden colors for the princess's room. Azrahan quickly stops him, covering his mouth and asking him to stop, but Halstein insists this is important and must be prepared in advance, since marriage is a once-in-a-lifetime event. At this point, I would just walk away because this is too much. However, Azrahan begins to think deeply, wondering if marriage is even suitable for someone like him. He imagines Lariat hugging him from behind and starts to feel hope, wishing to stay with her for life. He even imagines himself in a wedding outfit with Lariat, but then stops himself, realizing it is still too soon. He tells Halstein he has no plans to get married, which shocks him, especially after thinking they had already slept together. He quickly denies doing anything that would make him responsible and says he has to go out, asking him to prepare quickly. Left behind, Halstein is confused and begins overthinking, even imagining the master's marriage being ruined. He then tries to reason that maybe Azrahan is just busy after everything that happened, but still cannot fully understand, leaving the moment both tense and slightly amusing at the same time. In the next scene, we see Lariat step out of a carriage, and as she stands there smiling, she thinks to herself that she came to see Doha without any prior plan. As she enters the temple, she meets a man who asks what brought her there, and she calmly says she came to see a friend named Doha. The man asks about his position, and she explains he is a priest of lower rank, which confuses him. She then adds that he has beautiful silver hair, and immediately the priest behind the table thinks of Doha. Just then, another priest with red hair appears and says he knows him, offering to take her there, which makes her happy as she thanks him. As they walk through the temple, she wonders how he could stay in such a place and thinks that even as a priest, the Altheon temple must be very wealthy. Soon, she hears Doha's voice asking why she came without informing him, and he quickly thinks about how he had to change clothes. She feels a bit taken aback and explains she did not mean anything by it, while he admits he was very surprised and asks her the reason for coming. She then tells him she came to thank him for treating her and that she also has a favor to ask. Hearing this, Doha begins to think that maybe she wants to get close because she needs something. However, she asks him to teach her how to use magic. He reminds her that he is a priest, yet she explains that her divine power and magic share the same traits and that she is also a purification mage. He already knows this, but listens as she explains she has a lot of power, but cannot control it because she was never properly taught. She recalls moments when people stole her bag and when Segrab tied her down, and she admits she wants to protect herself when she is alone. She tells him she can fully trust him, and that he is the only one who can help her since she knows no other wizards. In response, he agrees, but leans closer and tells her that if he helps her, she must also help him no matter what, making the moment feel both hopeful and a bit tense at the same time. In the next scene, we see Lariat question Doha, wondering if accepting his condition would turn into some kind of scam contract, and she even imagines him making her carve her name on her boots and dance in the streets. He suddenly covers his mouth and laughs, then agrees that the contract must be written, adding that she should only accept it if it is not too unreasonable and decide with her own conscience. He assures her that at this level, it is not a harsh condition, and she immediately agrees, clenching her fists in excitement and asking if they can start today. As this happens, he thinks to himself how interesting she is and how he wants to get closer and learn everything about her, even though he believes his interest might fade later. He still agrees, but just then, the red-haired priest arrives, saying someone is looking for him. He looks at him and realizes it is that old man, then turns back to her and apologizes, saying it must have been a tiring day. She gently replies that it is her fault for coming suddenly, and he promises to come find her soon. As she leaves, she thanks the red-haired priest for lending the room, and he gives a fake laugh, while she walks away happily, thinking that since he had to borrow a room, his situation may not be very good, and decides she will not bother him too much from now on. Meanwhile, as both men watch her leave, he points out that the other is a bad actor, and the red-haired priest admits he is not as crafty as Mikhail. He then explains that this kind of room is normal for someone living in the Altheon Temple, but soon brings up the old man again. As they walk together, he reveals that the high priest Gabriel is looking for him, and he sighs, expecting to be blamed again. He then thinks deeply that maybe the current pope is not in good health, and that fear is what drives the high priest to act this way, especially if he might become the next pope and stand in his way. I'm quite eager to find out what's going on. In the next scene, we see Lariette and Azrahan arrive home at the same time, and she runs to hug him, feeling happy that they came back together and calling it charming. As he hugs her, he thinks that even though the day is boring, being with her makes him happy, and he even wonders if her purification magic is affecting him, as if even his heart is being purified. However, Hallstein suddenly interrupts, explaining that a new servant ruined the blanket by soaking it in water, leaving none for her to use. It is clear he is acting, yet Azrahan simply tells him to go buy a new one. Hallstein claims he checked many stores, but none match the Candel Mansion quality, and it would take days, insisting it is impossible for her to use something ugly. She says she is fine, but he suggests giving her his, and she refuses, saying she cannot take his things. Watching them, Hallstein feels frustrated since things are not going as planned. He then suggests they sleep together again for one more night, and she happily agrees, saying that solves everything. Azrahan tries to speak, but she cuts him off and asks if he dislikes sleeping with her. He denies it, but she already moves on, saying she is hungry and asking him to eat, while assuring him she will not touch him like before. He then thinks that is not even the problem, but decides to just go along with it. This setup is way too obvious. I would have caught on instantly. Later that night, instead of resting, he walks around the room nervously until she enters with a cake, calling it a present. They sit together, and she asks him to guess the type, while he simply says cream, which turns out to be correct. She asks if he likes cake, and he says yes, even deciding in his mind to like it from now on. As they eat, he feeds her a piece while she talks, and some cream stains her mouth. She turns to look for a towel, wondering in her mind if doing something sinister would make him run away again. However, before she can act, he gently turns her face, holding her cheek and pulling her closer, saying that lovers usually wipe things for each other. She stays quiet, just looking at him, and the moment becomes still and close, making everything feel more intense than before. In the next scene, we see Azrahan kiss Lariette, and as she looks into his eyes, she feels like he might completely consume her. She quickly pulls away and says she is full and does not want to eat anymore. But he gently insists, saying he is still hungry and continues pulling her closer as he kisses her again. After a moment, he finally stops and admits he feels a bit satisfied now. She quickly stands up from the couch and rushes to the bed, calling him over, and when he responds, she tells him to lie down so they can finish the purification quickly. He then asks what she will do after it is over, but she admits she does not know. She simply tells him to sleep well, and he responds the same. As she falls asleep, he watches her and thinks deeply about how, if she stays by his side forever, he may not be able to control his own feelings and desire. At this point, it's already obvious he's losing control. However, just when things seem calm, she suddenly turns in her sleep and places her hand across his chest, which makes things even harder for him as he begins erecting. He struggles internally, thinking he should move away, yet he fears waking her. As he tries to adjust her position, she shifts again and even wraps her leg around him, leaving him completely helpless and silently begging for relief in his mind. As expected, by morning he had not slept at all. She wakes up and soon Hallstein arrives, explaining that because of the rain, the blanket is still not dry, so they will have to keep sharing the room for a few more days, and he will bring food to them. She smiles happily at this, while he can only think to himself that he would rather just act calm and endure it. In the next scene, we see the fourth day arrive, and for the first time, Azrahan is finally asleep. Lariette quietly watches him lying flat on the bed and softly wonders if he is really asleep, then realizes that he truly is. As she looks at him, she thinks about how handsome he is, even while sleeping, and calls him a natural treasure in her mind. However, The calm moment shifts when he suddenly begins to talk in his sleep, telling someone to stop and then calling out for his mother. This makes her think deeply about the rumors she has heard, that he lost both his parents at a young age, lost his wealth and honor to distant relatives, and was forced onto the battlefield despite his condition. Gently placing her hand on his forehead, she wonders how hard his life must have been and decides that the only thing she can do is break his curse. She promises in her heart to free both his body and mind so he can live a normal and happy life. She even imagines him laughing with others, living peacefully, and then quietly accepts that even if she leaves one day, she wants him to stay happy. That kind of silent promise, it really hits deep. Just as she is about to pull her hand away, he suddenly grabs it and questions if she said she would leave him. She quickly hides her true thoughts and acts as if she said nothing, asking where she could even go. He still feels uneasy and says maybe he heard her wrong, but she brushes it off with a light laugh. Deep inside, she reminds herself that only 1 month is left in their contract and feels sad about the coming separation, yet convinces herself that she only likes him, not loves him. He then asks her to stay by his side, and she agrees, while secretly deciding to remain until the contract ends. By the next morning, he wakes up feeling like he had a good dream but cannot remember it. As he sits up, she leans her head on his back and asks if he slept well, then calmly brings up continuing the purification of his lower body step by step. This makes him pause, thinking about what she means as if she has forgotten that he has something important down there. In the next scene, we see Lariat shyly stand up from the bed and say that the purification of the lower body should wait for another time, and that she needs to see Lady Sharb. She also reminds Azrahan about going to the palace, and as he looks at her, he thinks about how Danube is showing signs of war, making it hard for them to spend time together. She then asks if he can do anything she wants later, and he agrees, thinking she will not ask for anything strange. When he says yes, she smiles brightly and calls him cool, then checks her bucket list, going through things like swimming, hot spring bath, beach, festival, night view, and prom. As the scene shifts, we see her with Lady Charb in an alley, while Gerard, a high-ranking captain of Ranchel, secretly watches and protects her, wondering what he is even doing. Lady Charby apologizes for sending a letter, but she calmly says it is fine. Inside the boutique, the older woman reveals she will no longer host the West family, though Lariat is an exception. Hearing this, she quietly thinks about how the family no longer has money anyway. Honestly, that family really fell off badly. However, the moment takes a turn when someone behind a curtain speaks and then steps out, revealing Elizabeth Harshen. Lariat greets her politely, though she feels awkward seeing her again. We then learn about the princess, known for her beauty, and how she once chose Noah among many options given by the emperor, back when his family was still strong. As Lariat recalls the past, we see a memory of their exchange, where he speaks arrogantly and she responds confidently, and despite everything, she once chose him easily, only for the engagement to be broken later. It has been 5 years since they last met because she avoided her out of embarrassment. Yet now she notices how much she has changed. The princess then calmly says she does not want to burden her and mentions her connection with Azrahan, which makes her think again about how beautiful she is. She simply responds that she once received help from him, while quietly reminding herself that her name is no longer tied to the nobles, so she does not need to worry anymore. In this next moment, we see Elizabeth speak calmly, saying Lariat seems to have changed a bit, and immediately she responds, asking to be called Lariat instead. Moreover, the princess wonders what Azrahan has been doing all this time and why he never introduced someone like her. And in response, she simply apologizes. However, things shift as the princess moves closer and asks her to call her Elizabeth. We can feel the pressure in that moment as she thinks that face is too convincing, and she has no choice but to agree. As we move on, we see her back in the carriage and she begins to reflect deeply, thinking about how she may die in a few months yet keeps meeting new people. And she recalls her talks with both Elizabeth and Lady Sharby about calling each other by name and meeting again. Yet she questions why good things keep happening now. Consequently, she decides she will leave on a secret trip so no one will know, believing that if the bond is not too deep, it will be fine and that alone is enough. Then suddenly the carriage stops, and as she looks out, she sees Doha. And after stepping out with his help, she is shocked by the place and reacts in awe. As she sits, he explains that the place is special, filled with clean and fast-moving magic, making it the best place to practice, and then asks her to use the magic she normally uses. At this point, she realizes he wants to observe her, and so she uses her magic to draw out tree branches, yet he notices she wastes too much power, comparing it to putting out a candle and emptying a bathtub. He then asks her to use magic on his body so he can check closely, and as she agrees, he feels how smooth and soft it is, confirming if that was all her power, which she says yes to. However, as if that wasn't enough, she increases the intensity, which pushes him back, and she quickly jumps to catch him, showing her instinct to protect. And in that moment, he thinks about how she always tries to save him even though he is stronger. She really moves without thinking twice. Nevertheless, he reassures her that nothing will happen, and finally surrounds them both with a magic circle. In the next moment, we watch Lariat react with surprise, feeling proud as she realizes her progress, and Doha pulls her closer, agreeing that she is indeed a genius. which makes her light up even more. However, he quickly adds that there is still much to learn, explaining that she must understand how to attack with magic, how to act in danger, where to strike, how to escape, and how to avoid harmful situations. She accepts this happily, calling him her teacher and placing full trust in him. Later that day, as they sit in the carriage, we see her looking at her palms and thinking about how she has trained all day and can now control her magic better. At the same time, he watches her and wonders why someone so talented was never taught properly, and whether his growing interest is simply because of her talent, even questioning if he should already be bored. However, he then brings up a happy festival in Isis, a small city near the capital known for its beautiful scenery, and invites her to join. To his surprise, she immediately connects it to going on a date with Azrahan and happily thanks him, even saying that being his friend is a blessing, which leaves him replying in a calm way while telling her to be careful. Yet, as soon as she leaves, we see him slam his hand on the wall, confused about why he feels so upset. And honestly, I'm thinking this guy is already way more involved than he wants to admit. Soon after, we return to the mansion where Lariat calls out to Azrahan, and after he responds, she sits with him and shares the good news about the flower festival happening in Isis the next day. As he asks about the timing, she explains that once the curse is fully purified, he can truly go out again, and then she opens his shirt to show that the curse on his body is already gone. She reassures him that she will not force him and suggests they go late to enjoy the night market while wearing masks again, then gently holds his hand and asks if he will come with her. He finally agrees, and at that point. Now we are taken into the night of the festival, and we see Lariat wearing a mask while holding cotton candy, happily showing it to Azrahan, who is also in a mask, and he calmly agrees before she feeds him some. Then she suggests they go to the square since there is still time before the costume party, and he agrees. Yet as we follow them, we notice his thoughts begin to shift, as he feels that people's eyes are no longer filled with fear and disgust like before. Then, just when it seems calm, he asks for another bite, but instead of waiting, he suddenly turns and kisses her, making her shout in shock about being outside, while he brushes it off, saying no one is looking. As a result, she walks away, clearly flustered, thinking she has no choice, yet at the same time wondering why he is acting so cute even though he is not usually like this. However, as she looks back, she sees another girl trying to talk to him, asking him to go with her, and although he wonders if she's not afraid of him despite his scent being lighter due to purification, the girl still does not leave, which shifts the mood again. At the same time, we stay with Lariat as she watches this and begins to feel something strange, thinking that if she leaves him, he might fall for another girl. And although she claims she only wants his happiness, it still feels like something just happened, even if she denies being jealous. Then suddenly, a voice calls her from behind, offering her a drink and trying to reassure her by saying nothing is strange inside it. And she briefly removes her mask to thank him. However, in a surprising turn, the man boldly says he has been struck by love at first sight, leaving the moment hanging as everything around her continues to move forward. The scene shifts as a man confesses that he is in love with Lariat, and she quickly reminds him that she already has a boyfriend. He comments that people in the capital say that to turn down others, and she quietly wonders in her mind if she was too rude, noticing that his accent is from the West. Even so, he insists on doing things properly and stretches his hands toward her, declaring that her beauty touches his heart and asking to be her friend. Lariat thinks that he is acting as people did 10 years ago, and firmly refuses. Suddenly, a sword blocks another sword coming toward them, and Azrahan steps in, telling the man that trying anything in front of him would be deadly. The man admits he does not want to fight, perhaps assuming Azrahan is her boyfriend. Lariat notices that the man does not push, and she is shocked by his restraint. Then the man tries to argue that he is more handsome, which makes her stand up quickly, demanding an explanation. She casts magic at him, insisting he get away from her boyfriend while he apologizes, saying he did not know they were a couple and that he thought the confession might be a lie. Lariat, annoyed, scolds him as an arrogant alpaca while pointing her finger, and he admits that he truly fell for her and regrets it. As Azrahan walks away, he suddenly hugs Lariat from behind, asking why she left him. He thinks that if she had accepted that confession, things would have gone differently. But Lariat interrupts his thoughts before he can continue. Patting his head, she apologizes for being lost and thanks him for finding her. He asks if she waited, and she admits that she missed him so much. They hug again, and she apologizes for disappearing suddenly, but he reassures her that he was focused the whole time. She promises not to disappear like that again, and he says it's fine. Suddenly, the lights glow around them, and she tells him it's time to dance, worrying that they lost their marks. But he says it's fine. She asks if he will be remarkable, and he smiles, saying yes because she's with him. They step into the crowd holding hands, and Lariat thinks about how different this is from a noble party. So free. She turns to him, inviting him to dance, and he reflects on how he never expected this day to come, remembering the smell of death and hatred from before, and how she gave him a new life, a chance to live like a normal person, not a monster. He thinks about how she loved him even while he was clumsy, and he cannot stop loving her. As they dance, she tells him she loves him, and he responds the same. Suddenly, fireworks light up the sky, filling the environment around them, and he then leans in to kiss her, marking a perfect, unforgettable moment. I would have melted right there if I were her, one might think watching this scene unfold. Just as Azrahan is about to kiss Lariette, she stops him, covering his mouth and asking where he is going. He weakly holds her hand and kisses her palm instead. She turns away from him, thinking how soft it feels, and he asks if she hates it. She starts to explain, but he interrupts her, asking if he can kiss her on the lips this time. Lariette thinks about how she kept spinning him around and that she cannot afford to lose, then teases him by asking if he will sleep with her. He is shocked, trying to think what she really means by sleep, and she points out that he does not even have the courage to ask for a kiss. As punishment, she forbids kissing for the near future, and he wonders if that is really true. The next day, he tries to coax her, asking if she will walk with him and kiss him if he says she is pretty, but she refuses, reminding him of the punishment. He insists, but she pushes his face away and declares male beauty prohibited. She sits up as he walks away, thinking how interesting it is to see him beg, then stretches her hand, suggesting they walk a few more days. He wonders how long he must wait. A few hours later, Doha joins her and comments that she looks happy, and she thanks him, saying she had a fun date because of him. Doha then reminds her to practice using her magic. Lariette suddenly remembers the strange man at the festival who came from the west to confess to her. She thinks he was really unusual and wonders if she was joking too much when she acted a little cute in response. Doha notices her thoughts and, feeling angry, asks why a common man would dare approach her. He reassures her that she is very pretty, even to the point of making people hungry, and then asks if she plans to destroy the walk-on lot today. Lariette remembers that in the first class she said she would destroy them all, but by the end of the class she admitted she was wrong. Doha tells her that instead of focusing on magic power, she needs to learn how to fight, and she agrees, asking where to start. He says they must begin with the basics, and she wonders in her mind whether to focus on attack, escape, or suppression, but he shocks her by saying they will start with how to kill people. Doha demonstrates, explaining that using magic in the wrong position could make her die instantly. She protests, telling him his joke is not fun, but he insists it is not a joke. Trembling, she pushes him away and thinks about how life feels so cheap, realizing she wants to live longer despite her fear and suffering. She feels jealousy, indignation, and confusion as she looks down at the ground. Doha asks her what she thinks reality is, and she responds that it seems okay to travel alone because she cannot go out freely. He warns her that life outside is not gentle, and that if they were to run into the streets of the capital, she would be the best target for those who use power. He tells her to remember that if she does not attack with the intent to kill, she will be the one to die. I would have panicked too if I were her, one might think watching her struggle with these harsh truths. Lariette thinks to herself that she has 3 months leave before she dies, and she wants to travel, but she also doesn't want to die unfairly while exploring. She knows she must protect herself, not only from her family, who might kidnap her again, but also from the dangers of the world. She understands that even if she wants to defend herself, she might have to harm others, and she accepts this. She thanks Doha for his advice, and he looks at her, thinking that he could save her no matter what. Yet she faces danger and thinks poorly of him, which is why he spoke sharply. Holding her hand, he hopes she will understand him because he believes she is kind. Then he tells her to try an attack and points her hand towards his chest, instructing her to attack him with the determination to kill. She takes a deep breath, and he reminds her that he is stronger than she thinks, and that if he gets hurt, she only needs to heal him, though she will feel the pain herself. He thinks to himself that every time he sees her, he feels a strange discomfort, but he warns her that there is no time to think of useless things. Doha then gives her something to block with, and he strikes her with it. She doesn't dodge at first and shouts in pain. He continues to attack, and she learns to dodge some while still getting hit by others. He asks if magic is like jewelry, and she realizes that magic doesn't hurt, thinking this to herself. Then she directs water magic at him, telling him to wake up, and he playfully lets her win once before bouncing the water back. She shouts in response, "Come on." In the evening at Azrahan's mansion, Halstein notices Lariette arriving a bit late and asks if something happened. She tells him she feels tired and asks where Azrahan is. He tells her he's in the bedroom and offers to inform him that she's returned. Lariette thinks to herself that starting today, it might be possible to purify the lower body, but she realizes she needs to touch bare skin. An idea pops into her head, and she dashes forward, thinking that Azrahan is probably wearing a robe, so it will be fine. In the bathroom, Azrahan stands wrapped in his robe, thinking about how long he has to hold back from kissing. He is shocked when Lariette suddenly appears, calling his name and his tattoos. As she moves closer, he complains that she's too close, but the wet floor causes him to slip and fall. She pushes him lightly with her hand, climbing on top of him and announcing that she will start the purification from the knee. He protests, but she tells him to take this seriously since it's the most important tool. Adjusting his robe, she touches his knee and begins the purification, thinking that thanks to Doha, using magic is easier now. Her face lights up as she declares the purification done, and she immediately notices Azrahan's flustered expression. Both of them continue locking eyes, the atmosphere thick with awkwardness and unspoken feelings. She immediately turns her face away, reminding him that she is still in the abandoned kissing period. Yet, he gently turns her face back, pressing his lips to hers. They continue kissing, and he lifts her, holding her close as their connection deepens. She flinches slightly, and he pauses, asking if she truly wants him to be determined, if she is okay with it. She thinks in her mind. This is the first night with him, and she hugs him tightly, feeling a rush of warmth and comfort. She adjusts her clothes slightly, and he reassures her that she is beautiful, telling her over and over. He thinks it might be too soon, that she could be upset, but she looks at him and smiles, telling him that he is also very handsome, and no part of him is ugly. He takes her words to heart, holding her close and thinking of her as his savior, his whole world, his Lariat. Then they get intimate with each other. It's finally happening, guys. After this, she looks completely exhausted, and he asks if she is tired. She responds, pointing out her condition, clearly worn out, yet he teasingly asks if they cannot have one more moment together. She says she will be overwhelmed if they do, but when he pleads softly, she hesitates, puts her hand on her head, then finally agrees to just one more time, holding his robe. They begin another intimate session. The next day at Duke Osman's mansion, Lariat steps outside and is greeted warmly by Erzsébet, who welcomes her with a bright smile. She bows politely and thanks her for inviting her to the tea party. Erzsébet insists that she call her by her full name, and Lariat responds respectfully, showing her gratitude. Erzsébet pats her on the head, calling her a good girl, and they start walking together toward the building. Along the way, Erzsébet explains that her best friends usually gather there and that she wants Lariat to meet them, assuring her that they are all kind people. Lariat quietly hopes that they will like her, and Erzsébet laughs, saying that everyone would like her without question. She introduces Lariat to Lady Genevere Charvet and then to Saria Mirzen, the oldest daughter of Earl Juana Osman. The introductions are followed by greetings, and soon they sit together around the table. During the conversation, Saria speaks sharply, questioning why a commoner like Lariat can be close to Erzsébet, which cuts deep into Lariat's thoughts. She reflects quietly, realizing that she broke her ties with her family and abandoned them, which brings a sense of both relief and sadness. Saria says that without them, she would be a commoner and asks how someone like her can be close to Erzsébet. Then Juana steps in and warns her to watch her mouth. Erzsébet also calls her rude. She then says she is still new with the elites and apologizes for being rude. Then Lariat calms the situation and says it may be a misunderstanding. She thinks in her mind that if there is a reason, she did it on purpose. After that, they all laugh. Then the meeting ends and they go outside. Juana calls Lariat and says she does not like talking behind others, but it has not been long since Saria Mirzen joined them. She explains that at the opening ceremony, Erzsébet felt pity for her because she was bullied and brought her in, and she advises keeping a distance because she is careless. She adds that judgment must be tested by oneself. Lariat does not say it out loud, but thinks she does not seem like a bad person. Juana warns that during the test period, things may be hard. Just then, Lariat hears her name and turns to see Azrahan. He says he misses her and comes to pick her up, smiling. The ladies are shocked and shout, "Duke Candel." He greets them, then helps her into the carriage. She asks them to allow her and waves goodbye, while he asks to take her away. She says she had fun, and they leave, and the ladies wonder what is wrong with both dukes. Inside the carriage, Lariat asks if he has to enter the palace, and he says yes, and that he wants to stay with her longer. As he tries to continue, she interrupts, saying she also has an appointment and cannot stay long. He reacts with surprise, and she sees sadness on his face, so she kisses him. Azrahan pulls back and tells Lariat to wait, but they soon resume kissing. He then says that even if he is not sure, doing it in a carriage does not seem that bad. They hold hands, and as she looks at him, she starts to question what he just said, but before she can finish, he kisses her again. He smiles and says she should be punished. She thinks in her mind about how he became so handsome. Then she imagines a smaller version of herself telling her to just kiss, and that doing it in the carriage is not that bad, and she also notes that he has a keen eye. She is confused in her mind as he moves closer, but the guard suddenly announces they have arrived. She quickly rushes out, surprised at how fast they got there, while he remains inside. He then stands at the door and tells her to come home later so they can settle it, and she replies that if things stay like this, she will divide the room into a separate bedroom. I would have run out too. Meanwhile, our girl calls Doha and walks up to him, noticing his clothes look different. He explains that the other set got dirty and asks if it looks very different. As she looks at him, she thinks about how his face makes anything look good. He then tells her they will learn how to hide, and that is why he invited her. She reacts with surprise and thinks this skill would be useful for survival, then praises him and says she really likes it. He turns away and thinks about why he feels this way since she did not say she likes him. She stays happy and asks where to start. Then Azrahan stands upright and explains that the goal is to become invisible in a crowd so no one notices her, and he continues teaching. After some time, she tries using her magic and then asks Doha if what she's doing is correct. Nevertheless, we are taken back several hours, to a time when Doha stands in front of demolished buildings and says it is boring today. As he stands there, multiple men attack him, and he tells them his mood is not good and asks if they really have to ruin it. He turns quickly and uses his magic, killing all of them with one attack, and their blood splashes on his white clothes. He thinks in his mind that anyone afraid of hurting him cannot attack him properly, and if Lariette sees this, she may turn away from him. He says he has to change his clothes anyway and wonders why he has to deal with trouble just because of a girl. He realizes it is the first time he has appeared before her in such a dirty state and questions if his interest in her has become so deep that it feels strange. He recalls hating feelings like love and says he does not want to make the mistake of thinking he likes her. Meanwhile, back in the present, our girl holds Doha's hand and asks if she is doing the magic correctly, but he does not respond and keeps thinking. He admits to himself that he truly wants her, and wonders how she would react if she knew his identity as the High Priest of Alteon and the Pope's successor. He thinks about the power he holds, equal to the Emperor, and questions if she would be drawn to his position or disgusted by his past. He compares her noble upbringing as the princess of a duke's house to his own past as a beggar, and fears she may feel angry for being deceived. As he keeps thinking, he feels slightly annoyed, then tells her he needs to buy something and will be back soon. She allows him to go and says she will keep practicing. As he walks away, he thinks he does not need to worry because a couple of knights are protecting her, and at that moment he notices Gerard, standing on the roof watching her, before he finally leaves. However, Doha walks into a dark alley when a man comes from behind holding a dagger and tells him his life is worth something, then licks the blade. As this happens, he thinks to himself that, even though it is cold, it feels stimulating, but also too much. The man says he wants to test his blood quickly and raises the dagger, telling him to die. He stays calm and does not move, thinking about how to kill him neatly without getting his clothes dirty. Just as the blade gets close to his face, he hears his name. Lariette runs toward him and tells him to be careful. She uses her magic and attacks the man, bringing him down, and his blood splashes everywhere, covering both of them. That escalated fast. Lariette moves closer to Doha, holds his face, and keeps asking if he is okay, if he is hurt, and if he is scared. He does not answer and keeps thinking in his mind that a noble lady raised in comfort would find it hard and scary to harm someone, yet she killed because of him. While she keeps asking him the same questions, he continues thinking that she did it because of him. Then he smiles, calls her name, and realizes he loves her. Lariette hugs Doha and tells him not to worry. Everything will be fine. He keeps thinking it must be wrong and a misunderstanding. At that moment, he starts imagining things and hears her voice saying she loves him and that he is her most precious treasure. He reacts in his mind that this is the same kind of love he hates. He then tells her he is okay and uses his magic, sending out a yellow light that spreads and removes the bloodstains from both of them. He thanks her for saving him and says he would have died without her. Holding her shoulder, he says they should stop here and that he will take her to the horse wagon. As they pass by, she looks at the man on the ground and her mood changes. Moreover, at the horse wagon, Lariette enters and Doha calls her name and explains that the man was an assassin sent to kill him. He reminds her about the mines and says sudden luck comes with problems, so she should not worry. She thinks in her mind that he must have suffered a lot. He then tells her the assassin had to die and that she is his savior and should remember that. She thanks him and touches his face, telling him to be careful. He blushes a little and thinks about how her touch affects him, but quickly stops himself, tells her to have a nice trip, then shuts the door. As he watches the wagon leave, he thinks her touch makes his heart react, and tells himself she should stay away, yet he keeps thinking he cannot wait any longer before he attempts to go after her. Meanwhile, back at Azrahan's house, Azrahan stands outside and welcomes Lariette, saying, "She's home." She smiles and asks if he was waiting for her, then runs to hug him. She thinks to herself that she cannot make him worry because he is already busy. He looks closely at her face and asks if something happened and who bullied her. She is shocked and wonders how he could tell from her expression alone. She tells him nothing happened and hugs him again to change the topic, then says she is hungry and asks about dinner while holding his hand and leading him inside. As they walk, he notices Gerard in the bushes, the one he told to watch over her, and he thinks something must have happened, but also that she does not have to tell him if she does not want to, even though he feels he cannot stay idle. He already knows something is wrong. Inside the house, Hallstein and the others are waiting, and he says it is trending, so he baked a cake. Lariette brightens up and thanks him. She thinks to herself as her hands shake that 50 days have passed, and that there is only 1 month left. She recalls what the doctor told her before, that if her heartbeat becomes fast and she can hear it, it will get worse and her body will explode. She thinks she does not want to die in front of Azrahan or let him see that. She looks at him as he smiles and tells her it is a strawberry cake, her favorite. She then thinks she has to leave before it is too late. She asks him if he even remembers her favorite cake, while still thinking in her mind if she can really leave him. This is getting serious already. Lariat lies on the bed and begins to dream about moments with Azrahan. She thinks his body technique is almost complete, and his emotional block is getting better. She also thinks she does not have enough time to do everything she wants, and that she has always wanted to travel with him. She tells herself she is okay and getting used to this. She keeps thinking she just needs to stay strong and everything will be fine and return to normal. She repeats to herself that she will be fine. The next morning, Wana holds gift packages and says they came from the east and look beautiful. Lariat receives them and says she has never seen anything like this. Elizabeth then asks for her hair to be tied and reacts strongly. Our girl asks Saria if everything is okay, and she says she loves the hair tie and mentions her pink eye color. Lariat quickly understands the situation and remembers how Ryan used to take her things by force when they were younger. Because of this, she offers to exchange the items. The others react, and Wana calls out to Saria, but Lariat says it is fine and that she has no problem, though they should first get permission since the items were already chosen. Saria agrees and thanks her, while Genevieve and Elizabeth ask if she is truly okay or being forced, and she says she's fine. Then Saria asks about her relationship with Azrahan and if they are dating. Our girl thinks she cannot say it is a contract, so she just smiles. The others react with surprise, and Elizabeth says it is the first time she has seen her smile, while Genevieve also says she has never seen her act like this. However, Saria says she has never seen him answer a woman like that and wonders why people call him cold. At that moment, an image of Azrahan in his cold form flashes in Genevieve and Elizabeth, and they all think he is handsome, but the rotten smell around him makes others afraid. Then Genevieve sips her tea and says it does not matter if he has someone else because he has a lover in the end. Saria then asks Lariat if she is thinking of marriage, and she replies that it is a question she cannot answer now. She turns her face and says, as expected. Lariat then thinks in her mind, what was that? That felt like a test. Meanwhile, in another scene, Azrahan trains with Gerard with swords and asks whether he neglected his training. He struggles and thinks about taking a break, but says he will fix it. They keep exchanging blows until he disarms him. Then he brings up Doha and says he is the son of a merchant who devoted himself to faith from a young age. Gerard thinks about Lariat's accident, the order to investigate the priest, and his habit of changing topics. He then says the information looks prepared, and Gerard bows, saying he will investigate further. He also asks about the meeting and if they should prepare for war. Azrahan recalls the meeting where people spoke about the emperor and the Belgian monarch not getting along, and that war may be the only option, and others questioned it before all eyes turned to him as a leader. After remembering this, he says he will not go to war. He looks shocked and warns of backlash, but he says that before he would have accepted it. Now he thinks of Lariat and says he does not plan to divorce her. Gerard stays on the floor and tells Azrahan there will be many negative responses, but he replies that nothing is forcing him to go. He then asks about the new knights in La Noche, and Gerard says not to worry because Melissa is training them well, and everyone, including the newcomers, is grateful. As he is about to say more, our girl arrives, thinking she has not been able to contact Doha and is worried something may be wrong. She calls Azrahan and asks if he is tired from training, saying she wants to watch and even suggests they bathe together. He quickly grabs clothes, tells her to come, and kisses her. Soon they are on the bed, and she asks where they are going, while he says they are going somewhere to take revenge on her, and they become close. That escalated quickly. After that, Lariat is left exhausted and thinks about how Azrahan has gone to work at the Imperial Castle, remembering when he told her to admit she provoked him. Her thoughts are interrupted by Halstein, who bows and says he could not call the priest. She then worries about Doha, wondering if he is too busy or if something is wrong. He asks about her plans for the day, and she recalls her list, which includes buying a cake for Anna, handling commitments with Marquess, and preparing for travel. She then realizes it is time and tells him she will go downtown alone for a while to prepare for leaving. Our girl walks alone through the busy market, thinking she needs to buy new clothes and a book. She reminds herself that Doha paid her well for healing him, so money is not a problem, and she also thinks she can punish anyone who tries to steal from her now that she knows magic. As she walks carelessly, Gerard secretly protects her from danger. After buying everything, she struggles with her heavy bags and suddenly sees Elizabeth. She smiles and considers calling her, but before reaching her, she hears a man insulting Elizabeth, saying no man would accept her. She stops, walks up to the men, and tells them her friend wants to speak with them. They follow her into an empty alley, and when they notice no one is there, she says it is time for justice and uses her magic to beat them down. She says it was easy, then hears Elizabeth behind her, asking if she did it for her and praising her heart. She comes closer and asks when she arrived, then realizes she saw everything. She says she did not know Lariat was such a great witch, and asks if she would like to work with her in the future. Lariat thinks she has no future, but before she can answer, Elizabeth says they will talk later and pulls her along to buy something sweet, and she agrees. However, as they walk together, Tom and Doha watch them from afar. He tries to speak, but Doha stops him. As he looks at Elizabeth, he thinks about wanting to kill him, then questions his own thoughts and tells himself he just needs to use another woman. At the same time, he reflects that he cannot love anyone, even as our girl continues walking, unaware she is being watched. Doha recalls a moment before when he stands with Minister Garalvo, who says he brought him there and does not regret it. He responds that he is humble, and the minister asks what he wants from him, calling him High Priest Michael. He replies that it is the minister who has worked for him, but the minister says he does not understand. He then thinks to himself that when the Pope's health worsened, it was clear he had become a threat. And even though the minister has strong power and ties, his own skill is greater. He also thinks that since the minister is the second candidate for the Pope's seat, the minister likely wants him gone and believes he can escape punishment. The minister then says he heard he goes out often and asks if he has found love outside. He is shocked and thinks he cannot let him find out, and he remembers Lariette. He then thinks the minister is dangerous and he cannot let her get hurt. He replies that the minister has a wild imagination and mocks him for acting childish for his age, then steps closer and warns him not to provoke him, saying he does not understand what he can do. However, Minister Garalvo responds by comparing him to his mother and mocking him for his weak way of falling in love again. At that moment, Doha reacts immediately and grabs him, trying to strike him. Oh no, I hope he hasn't pushed him too far. However, Doha recalls memories of his mother, remembering how he told her he loved her and could not live without her. He is still holding Minister Garalvo when Tom arrives and stops him, reminding him of his schedule. He lets go and the minister warns him to be careful, then walks away and calls him an idiot. Tom thinks he must calm him down before he gets into trouble, then tells him someone from the castle is looking for him and asks if he wants to call her. He remembers the words about finding love and thinks it is dangerous if anyone discovers he has someone he loves and that he is not ready to face her because he fears bringing harm to her, since he loves Lariette. He turns away and tells Tom not to call her and to wait in the carriage. All of this comes back to him as he watches Lariette and Elizabeth together, and he grips his clothes, thinking this feeling must be a delusion. He walks away with Tom and tells him to call the Candel Castle and inform them he will come tomorrow. Meanwhile, Elizabeth and Lariette sit together eating, and she apologizes for not recognizing her earlier, blaming it on her brother and mentioning rumors about him. Lariette asks about the rumors, and she explains that he is said to be sick, staying in bed all day, looking distorted, and becoming handicapped due to an incident. She adds that it is an illness related to mana, which has made the Duke and Duchess worried, and asks if she has heard of madness. Lariette begins to think it may be the same incurable disease she has and wonders if it is hereditary. She then tells her she shared this because it is a big issue for her family and asks if she is okay after hearing it. Our girl does not answer and keeps thinking about what to do as she feels like she cannot breathe. She tells herself that even if they share the same disease, the treatment may be different, but she still feels scared and lost about a future where nothing waits for her. Elizabeth calls her name again and asks if she is okay, and she quickly forces a smile and says she is fine. She then thinks she does not want anyone to know about her death and that she must go far away alone. The next day, Doha arrives at the castle, and Lariette runs to him, saying she was very worried. He asks where she is, and she responds by asking if he found who was behind everything. He thinks of Minister Garalvo and says everything is fine now. She tells him to answer her more often, but before she finishes, he interrupts and asks what they are. He then covers his mouth, realizing how quickly he reacted, and she finishes by saying they are best friends. He agrees and holds her hand while she repeats it, and he uses his magic on her. She thinks that because of him, she is still alive without pain, and that it would be beautiful to die peacefully. At the same time, he thinks that just holding her hand makes his heart react, and wonders if she can feel it too, and if she would love him if she knew his feelings. Suddenly, Hallstein enters with a letter for Lariette. She opens it and becomes happy, seeing it is from Elizabeth calling her soulmate. He reacts to the word and remembers seeing them together, and his expression tightens. Bro is definitely jealous. Moreover, Doha reacts to the word soulmate, and our girl thinks he may feel left out. She explains that they have known each other for a while, but only became close recently, and she smiles, thinking that Elizabeth is her first female friend. She tells him they are good friends and get along well. He calls her name and tells her to focus only on him when she's with him, while playing with her hair. She thinks again that he feels left out, but he quickly apologizes, saying he crossed the line. She says it is fine and understands, then holds his hand and notices his expression. She looks up and suggests they start the lesson, and he agrees while feeling frustrated inside. As they practice, he notices a guard moving quietly outside the window and thinks the person might be one of the Candle Knights. He observes the movement and then decides it does not matter as long as Lariette is safe. At another scene, the nobles hold a meeting where Duke Wesk insists that Duke Candel must join the battle and mocks the idea of running from Belgium. He asks the Majesty for an opinion, and the Majesty says he respects the decision, but adds that if one must die, it should be on the battlefield, not in retreat. Another noble argues that giving up Belgium's steel industry is unwise and says that, even though manpower is low, victory is certain if Duke Kandel joins. After the meeting, Azrahan walks away, thinking he does not want to return to war. He feels he wants to stay with the person he loves and wonders why they cannot leave him alone. He just wants peace. Just then, Azrahan suddenly feels a light tap on his back and turns around to see Saria. She smiles and greets him, calling him Duke Azrahan. He immediately thinks in his mind that only Lariette should call him by his name, but he decides to let it slide since she is Lariette's friend. He then corrects her, saying she should not address him so casually, and calls her Lady Miriam. Saria quickly apologizes, saying she got used to Lariette calling him that, and asks if he remembers her name, even teasing that she mentioned it before. She smiles brightly while speaking. He looks at her and thinks she might be Lariette's friend number 3, but says nothing. Saria introduces herself again and says her name is Saria, but he can call her Saria Mary. He thinks in his mind that he wishes to end the conversation, but holds back because she is Lariette's friend. Saria continues speaking about how she and Lariette have become very close and promised to meet again. He thinks that maybe Lariette will spend less time with others if she has more female friends. Saria then talks about how she does not like friendships based on social status. He wonders if she is referring to the difference between a duke and a baron, and thinks Lariette does not care about status. He also thinks she might like Lariette because of that. As she keeps talking, he begins to miss Lariette more and thinks it will be a problem if he keeps feeling this way all day. He looks away, and Saria watches him, smirking, thinking that people like hearing her say such things and that Lariette is kind to her out of gratitude. She then invites him to a meal to get closer, but he says it is fine only if Lariette agrees. Saria is surprised, and he politely ends the conversation and leaves quickly, thinking he will kiss Lariette many times when he returns. Saria watches him go and thinks a relationship between a duke and a commoner may not last, and that she must be careful, though she may already be too late. It is another day inside the house, and Hallstein shouts about the 100-day event. Lariette smiles when she hears it and thinks to herself that she has become very good at stealth. She tries to move away from the crowd and wonders what it would be like if she became the best in the world. As she walks, she notices someone in her room and asks who it is, since it is her room. The person replies that he is a new knight of the Kandel Knightage and apologizes. Lariette thinks she has never seen him before. The knight says he got lost because he is not familiar with the place and admits he used stealth inside the manor because that is how Shadow Knights move, even inside buildings. Lariette understands and says she did not know. He also says her stealth skills are very good, then apologizes again and leaves quickly. Lariette waves at him and says she understands. After he leaves, she sees Hallstein and says there is an intruder in the house, which makes Hallstein nervous. Later that day, Azrahan rushes into the house calling Lariette's name. She runs to him and hugs him. He panics, saying he was wrong not to be more careful, that the house is always under threat, and that he should have protected her better. He apologizes repeatedly while holding her and says he is sorry for putting her in danger. Our girl tells him she is fine. Nothing happened, nothing is missing, and no one is hurt, and she thinks it feels nice that someone was worried about her. He looks at the knights and they begin to tremble, but before he can act, Lariette kisses him and tells him not to blame himself. He relaxes into a chair, calling her name, and she then says she is going to bed because she has plans tomorrow. However, after Lariette steps away and leaves the room, Azrahan turns with a cold expression and calls out Melissa, asking if he did not put him in charge of training the recruits. Melissa immediately bows and apologizes, saying he will accept any punishment. Azrahan responds by asking what kind of punishment he would deserve if Lariette had been even slightly hurt. Melissa panics and falls to the ground, begging for forgiveness. Azrahan then asks where the man is, calling out Gerard. Gerard replies that the man ran away when Lariette caught him, and the recruits gave up tracking him because his location had been unclear since yesterday. He also explains that the infiltration seemed planned since the identity provided was fake, and they are still investigating. Azrahan tells Gerard he has 1 week to deliver results, and both agree. The atmosphere is getting heavier. Meanwhile, tension remains in the manor after that day. Lariette thought she had hidden her notebook and travel items, and Azrahan did not leave her side for several days. At another moment, Saria asks if she can arrange a dinner with Azrahan so everyone can become friends. Juana tries to stop her, but Saria continues to insist, even begging Lariette. Erzabeth disagrees, calling it a ridiculous request. Saria looks at Lariette and asks if it is really too much to ask for just a simple meal with a friend. Lariette finally responds that it is not impossible, but she would rather not. However, Saria is shocked by Lariette's response and asks if there is a reason for the refusal, thinking that it is normal courtesy to give a reason when rejecting a request from a friend or someone of high status. Our girl then smiles and says it is because her Azrahan is very shy. On hearing this, Saria clenches her fist and thinks that Lariette is acting like she does not know her place, believing she does not deserve to sit at the same table. She remembers being kind to her because of Princess Erzabeth, but thinks Lariette has become arrogant because of her connections with Erzabeth and Azrahan. She also thinks Azrahan is too perfect for a commoner like her and believes he would never marry someone like Lariat. She then looks at Erzbeth and thinks she should say something to correct Lariat. Meanwhile, our girl also thinks she can clearly read Saria's expression and what she's thinking. She then stands up, says she does not feel well, and apologizes for ruining the mood before excusing herself and leaving, saying she will see them again soon. Wana calls after her to wait, and Erzbeth also stands up and runs after her. Saria watches Erzbeth and thinks she is too kind, only going to scold Lariat for her, hoping she does not go too far, even though Lariat was rude. Wana thinks she is completely speechless. This situation is getting out of hand. As our girl walks toward the gate, she thinks she already knew Saria was interested in Azrahan, and wonders whether she didn't give up enough already. She feels she has done everything everyone asked of her and has calmly accepted all their demands, yet they still want more from her. She wonders why they continue when she has nothing left but him, and she feels confused about how to handle female friendship for the first time. She thinks maybe she asked for too much by wanting friends before she dies, and that perhaps she is being greedy when she does not have much time left. Suddenly, she hears Erzbeth calling her name and turns around. Erzbeth is panting, holding her and apologizing for everything, including Saria's actions and her own failure to stop them. She bows and repeats her apology, but Lariat stops her and says she is not the one who should be apologizing. Erzbeth continues speaking and says it is her fault for inviting Saria, because she felt bad that Saria was struggling to fit into high society. She explains that Saria also had issues with her temper, but later found happiness by learning to feel comfortable while mingling with others. Erzbeth thought she could help her in the same way. She then admits she did not realize that people can react differently depending on who they are, and says she will speak to Saria soon. She apologizes again and asks Lariat to please talk to Saria rather than ignore the situation. At least someone is taking responsibility. Lariat responds by thanking Erzbeth and immediately hugs her, saying she is really grateful that she came to explain everything. She says she is fine and not to worry. Erzbeth thanks her in turn, and Lariat tells her she must have been tired from running all the way and that she should return. Erzbeth smiles and says she does not mind the unexpected exercise. As they stand together, Doha watches from a distance and mistakenly takes Erzbeth for a man because of her appearance. He then wonders whether Lariat is involved with both Azrahan and that person, and whether he even has a chance. He feels confused about himself, noticing that his emotions change whenever he thinks about her. He struggles with the feeling that being close to her might ruin him, even though he cannot stop thinking about her. Our girl suddenly notices Doha and calls out that he is early, surprising him because he was using stealth. He asks how she noticed, and she feels proud of herself. As Erzbeth walks away, Doha realizes she is actually the princess, not a man, and Lariat tells him she recently saw someone with very strong stealth skills, which helped her understand it better. He praises her improvement and thinks that soon she will realize a knight has been following her. Lariat then invites him to a dessert cafe after their lesson, and he agrees, while thinking he cannot escape her no matter how much he tries, and that he will always end up by her side. It is nighttime, and Lariat and Azrahan are together as Azrahan sits on the bed while Lariat stands. She tells him that 2 more sessions, including today, will complete the purification for good, and he repeats the words softly while thinking that this was the course that haunted his entire life, something he believed he could never be free from. But now he finally is, and only happiness is left for him. After the purification is completed, our girl tells him it is all done. He holds her face and kisses her, and they lie on the bed together, sharing more kisses and becoming intimate. Lariat thinks they took a short trip to heaven. He then shifts to sit beside her, but she calls him closer and leans on him. She reminds him of something she said earlier, asking what she would do if he kept asking such questions. He answers that she said she would act dangerously, and she agrees, telling him to be careful. He responds respectfully, and she thinks it feels very nice. She then invites him on a trip after the purification, saying it does not matter if it is the beach or the lake as long as they are together. He imagines their first trip to the beach, thanks her, says he would love it, and mentions a beach area in Kandel famous for its hot springs. She agrees and says they should finish purification before summer, and he promises it will be done. This feels like a new beginning for both of them. Meanwhile, at another scene, Gerard sits on the floor, frustrated, saying he cannot find it. Gerard recalls the moment when Azrahan told him to bring the intruder within 1 week. He thinks in his mind that if he fails, he will not only lose his job, but also be punished. Suddenly, Melissa speaks up and says she found it. Gerard shouts in shock and runs toward her, saying he loves her, but she tells him to stay away and calls him captain. He quickly agrees and says everything she says is right. Melissa then tells him to calm down and shows him a document, explaining that it is made with special material that scatters if not handled with gloves, yet someone still touched it. She adds that a copy was made before the escape, meaning the intruder planned everything carefully and targeted the candle house. Gerard reacts in fear, saying this will destroy them. In another scene, the report reaches Azrahan, who reads the documents related to trade arrangements with the Kingdom of Belgium. He thinks in his mind that Duke Illington is behind it, and that it may be a move to force him into war. He also considers that the Blanche family and their magic may be involved. He slams the table, scattering the documents, and asks Melissa what they plan to do with them. She explains that Duke Illington may use them in the next meeting to accuse House Candel of ties with the Belgian kingdom and label Azrahan a spy, forcing him into war to prove his innocence. She adds that things could change if other nobles support him. Azrahan thinks he has never engaged in politics or noble relations because he never cared, and that this is his weakness. Melissa tells him he must prepare for war, and he thinks that if he misses the timing, he may miss the planned trip with Lariette. He believes she will wait for him. He then orders them to prepare defense documents and to get ready for war. Doha and our girl are together in a green field where she is practicing her training. She says she could do better, but something still feels off. He tells her he will help, but in his mind, he thinks she is making things too obvious, and she must not find out anything. He then holds her hand and guides her, even though he thinks he is not the one she loves and does not want to lose her. As he helps her, she successfully performs the magic and is surprised. Doha thinks that someday, when he is alone, he will remember these deep emotions. Lariette thanks him and says she understands now, then tries again and performs the move perfectly. He then asks her when she plans to go on the holiday she mentioned, saying she once said she would travel alone. Lariette is surprised and thinks she does not remember telling him that. He sits on the ground and says she also mentioned that Candel does not know about it. She thinks she probably never said it, but also feels it does not matter because she and Azarhan will not be together by then. She tells him she did not really mention it to Azarhan. He asks why she wants to travel alone and thinks that even if Azarhan is busy, he could make time for her. He then asks what she will do after the breakup, but quickly regrets it. Our girl laughs and says she is not planning to break up. He thinks he accidentally showed his reaction. Lariette thinks Doha is special to her because he helps heal her illness, supports her relationship, teaches her magic, and is her friend. Our girl tells Doha that she has an arranged marriage with Azarhan, and that the contract lasts only 3 months. Doha is shocked and thinks that they actually signed a contract to date. He starts to respond in disbelief, but Lariette continues, saying she was the one who suggested the arrangement when she first met Azarhan. She explains everything to him calmly. Doha thinks she is mistaken because Azarhan would not be satisfied with something like an arranged relationship, and that what they have is likely admiration or something deeper since she purified him. Moreover, Lariette tells Doha to keep it secret because she does not want strange rumors to spread. Doha immediately agrees and says he will not tell anyone. He then thinks in his mind that one day when he is alone, he will show her the emotions he has been hiding for a long time. Meanwhile, at Duke Blanche's home, shouting is heard from inside. Duke Blanche receives a report that Lariette is insisting on staying with Duke Candel, and he becomes angry, calling her insolent. He speaks with Derwin and says they cannot allow House Candel to take the Blanche family inheritance. He thinks they cannot Hallstein from marriage anymore, and also cannot lose their position to him. He recalls how he tried to raise Lariette to be powerless so she would not betray them, and he calls her disgenevieveful. He then tells Derwin that her resentment is so strong that she can only call out her sister's name, referring to Ryan. He then sits down and orders that if she insists on being happy after destroying her family, she should be taken away, even killed if necessary, so she cannot return to Azarhan. He says they must be completely thorough this time. Lariette presses the doorbell and Genevieve comes out. Genevieve is happy to see her and calls her name, and Lariette hugs her back. Genevieve holds her face and asks if she has lost weight and if something happened. She says nothing happened, while thinking in her mind that it is from too much training with Doha, and also that Doha has used up almost all her mana while teaching her magic, leaving her with almost no strength to walk. Our girl tells Genevieve she came because a brooch she bought before got ruined, and she wants a new gift for Azrahan. Genevieve turns and shows her a newly released necklace, saying she kept one because it will become popular and it can hold a gem instead of a photo. Lariette sees the gem and thinks it looks like Azrahan's eyes, then immediately decides to buy it. She also thinks she saved money from healing Doha and that Azrahan gave her money too, so she can spend a little. Genevieve offers a discount, but she refuses and takes the necklace. She then thinks that if she gives it to Azrahan, she wonders if he will think of her after she is gone, and hopes he will remember her. However, as Lariette leaves, someone bumps into her and steals the necklace. She wonders in her mind why people keep robbing her, and if it is because she is like the main character. She decides she must get her bag back first and starts chasing the man, shouting for him to stop. She also thinks she cannot use magic and can barely run because she has no mana left. The man runs into an alley, and Lariette is about to follow him. At that moment, Gerard comes out of the same alley holding the necklace. He calls her name and shows her the necklace. He thinks to himself that he is not supposed to help her directly, but he still explains that he could not get her bag because another man ran away with it, and he is sorry. Our girl thanks him and takes the necklace. She thinks her notebook is inside the bag, but it doesn't matter because it has nothing important in it. She then asks Gerard why he is there, saying it feels like their first time meeting outside. He responds that it is his day off. She smiles and apologizes for disturbing his day off. He bows and says it is fine, and he only did what needed to be done. She thanks him again and tells him to enjoy his day off, then leaves and enters the carriage. As the carriage moves, Lariette thinks in her mind that Gerard has been following her all this time, and she is sure Azrahan ordered it. She wonders why Azrahan would do that. She thinks maybe he does not trust her, or maybe he is trying to protect her. She decides not to assume anything until she hears it from Azrahan himself. The scene changes to the nobles gathered with His Majesty. He tells Azrahan that not joining the war while being connected to the Belgian kingdom is treason against the Empire. He says if Azrahan wants to prove innocence, he must do it through action, and he cannot believe Azrahan thought a few papers would be enough. He says Azrahan must prove innocence with death if he refuses to join the war. Azrahan speaks to the knight and asks if Duke Illington received the documents. He says he has already decided to join the war, but he hates the lies his people tell. He says that he is one of his knights and asks what he gained from betraying him, saying he hopes it is worth more than his life. Then a knight suddenly charges at him. The knight tries to cut Azrahan with his sword, but Azrahan blocks it and quickly slices him. The knight's blood splashes on the floor and Melissa drags him away. Azrahan then asks where Gerard is, and Melissa answers that he is probably still guarding Lady Lariette, and he should return when she does. Azrahan repeats that he should return when she does. Azrahan then asks Melissa why she is learning magic from the priest. Melissa replies that he understands she is talented, but he does not understand the purpose. Azrahan then asks the purpose and why she is learning the stealth magic of all things. Halstein speaks out, saying she is going to become the Duchess. Melissa says they will continue protecting her for a reason like this, so he is not sure she needs to know stealth magic. Azrahan says it is a useless concern. Melissa bows and says, "Apology agreed." Azrahan opens the door and sees the room is empty. Melissa asks if there is something on the wall, but Azrahan does not answer and says he thinks he was mistaken. Melissa tells him he is too alert right now and should continue walking upstairs. However, unknowingly to them, our girl is actually standing there using stealth, so they cannot see her. Lariette covers her mouth and thinks she should not have come, and that she only used stealth to get here so no one would get in the way. She then recalls Azrahan saying that the one thing he hates is lying. She thinks she never lied, and that he has seen many things in the house and is used to it. She also thinks she found out that Gerard has been following her around to protect her. She continues thinking she is not hiding anything, and she cannot tell him the truth if he asks about it. She wonders why she is so shaken, even though none of this is a big deal. She then recalls them saying they will keep protecting her for a reason, and she does not need to know stealth. Our girl then thinks their contract is almost over, and she may have missed something. She wonders if asking Azrahan will affect their relationship and says she does not want to ask him. She feels she has done well ignoring Azrahan's violence and strange obsession with her until now, and she thinks she just needs to hold on until the 3 months are over. I did not expect this to feel so heavy. The next day, Lariette is about to cut her food when Azrahan calls her name. Azrahan then tells her about the relationship between the Belgian kingdom and the Empire, saying it has become worse. Our girl responds that Genevieve already told her, and she explains that the cost of jewels made only in Belgium has risen because the relationship has affected trade routes. Lariette tries to speak again and says Azrahan, but before she finishes, Azrahan interrupts her, saying he has been commanded to join the war. The knife then falls from Lariette's hand. She clenches her cloth and says these horrible people, who do they think they are? And why must they do this to someone who is finally enjoying peace? She says it is the Emperor's fault that the relationship worsened, so it is not fair to push the responsibility onto someone else. Azrahan smiles, and Lariette asks how he can smile right now. Azrahan replies that he is sorry and that he has never had anyone worry about him before, so it feels very nice. Lariette then thinks of a war when he is leaving. She wishes he could stay until she is gone, worries he may get hurt or attacked, and silently hopes he does not join the war. Azrahan then touches her cheek and says it is a small war, unlike the ones he fought before. He explains that when he was younger, he had no reason to live, no family waiting for him, and he lived in blood every day without caring if he died. He says he only lived because he was alive. Then he kneels and says, there is someone he must come back to this time, and a reason he must leave. Azrahan thinks that the reason is Lariette, and that she is his life and everything. He then hugs her and says she is whom he must come back to. I can feel the tension in my chest. Lariette is sitting with her friends and sipping tea when Saria speaks up and says to our girl that last time she demanded something unreasonably, and she sincerely apologizes. Lariette responds that she accepts the apology. Our girl then thinks to herself that Elizabeth's apology will not come to pass. At the same time, Saria also thinks in her mind that Elizabeth voluntarily gave it to her so easily, so much, that she becomes somewhat complacent about the commoner topic. Then, Genevieve claps her hand and says that if conditions permit, they should buy jewelry or gemstones, even if the price is a bit high compared to necessity. Juana then asks why. And Elizabeth also speaks up and says, "Indeed, here is this matter." Juana then speaks up again and says at least they should tell her the reason. Saria sits there thinking they do not realize she is angry and wants to be pampered, but instead they are doing this, which is very annoying and frustrating. However, the butler comes and tells Lariat that Duke Candel has arrived and that he instructed them to take time because he will wait. Our girl then tells her friends that she is sorry and has to leave first. Just then, Saria stands up quickly and says, "Excuse me, she knew it." Everyone becomes shocked. Juana speaks up, saying she knows about Saria and that she cannot have it all, and that she has no desire to see it. Elizabeth then thinks in her mind that a royal lady becomes more cautious after being used by the upper class, and she has not made any serious mistakes yet. Elizabeth then speaks up, saying she will talk to Saria more next time, and that it is a pity for everyone. Then she says to Lariat that she will take her there and they should go. Lariat responds with a smile and says, "All right." Azrahan is waiting outside for Lariat when Saria suddenly runs toward him and shouts, "Duke Candel." Azrahan becomes shocked. Saria reaches him and touches his coat, thinking in her mind that if a commoner refuses her Genevieve and behaves rudely, she no longer needs to keep etiquette. Genevieve also speaks to Azrahan, saying she remembers him, and Saria tells him she remembers him as well. Saria then thinks in her mind that it is not possible for someone to reject her because she is too beautiful. Saria speaks out and asks if Azrahan also remembers her, and she says she really wanted to see him again, so she asked through Lariat, but she was rejected. She says it seems he was very content, and she thinks everything is like this. She also thinks their relationship is not what it seems because she is a commoner and cannot meet him, and she believes they cannot proceed with the wedding. She thinks she should not interfere with his fiancée, and wonders whether the relationship has broken off. If he wants to see her again, she thinks he should cut it off quickly. Then Azrahan pushes her hand away and says, everything is meaningless and he does not understand what she is thinking. He says Lariat is not a commoner, and he questions what she is thinking by treating a royal princess like a subordinate. Saria hears this, and her eyes widen, and she thinks that Lariat is the sole princess of the Empire and the princess of the Blanche. Azrahan then says that even if Lariat's status is just that of a commoner, he never thought about cutting off the relationship, and they will meet again if she wants. If Saria continues speaking nonsense, he will cut her tongue, and she should not foolishly call his name like that. He gives her a cold look. Saria trembles and calls him a demon and pure devil. Azrahan stretches his hand toward her, but she falls to the ground. Elizabeth arrives, rushes to Saria, and apologizes on her behalf, asking him to forgive her. Saria, on the ground, thinks in her mind that as a duke, he still behaves in a despicable way while looking at Elizabeth. Azrahan then says to take her away from his sight. Just then, he becomes startled and says he did see something. Our girl is watching what happens between Saria and Azrahan, and she thinks to herself that she is very angry about Saria's actions. She then begins thinking as she hears Azrahan say he wants to be with her forever. Then she recalls that their relationship was only a 3-month contract. She thinks in her mind if it is a dating contract and says she thought he also agreed to it. She then remembers different intimate moments with Azrahan. She continues to think they enjoyed each other for about 3 months and that they would part cleanly without regrets. She thinks she has been misunderstanding everything and carrying Azrahan in her heart without hesitation. Saria is in another scene, trembling and thinking to herself that she has done nothing wrong. She wonders if it is a misunderstanding, and asks if it will become so cruel that others are treated this way. She continues thinking about how someone could swing a knife at her like that and clenches her teeth. Back to Lariat, she is grasping for breath. In another scene, Doha stands alone and begins recalling words from Geralvo saying he is no different from his mother. Doha then thinks about how Geralvo knows his mother and feels strange about it. He thinks Geralvo has been different since birth, and they only met after entering the palace. He cannot find any real trace of his mother, even after the investigation. He remembers that reports about his mother don't match what he knows, and they stopped for months. He feels worried about Geralvo's words and thinks he must go see for himself, then decides there is no need. Doha then suddenly shouts, "Mother, mother," and remembers when he was young and cried to his mother, begging her not to leave him and saying he would obey everything, make money, and do anything if she stayed. I feel like everything is connected in a painful way. Doha opens his eyes and sees Lariat right in front of him. She asks him where it hurts, but he replies that he was just thinking about something else. He then asks her why she ran there. Doha thinks to himself that there is no need for protection. Lariat then asks Doha for help and explains everything to him, saying it is surely better to tell the truth, and that she thought it was just a 3-month date. Our girl then thinks in her mind that concerning the truth is limited by time and talking about it is not for Azrahan, and she is the same, and loving Azrahan does not go that far. Just like that, and that is all. She repeats in her mind again that concerning the truth is limited by time. She also thinks that before love gets deeper, a clean break is right, even if it cannot be mended, and that in 3 months it is meaningless. Doha tells Lariat that if they continue meeting, it is not possible, and he says he is definitely going on a trip. He then tells her that he worries about her too much and that if he had known she and Duke Candel had been betrayed, he would not have just sat idly by. He stretches out his hand and touches Lariat's hand and tells her that if something happens, she should let him know and he will come to help. Our girl looks down, saying nothing. As Lariat walks outside, she thinks her head will explode. The speed is too fast, and maybe it has been a long time since she used it, and mana consumption is higher than she thought. Just when we think things are normal, Lariat suddenly feels someone behind her and turns around. Derwin appears and says it is really her, and tells her to go quietly with him. He then uses a handkerchief to cover her mouth. I definitely did not see that coming. Derwin tries to cover Lariat's mouth with a handkerchief, but she quickly uses her magic on him and he dodges it. Our girl then looks at him and tells him to get lost. Derwin's eyes widened after seeing this. Lariat thinks that this situation does not look very promising and that even trying to maintain her form makes it hard to win. Derwin then speaks out and says he has no intention of harming her and asks her to return together in peace. Our girl thinks to herself that she is not at all interested. Lariat remembers Doha telling her that if she does not attack with the intent to kill, she will lose her life. She then thinks Doha is absolutely right and that this is the perfect moment to defeat others to protect herself. Derwin then rushes at her with a knife and says she is stronger than he thought and he might fall for her. Our girl fights back and creates a large hole on the floor. She then uses her magic to bring out tree branches to hold him. Derwin smiles evilly and says she is knowledgeable in magic and elements, which is impressive but still too inexperienced. He thinks in his mind that she will never defeat him. He then cuts himself free from the branches. As a result, Lariat starts shouting for help and asking if anyone is there. She thinks in her mind that there is not even a single soul, and something is wrong, like the place was created for a specific purpose. Derwin finally breaks free and says he likes strong women like her. He then walks around searching for her and calls her his dear princess while asking where she is. Where is Gerard when we need him, huh? Lariat is hiding while Derwin continues speaking. He says he would never have the princess, but the issues concerning the Blanche succession are making him interested. He then says, "Oh, are you startled now?" Lariat hears everything and thinks it is ridiculous. She thinks the temple is near, so once he leaves, she will run there and get help. But Derwin finds her, says he has, and calls it destiny. He stands in front of her and tells her it is okay. And everything is okay, my princess. Later that night, our girl was captured and placed in chains. She thinks in her mind that this time she must reclaim her manners and that Derwin caused all of this. She wonders what she did wrong and remembers them saying they would fulfill her every wish before leaving. She asks why they did not just leave her alone and why. Then the prison gates open, and Derwin comes in and asks if she is hurt anywhere. She asks who ordered him to do this and says it must be the Duke of Blanche. He says she does not even call him her father and says he is not a good father. Our girl realizes he was behind everything. Derwin says she knew all along and tells her to go with him, saying it is good that she still resists strongly in a place like this. She shouts, asking why he does not go to the Blanche Palace, and says that if he does not go there, Candel will capture him. Derwin says he needs a new place where he can be alone. Our girl calls it nonsense, and he touches her face and says he wants to propose something to her, asking her to leave with him and live together happily and raise children. Lariat punches him and blood appears on her hands. She rushes to grab the key and calls him crazy while trying to open the door. As she says it is done, Derwin appears behind her and stretches his hand toward her. Derwin drags Lariat's hand and says he told her so. Lariat is dragged and shouts for him to let her go and not touch her. She then falls to the ground. Derwin says the princess keeps trying to escape and says she knows there is no other way. He then brings out his sword and cuts her leg. Our girl scratches the ground in pain, thinking it hurts and that she misses Azrahan, and misses him deeply. At the manor, Azrahan is walking alone in a corridor, thinking to himself that Lariat has been acting strangely lately, and he has a very strange feeling. He wonders if he made a mistake and if he is scared. Gerard then appears behind him and shouts that the girl seems to have decided to leave the mansion, and that he searched everywhere she might go, but she was not found. Azrahan hears this and his eyes widen. He thinks in his mind that if she is not in those places, she may have been taken to the Blanche, and wonders if Duke Blanche kidnapped Lariat. Azrahan then tells Gerard to go to the Blanche estate. Azrahan thinks in his mind that he already has enough reason to take down Blanche and that he should have done it immediately. As a result, they arrive at the Blanche estate, and Duke Blanche shouts at Azrahan and asks what he is talking about, and says Azrahan already took Lariat away. Or maybe she escaped, and that is why he is causing trouble. He then asks where the girl ran off to again. Azrahan thinks to himself that, judging by the reaction, it is probably not him. Duke Blanche then says Azrahan cannot do this, and that the house is being turned upside down without apology. Azrahan responds that the matter has nothing to do with him. Duke Blanche then recalls telling Derwin to hand Lariat over, whether she is dead or alive, and wonders if Azrahan found out something. Azrahan then tells Gerard to retreat, and Gerard agrees. Gerard and Azrahan return to the carriage while the Duke is thinking that everything is not going his way, and he is angry and confused. Later, Azrahan continues a serious search for Lariette with other people. Azrahan thinks to himself that Lariette may have left him and that she has been acting differently lately. He wonders if she ran away because she could not stand him and went somewhere he couldn't find her. He thinks even if she left because she did not like him, it does not change anything, and he cannot abandon her. He says to himself that she knows that very well, so that is why she disappeared without saying a word. He thinks no matter where she is, it does not matter, and he will not give up. Then Gerard comes and says they found traces toward the old town, and they need to confirm it again. Azrahan then thinks he will definitely find Lariette. Back in the prison, Derwin speaks to our girl and says the princess is a witch and asks if it does not matter even if she loses a leg. He tells her she must choose. She hears this and tears fall from her eyes. He picks up a strand of her hair and smells it, then tells her she will either lose both legs and be dragged away or heal his leg and live happily with him. Our girl thinks in her mind that the only way is to destroy the mana, but she has no mana left. She thinks even if she fights him, she cannot win because she has no power. She wonders if she can escape with her legs and thinks she must survive and return to tell Azrahan everything. She also thinks she must cleanse the cause and bring a happy future. And she imagines Azrahan before her and promises herself in her mind that she will come back for him. Just then, the prison door suddenly bangs open and Derwin shouts, "Intruder!" He tells Lariette to hide. He then says how the intruder came here and realizes she was spreading mana along the way. He grabs Lariette by the neck and starts strangling her, saying she thinks she can live happily with him, but she has been spreading mana and is very powerful, and he says she is his. He continues strangling her and says the bad guy is about to appear. Just then, Azrahan appears with a sword and calls out Lariette's name. Finally, Azrahan is here. He can definitely save Lariette. Derwin holds Lariette by the neck while Azrahan sees them and notices Lariette's injury, and his eyes become dark. He shouts her name again and again. Derwin speaks, says he has found them, calls Azrahan the ghost of the battlefield on a glorious white horse, and then laughs. Azrahan becomes angrier and tells him to let her go. Derwin smiles and tells him to calm down and stay still if he wants her saved. Then Derwin whispers to Lariette's ear and tells her that if she speaks to him, he will not hurt her. Azrahan asks what Derwin wants. Derwin replies that Azrahan must order his knight to stand back. On hearing this, Azrahan immediately tells Gerard, and Gerard bows and agrees, and all guards step back. Gerard looks at Azrahan once more. Azrahan then tells Derwin that if he wants to leave safely, he must let go of Lariette. Derwin asks how he can trust him. Our girl then shouts for Azrahan to leave, telling him he must go. At this point, Azrahan is tied up by Derwin's guards and is on the ground. Azrahan tells Derwin he will not hold back if Lariette is hurt. Derwin says Azrahan should worry about himself first and says it is a good view looking down at him. Our girl is in tears and shouts to Azrahan to go back and says everything is her fault. She thinks in her mind that everything is her fault because of her life, her family, the arranged relationship, and because she got kidnapped and caused Azrahan to suffer. She then shouts again for Azrahan to leave. Derwin tells Azrahan he can cut off one arm and says if Azrahan swings his sword, he might accidentally stab Lariette. Lariette thinks in her mind while trembling why Azrahan is not moving, and looks at him, and wonders if he is giving up his arm to protect her. She thinks only a fool would do such a thing. Then a knife is brought close to Azrahan's arm, and it is about to be cut. Oh no, I really can't look at this. Lariette is thinking in her mind that everything is for her sake, and she wonders why she is so much, and why she is resenting Azrahan so much. She asks herself if it is because he is willing to give his life so easily, or because he does not listen to her. She then thinks no, that is not it, and realizes it is because she loves him. She is angry because he does not value what she loves and because he chooses to sacrifice his life so easily for a girl who is going to die anyway. She wonders if she does the same, if he would be mad or resent her, and she hopes he would not. As a result, Lariette picks up the knife and stabs herself. Before falling, she says to Azrahan, "I'm sorry," and she drops to the ground. She thinks in her mind not to get mad because her time was already up anyway. Azrahan then dashes toward her, breaks free by cutting the rope, and runs to her. Lariette continues thinking while lying on the floor that she ignored his violent side, pretended not to see how things were going, hid that her time was up, and kept telling herself she did not love him because she was in love with him. She kept wanting something she did not deserve. Azrahan holds Lariette in his arms while trembling and crying her name. Lariette continues thinking in her last moments that she stopped herself from loving him so he would not love her back, and she feels she already knew this would happen. Furthermore, Azrahan thinks in his mind about what he should have done and what he could have done to protect her. He wonders if he should have let her go and if this happened because someone like him wanted something he did not deserve. He then thinks he could never let her go. At that moment, Azrahan's knight rushes and pins Derwin down with the sword. Azrahan continues thinking that it is too late to return to when he did not know her, and that Lariat is his lover, his savior, his Lariat. This is definitely true love. Moreover, the knight puts a sword around Derwin's neck, and Derwin shouts, asking what they are doing, and tells them to kill Azrahan. The guards do not respond and hesitate. Azrahan then speaks and says he gave them the chance to save their lives, but they chose to die. He picks up his sword and dashes forward, cutting through all the guards in seconds and defeating them completely. Derwin, still pinned down, thinks in his mind that Azrahan is a monster who destroyed all his men so fast, and that his power is beyond human and impossible. Azrahan drops his sword and walks to Lariat, lifting her into his arms and calling her name. The bracelet on Lariat's arm suddenly begins to flash. Azrahan thinks in his mind that it is the gift given by Doha, and remembers it is an enchanted divine magic meant for her health. Seeing the glowing bracelet, he thinks if he cannot save her, he will make a deal with the devil without hesitation. At that moment, Doha appears in front of him, and Azrahan begs him to save Lariat. Azrahan says he does not care who Doha really is, what he used on the bracelet, or what feelings he has for Lariat, and he pleads for him to save her. As a result, Doha looks at the scene and feels a frightening sense of understanding. He then goes closer and tells Azrahan not to misunderstand, saying he is doing this for himself, not for him. Doha touches Lariat and begins using his magic on her. He then thinks in his mind that he did not keep her close because he was afraid of putting her in danger. Honestly, I feel like everything is hanging between life and death now, and this moment feels like a final chance. Doha speaks, saying that if things are going to end up like this anyway, he could just keep Lariat by his side. He then tells Azrahan that he has one thing to ask, and that is not to tell Lariat who he really is. Azrahan responds that this is all he needs. Doha repeats that Azrahan must not tell Lariat who he really is, and says there is nothing else he needs from him. After finishing healing Lariat, Doha walks away. Azrahan watches him leave and thinks in his mind that Doha needs nothing else from him. Some days later, our girl finally wakes up and slowly opens her eyes in a room. She thinks to herself that she is alive and wonders why and how. She feels relieved, but also thinks she will not live much longer. Just then, she hears Azrahan call her name. Azrahan then asks her why she did that and says he thought he would lose her. She asks how she is alive and if he is hurt. Azrahan replies that he called a reverend to help her, and that her deacon friend arrived after receiving Candle's call, and that she survived because of him. As a result, Lariat thinks in her mind about Doha, and wonders how he healed her when he was only a deacon. Azrahan then asks her again why she did such a thing, and says it was very terrifying for him. He trembles while touching her and says that during every moment of waiting, he was praying for her to wake up. He then leans on her and says he blamed himself, and wonders what he should have done to keep her safe, and how painful it was that he could not save her. Our girl begins feeling dizzy and nauseous and thinks in her mind that her heart feels like it will burst, and she may not have much time left. Azrahan tells Lariat that if she dies, he will not be able to live without her. Lariat then thinks to herself that she must purify Azrahan's curse and end everything, and she feels he means everything to her, that she loves him, and that he is her only regret. Lariat then tells Azrahan that she will never die before him. She continues thinking, seeing his tears, that this is the last time she will lie to him, and asks him to forgive her. The servants in the Blanche mansion are murmuring, and someone says Duke Blanche killed his own family. Another person says it is unbelievable, but not surprising, because he was already corrupt. Someone else says they heard Duke Candle himself stepped in and called him a monster of a duke. Another person says it seems Blanche is over now. They wonder what will happen to the House of Blanche after Duke Blanche is arrested, since even Lord Ryan is bedridden, and there are no other successors. They say there is no point in working for a fallen family, and they should find new work quickly. As the servants and workers keep talking, the Duchess of Blanche is in tears. They continue murmuring that getting on Duke Candel's bad side can destroy even a ducal family. They also wonder if the family can still stand if the inside branch becomes the main branch. Another servant says probably not, and that the House of Blanche is over. In another scene, Doha enters Lord Ryan's room through the window. Lord Ryan begins shaking in fear when he sees him. Doha tells him that he warned him before, and says if he ever lays another finger on Lariat, he will die that day. Lord Ryan cries out, says it was not him, and blames someone else, calling her a problem and saying everything is her fault and unfair. Doha becomes furious and calls them new filthy nobles. He steps on Lord Ryan's chest and says they do things without taking responsibility, but act proud and look down on others while not seeing their own downfall. He says they should see how far they can fall themselves. As a result, Doha says 1 week and tells Lord Ryan he has about that long until his body explodes. He then brings his face close and tells him to smile, and says it is better to die than to live on the street. Moreover, back at Azrahan's house, Lariat tells Azrahan that this is the last step of the purification. Azrahan says he is not completely healed yet, but Lariat responds that he is already fully better. Azrahan tries to speak again, but Lariat interrupts him and says he does not have much time before he goes to war. She says no one knows how long the war will last, so they must finish the purification before he leaves. Azrahan hesitates, thinking that she is putting up a wall again. Our girl begins the purification, completes it, and then tells Azrahan that it is done and that he is free from the curse. Azrahan looks at her and thinks in his mind that something has changed about her, and he is no longer a monster. He thinks the smell of rotting flesh and the fear of death in his mind no longer haunts him. He accepts that it is fine if she treats him differently, or blames him for being helpless when she was in danger, as long as she stays by his side. He holds her hand and thinks he will accept whatever feelings she has for him. As a result, Azrahan tells Lariat that he will return from the war as soon as he can, and when he returns, they should go on a trip. He then remembers that Lariat had once said they should go on a trip after the purification. Lariat hears this and begins to tremble. Doha shows up at the manor. He is with Lariat and asks her to let him come with her. He holds her hand and tells her to take him with her. Our girl responds that he is a reverend and that the temple needs him, but she thanks him. Doha still holds her hand and says the temple was dirtier than he thought, and he is tired of it all and plans to resign soon. Lariat still thanks him for all his help, for treating her, and for teaching her magic. She then removes her hand from his hand and says she is glad he was her first friend. She thinks in her mind that she had so much fun because of him and says goodbye and thank you and tells him she will see him again. Doha responds that he will see her again, Lariat. Now Erzbeth is with Lariat and hugs her, asking if she is feeling better and saying she heard the news and did not know Blanche would do such a thing, and says she must have been terrified alone. Lariat looks around and asks where Seria is. Juana responds that they grew apart because of something that happened some time ago. Juana then recalls past events in which Erzbeth told Seria she could no longer tolerate her rude behavior, and Seria replied the same, and they were all called misfits. Juana also remembers Seria begging to be taken back in because she had no other friends, and Erzbeth saying she had friends and she was no longer theirs. Juana thinks in her mind that it is too embarrassing to explain. As a result, Erzbeth holds Lariat's shoulder and apologizes, saying she should have been firmer with Seria. Lariat says it is all right. Lariat then tells them she came to say something important. She says Azrahan will go to war tomorrow, so she plans to go on a trip alone and will not return for a long time. Genevieve asks what she will wear, and Juana asks how she will travel, warning her not to go anywhere unsafe. Genevieve also shows a hat that blocks sunlight. Lariat then tells Erzbeth she wants to recommend a mage before she leaves, named Joel, and she also mentions her maid Anna, who is very good. She is trying to leave everything behind quietly. A silent goodbye is even more painful. At night, Lariat is lying on the bed with Azrahan. She sits up and looks at him while he sleeps. She thinks in her mind that she never expected things to turn out like this, and if she had known she would fall in love with him, she would never have started it. She thinks she should never have fallen in love with him. She then presses her fingers against his lips while he sleeps. She continues thinking that she does not want to go. The next day, Azrahan's things are being loaded into a carriage for war. A knight says they cannot load any more items and asks if the ammo has been packed. Our girl tells them to separate the food from the other loads so it does not get smashed. Azrahan then calls Lariat's name. He is dressed in armor and calls her again. She turns and smiles at him and says he looks great in armor too. She comes closer and tells him everything is loaded, and only the carriage is left and he should hurry. She tells him to come back safe and not get hurt. Azrahan tells her he will not take long. He thinks in his mind that maybe she has been acting differently because she had to send him to war, and he believes it will be fine when he returns quickly. He then tells Lariat he loves her. Our girl responds that she loves him too. She thinks in her mind that this may be the last time she sees him before she dies, and she is glad he looks happy. Then, Azrahan climbs onto his horse and looks back at Lariat as he rides away. Lariat watches him and thinks that Azrahan has left, and now she must leave him too. She writes a letter saying she is leaving after their contract ends, thanking him for their time together and for his faithful work under the contract, but says hearing "I love you" made her uncomfortable. Halstein then comes into the room looking for Lariat, but does not see her. He finds her jewelry and a letter. He reads another note asking him to give the letter to Azrahan after the war ends. The letter says thank you to Halstein and asks that Azrahan not come looking for her, as they were only under a contract. She hopes it does not happen, as it would make her uncomfortable, and wishes them happiness. Lariat is inside a forest. She is holding her jewelry tightly and sitting on the ground. Now, in a city near Yurta's capital, two men are talking. One of them says, "She is back. She is back." They whisper together. The other man says she is the one who drinks coffee alone every day in silence, and she always reads the newspaper like she is waiting for someone. She does not answer even when people speak to her. Lariat reads the newspaper in her mind and sees that it says, "The defeat of the Belgian kingdom." The war is likely going to end soon because Duke Candel leads the empire to victory, and House Blanche is completely collapsed. She drops the newspaper, stands up fast, and runs while crying. The men watch her and say, "What did she read?" Did the newspaper make her cry? As our girl runs, she thinks Azarhan wins the war. She needs to know if he is healthy. She just wants to see him from afar and see his face. She quickly packs her clothes into her luggage. She keeps folding and packing while thinking she is not herself, Lariette Blanche. Why is she still alive? Doha may have extended her life a little using his divine power, but she should be dead by now. If only she had a bit more time. She also tells herself she should dye her hair before she goes, check her health again, see how her family is doing, and visit the Candle Manor as well. In the next scene, Lariette meets a doctor in the capital. The doctor tells her it is a misdiagnosis and she is not going to die. She asks what a misdiagnosis means and how the doctor could get something like that wrong. The doctor explains she really had Rokardura disease a few months ago. She freezes when she hears this. The doctor then asks her not to report him, saying what matters is that going to live. Lariette does not answer him. She just stands up and walks away. She thinks about where she is supposed to go now. Home. Then she decides to go home. I'm really happy that the disease is gone. Moreover, Lariette returns home and finds many people gathered, all wearing black. Some of them say the House Blanche is in big trouble. They say the successor has died and the Duke is executed. Inside, she also sees Ryan in a casket. People keep whispering that the daughter is missing and nowhere to be found, and that is why the tragedy has fully hit the family. A family member speaks to the Duchess of Blanche, telling her she must stay strong because she is the only one who can handle the remaining family matters. Lariette hears all of this and thinks Ryan also had Rokardura disease, but he died while she survived, and it was a misdiagnosis, so she was healed. She wonders if it was Doha, but she thinks that is not possible because he is just a regular priest. As she stands there, she hears more talk about her hiding, and people say the Marquess Segreve is out to get her and wants revenge. They say he will cut off Lady Lariette's arm and sell her as a slave. They also say Duke Kendall ordered his knights to find her by any means, and that he is also very dangerous. People laugh and talk about revenge. Lariette thinks she has nowhere to go and does not know where she should be. This is getting worse than I expected. As Lariette walks away, people continue gossiping, saying Marquess Segreve is desperate for revenge and searching hard for Lady Lariette while Duke Kendall is away. They repeat that he will cut her arm and sell her. And others say they heard the same thing from different sides, all talking about revenge and laughing together. At the same time, on a battlefield, Azarhan looks around and thinks in his mind that the battle is over. The last battle is over, and it is not far now. He thinks, wait for me, Lariette. Wow, this is just getting heated. Do you want us to continue? Comment Lariette below for part 5. Until next time, ciao.